In 2059, nuclear radiation engulfed the entire globe. The internet, technology, all works of art died in the flames of panic. Knowledge of information could now only be transmitted by word of mouth. Also, ferocious monsters now appeared on the earth. Mutated animals roam in the fields of nuclear waste, and human civilization has long since collapsed. But there was still a survivor. His blood mixed with rainwater, and in his hands he held a knife tightly. He told the monsters that they were stupid hats. They chased him for 3 days and 3 nights. Do they really want to devour him so badly? In response, the animals opened their mouths, showing him sharp teeth. The guy shouted that let them come then. At one moment the beast approached him and sank its teeth into his body. The guy felt a sharp pain, and then other animals joined in eating his flesh. A bright flash of lightning flashed in the sky and the guy opened his eyes. He woke up in the body of a little boy who was lying in the grass. He suddenly jumped up from the ground and, thinking that the animals were attacking him, told them to get off him. Suddenly he realized that there were no more mutated animals and wondered where he was. He looked at his hands and said that his hands and body had become smaller. He quickly felt his face and realized that his face had also become small. He looked around and thought that Aquamarine had long ago lost its grass fields and forests. Even the blue clear sky was just a story told by the elders. It was definitely not Aquamarine. Maybe he moved to another planet. Suddenly he heard someone's voice saying that he had finally arrived. He turned around sharply and thought that someone was here. On Aquamarine, in order to get the few resources that remained, people constantly killed each other. He is interested in how things are going for people on this planet. Compared to mutated beasts, the human heart can be much more terrible. He picked up a stone from the ground and the man said that he had come. The boy heard this and ran towards the sound. Suddenly he stopped and looked in surprise at 2 people who were standing on water lilies in the middle of the lake. The man told the demon blood ancestor that today he, the perfect Haoxuan, would destroy his body and destroy his soul. The demon blood man said that they were both 3rd stage tribulation cultivators. How can he claim that he will not be the one who sends him to his grave? Haoxuan attacked him and said that he talks too much for a dead man. The man of demon blood stretched his hand forward and said that he was impudent. Suddenly there was a sharp splash and the water rose up due to the man's strength. Haoxuan swung his sword, but the man used the power of water to dodge. The boy watched their fight in surprise and thought that these were the same cultivators that the elders talked about in their stories. This is how he ended up in the world of cultivators. So, here he can cultivate the Tao and achieve immortality. He began to watch the battle again and Haoxuan attacked his enemy. Suddenly stones flew towards the boy and he ran for cover screaming. He ran further through the forest and thought that when immortals fight, mortals suffer. The elders' stories are true. These cultivators can kill him with a wave of their hand if they don't like him. After some time, evening came, the boy caught his breath and came across a house. He crept up to the house and thought that even if he was now in another world, he would not know for sure whether the people here were different from the people on Aquamarine. He opened the gate and thought that he doesn't know whether the people here will see him as a friend or an enemy, nor can he say with certainty that there are no evil eastern creatures here like the mutated beasts from his previous life. He needs to be careful. He stepped over the threshold and saw the temple in front of him. He realized that it turns out that this place was a temple and now he wonders if there are people here. Suddenly he saw the silhouette of a man in the doorway and realized that there was someone here. The old man came out of the temple and asked if he could find out who came. The boy quickly reached for the knife, but suddenly he remembered that he no longer had his knife. Outside, 2 cultivators are fighting violently, and this old man is so calm. Could he be one of those hidden experts from the elders' stories? If he could become this expert's disciple, then in this world infested with cultivators, he would have someone to rely on. He will no longer have to constantly run and hide, eat dirt and scraps in order to survive. He fell to his knees and told the elder that he must be the immortal cultivator from the legends. He asks to be accepted as his student. The old man thought, whose child is this? He seems to be only 7 or 8 years old. Is he talking about cultivation? Did he watch enough TV or something? He asked where his family was. The boy replied that he was an orphan. While they were talking, a fan was working in the temple, but at one moment the blade stopped rotating and the old man noticed this. He thought with disappointment that the power had been turned off again, but this was not such a big problem since it was almost night and it would not be so hot. The boy noticed that the energy emitted by this expert had weakened. Looks like he won't kill him now, but will he take him as a disciple? He doesn't know if this world is safer than Aquamarine. He must be strong and try his best to stay here, otherwise, with his current child's body, he won't last a day. He bowed down to the old man even more and said that he wanted to learn his art. In exchange he can do anything for him. He hopes he will accept his sincerity. The elder replied that he liked to be carefree and unencumbered by the world. However, seeing his sincerity, he may consider it fate to meet him here, so he thinks he will teach him a few moves. The boy was happy and thanked his teacher. The elder headed back to the temple and asked what his name was. The boy replied that his name was Liu Mo. The old man thought that this was normal. It was already getting dark, so he couldn't drive him away. He can just watch him until his parents come to get him. Liu Mo asked how he could contact him. The old man replied that his Dao name was Perfect Xuanyang. Liu Mo said the teacher's name sounds so strong. After a while they sat in the forest and meditated. Liu Mo told the teacher that he had been practicing this position for over a month. When would he teach him any skills? Xuanyang became worried and thought that he had asked this question again. He replied that he had already told him that only when he mastered the breathing technique and collected his first reserve of spiritual Kai would he teach him the technique. He thought that he was not capable of this, so what could he teach him? Liu Mo showed him the blue Kai clot on his hand and said that he had already mastered the breathing technique and collected his first stream of spiritual power. Moreover, even without the breathing technique, he can feel his spiritual Kai increasing. Xuanyang thought dumbfounded, what the hell? He simply taught him some healing techniques that he saw on the internet. How did he even manage to form spiritual Kai? He has been practicing these techniques all his life, then why can't he produce Kai? But now that it's come to this, he can't just brush the child off with his words. Why doesn't he give back the 2 books he picked up? Maybe this will distract him for a while. He gave him a book about pills and the heavenly void breathing technique, and Liu Mo asked the teacher, is he really giving him these 2 secret techniques? The teacher confirmed his words and said that everything he could teach him was in these 2 books. The rest depends on how much he can comprehend. Liu Mo hugged him and thanked him, after which Xuanyang patted his head and thought that so much time had passed, but still no one had come for him. He probably didn't lie about being an orphan. He thinks it is also fortunate for him that he has a companion in the last few years of his life. This child is also simple and naive. Before he leaves this world, he hopes that he can become a mature and smart child. 10 years later, Liu Mo came to the rock where his teacher's grave was located. He said that after his passing 2 years later, his student trained hard every day. Today it has reached the congenital stage. He will come down from the mountain to continue his studies. He is here to pay tribute to the teacher. He looked at the ring on his hand and said that he told him that this jade ring was an important item left behind by a heavenly immortal. His student will take good care of it. The battle 10 years ago between these 2 cultivators was still vivid in his memory. There were still plenty of strong experts in this world. In general, he is very scared to leave this place. Even his innate stage cultivation cannot guarantee his safety. He jumped and thought that if he wanted to live peacefully in this cultivator world, his only way was to become an expert himself. 3 minutes later, he jumped to the city and found himself in the vicinity of the heavenly city. At this time, in the computer club, some guy was playing a game and admired Little Ninny. Little Ninny happily flew through the air using her sword, but suddenly a huge phoenix appeared in front of her and wanted to attack her. Little Ninny summoned her sword and cut the phoenix into pieces. All this time, Liu Mo was watching the guy play. He thought that in order to be able to fly on a sword, the lowest cultivation requirement is to form a foundation. And if he wants to maneuver it like that little girl, he needs to at least be at the golden core stage. If he looks at the light purity of this sword, he can see that it should already be at the innate stage. He was still playing in the mud at 6, and this girl is already riding a sword and destroying demons. He grabbed his head and said that this world is so terrifying. He was too rash to come down the mountain with his pitiful innate stage cultivation. A girl appeared behind him and said that he had been standing here for a while. Would he like to use their computers? Liu Mo asked, computers. He pointed to Little Ninny and asked if there were many experts like this little girl. She asked, is he talking about the little fairy Ninny? There are a lot of people like her. In their day, people like her are everywhere. Liu Mo became worried and thought that the world away from the mountain was infested with experts. He needs to be careful not to offend anyone, otherwise they will kill him, just like in all the stories of the elders. The girl said that the fees in their establishments are very cheap, and the internet is also very fast. They also have a library of the most popular applications and sites. He can find whatever he wants here. Liu Mo repeated with interest, can he find anything he wants? Then he would like to try. The girl asked if he could show his ID. She blushed and thought that this guy was a little slow, but he was so handsome. She'll just look at his address when she registers it, and maybe she'll run into him later. Liu Mo asked in fear, ID. He thought, what is this? Is this something that every cultivator in this world has? The girl asked if he didn't have an ID. Liu Mo upsetly confirmed her words, and the girl said that this is normal, but the fee will be higher, 20 yuan for 2 hours. After that, Liu Mo handed her the money and agreed. She led him to the computer and told him that this room was more hidden, so he could stay here. If later someone comes looking for his ID, let him be smarter, don't expose himself and don't create problems for her. He thanked her and asked how he should use this thing. She smiled and thought, is he serious? He wants to act out that he doesn't know how to use a computer to get closer to her. Well, since he looks so good, she won't expose him. 10 minutes later, he was already deftly typing on the keyboard, and the girl said that now he should be able to use the computer on his own. Let him just call her if he needs anything else. She left and he decided to take a look at what cultivators were capable of. He wrote Immortal Emperor in the search bar and several queries about cultivation trainers and several others popped up in front of him. Since I am an immortal, my child began cultivating for 3 years. Immortal at 10 years old, will you die at the start? I was originally a villain, but during the apocalypse I achieved enlightenment and ascended. Liu Mo thought, are there really so many strong people in this world? He clicked on the very first link and turned on the video. Lightning thundered and passed through the body of the pumped up man and he said that grief is just the beginning. After watching this video, Liu Mo exclaimed that an innate like him is just a non-entity. If he continues to run like this, sooner or later he will be sneezed to death by a real expert. Well, what should he do? Does he need to go back and cultivate on the mountain again? But it will be too slow. Cultivation is as difficult as ascending to heaven. He used to be taught by a teacher, but now he is gone. Suddenly he realized that since the teacher died, he could find a replacement for him. Since everyone is sharing their cultivation successes online, maybe he can find someone willing to give him some advice. That girl previously said that there are many experts on the TalkTalk app, so he should try this first. He entered the application and saw many other experts in front of him. He said with admiration that there are truly many powerful people here. There are even a lot of people here who express their own opinions. It's so convenient. He set up the camera and said that he would take a video and maybe someone could give him some advice. He logged into his account, moved away from the computer and stood in front of the camera. He dusted off his clothes, took a deep breath and began to concentrate. He made several movements with his hands and a flow of Kai followed. He raised his hand and a sword began to materialize in his hand, after which he swung the sword several times, lunged forward and began to finish. His flow of Kai began to decrease and then even more. He looked into the camera and asked respected experts if he could ask them to evaluate his Kai flow and give him advice on how to improve it. Then he asked if it was too late to start cultivating for 8 years. He finished filming the video and sat down at the computer again, wondering if anyone would watch his video. Maybe they can give him some advice. Suddenly he received a notification about a comment. The girl wrote that she had just overcome grief. 8 years is really too late to start cultivating, but she can give him some advice. Liu Mo was surprised that someone answered him. Some time ago at the company office, the man told Dahlia that they were checking the internet. They would start the stream in 10 minutes. At that time she was sitting on a chair and looking at the phone. On her screen, cultivator Hao Xuan appeared, telling the demon blood ancestor that today would be his last. He, the perfect Hao Xuan, will destroy his body and destroy his soul. In response, the demon blood ancestor said that he was impudent and they began to fight. Dahlia said that 10 years ago she loved watching this series, but if she takes a closer look, be it the acting or the special effects, both are a little lacking. A girl came up to her and asked if she watched it too. She remembers that in those days they didn't have any computers to help them, so they detonated several hundred kilograms of explosives to get the best effect. Many of the special effects in this series were performed in reality. At one time this series was considered a phenomenal hit. Dahlia asked, wasn't she only 7 or 8 years old 10 years ago? How does she know all this? She laughed and said that she learned about it from her elders. She scrolled through a few videos on TalkTalk and came across a man in a suit who was talking about 30-year-old Hedong and 30-year-old Hexi. They shouldn't offend poor young people. After watching this video, Dahlia asked, what is this? He was overpraised. The girl laughed and Dahlia scrolled through several videos again. She came across a video of Liu Mo and the girl said he was quite handsome. Liu Mo started showing his Kai on camera and the girl said that his special effects looked amazing. The sword looks like it's actually floating. Dahlia said it was really good. At the end of the video, Liu Mo asked respected experts if he could ask them to evaluate his Kai flow and give him advice. And, if possible, advice on how he can improve this. By the way, isn't it too late to start cultivating for 8 years? The girl and Dahlia simultaneously asked, should I start cultivating for 8 years? Dahlia smiled and said it was interesting. His acting is also quite good. She even believed him for a moment. She liked his video and left a comment. A company employee told her that the stream was about to start. She could already be approaching the camera. She gave the girl her phone and told her to hold it. She asked, did she really answer him? She knows how many views this will allow him to get, right? Dahlia winked at her and asked her to help her keep an eye on him. She wants to know if he has any more tricks up his sleeve. At this time, Liu Mo was surprised that an expert actually answered him. At this time, one of Dahlia's subscribers watched Liu Mo's video and said that she actually replied to some random guy. He wonders who this lucky guy is. Another subscriber said that any video that gets a like from his waifu must also be wonderful. Another follower showed the video to the woman and told her to look at it. Dahlia liked and commented on this guy's video. She asked who this is. At this time, Liu Mo's video began to gain views and comments at a high speed, and he said in surprise that there were so many responses. He doesn't think he can read all of them. He started reading comments about how he was so handsome and his acting seemed realistic and his special effects were so smooth. Liu Mo frowned and suddenly blushed and thought that they were saying he was handsome. He wondered, is he handsome? He probably looks good after entering this world. However, what are special effects, and also flaws? Do they talk about shortcomings in his Kai? At this time, some guy watched his video and asked, is that all? He must be a professional pretending to be a newbie to get more views. He started cultivating at 8 years old. He started collecting Kai at 3 years old. Let him watch him shut him up. He started writing comments and Liu Mo noticed it. A user under the nickname Handsomely wrote him a comment that this was impossible. Is there anyone who only started cultivating at 8? He formed his spiritual Kai at 3 years old, built his foundation at 5 years old, reached the innate stage at 7 years old, and spirit transformation at 10 years old. Even then he was considered only a middle peasant among those in his generation. If he only started cultivating at age 8, then he lost before the race even started. Liu Mo was surprised. He achieved spiritual Kai at 3 years old, congenital stage at 7 and spiritual transformation at 10 years. At this time, that guy said that even his waifu answered him. Then he, as a great master, should teach him a lesson. He wrote him another comment about how he should just give up. By looking at him, he can tell that he is at least 17 or 18 years old. If after 10 years of cultivation this is all he can do, then his talent is too meager. But if he sincerely asks, then this old man can teach him a couple of tricks. Liu Mo read this comment and said that he is asking everyone for advice. He knows that his talent is very limited. He was too rash to leave the mountain so early. He hopes that someone can help him. Handsomely wrote that his Kai flow is too violent, which is a sign that his control is not good enough. In order to control Kai perfectly, he needs to feel the spiritual Kai in his heart. Clear your mind and merge with the surrounding Kai. He then needs to use the least amount of Kai to condense his sword. This will help him control the flying sword better. Liu Mo noticed that the expert answered him and wondered, does he need to use his heart to sense Kai? He needs to try it. He concentrated and a sword appeared above his head, after which the sword began to float and Liu Mo said that it worked. Expert advice is really effective. He ordered the sword to return and said that all the experts in this world are so willing to share their knowledge. Even if he learns only half of the techniques from each of them, he will still get a colossal result. He definitely needs to learn everything. First he'll start with her. He logged into Dahlia's account and started watching her stream. At this time, she ran through the water lilies and a stream of flame appeared around her, which exploded. She stepped onto the water lily again and the flame began to subside. She said that she was the Velvet Fairy King Zhu Guan with an innate spiritual wind physique. The Tao is difficult to comprehend. For mortals, going against the natural order of life is as difficult as ascending to heaven. On the path of cultivation, talent is the most important. A person's chance of ascension is determined by the abilities they are endowed with at birth. Therefore, the best time to start cultivation is from the moment they are born. Over time, their body will be corrupted by the impurities of the mortal world. As more and more impurities accumulate, they begin to block their meridians, making ascension increasingly difficult. Liu Mo heard her words and understood, so that's why. And he started only 8 years old. If only he had been reborn as a baby, then he would have at least reached the level of innate balance. He wrote a comment that he started cultivating too late. His body was already contaminated with impurities. May he ask if there is a way to improve his situation. At this time, the employees in the office were closely watching her stream and one of them asked, did she do something today? The number of people watching her stream today has already exceeded 15,000. The girl said that this handsome guy asked her a question in the chat. Ever since it appeared, people have gone into a frenzy. The number of people watching the stream continues to grow. Dahlia thought it was interesting. This guy is getting more and more into his role play. Okay, then she will play with him. She called out to Taoist Liu Mo and told him not to worry too much about starting too late. Expert Zhang Ziofan also started 8 years old and became a great mortal. There is also Han Lai, who only began cultivating in his teens. However, relying on his perseverance, he ascended to the world of immortals after many difficulties. As for how to get out of this situation, he should first use spiritual Kai to wash away the impurities inside his body until he achieves a physique as pure as jade. Then his cultivation progress will reach unprecedented heights. Liu Mo thought, did he need to deliberately inject pure spiritual Kai into his body to use it to remove impurities? This might work. He rushed away from the computer club and thought that he needed to find a secluded place to try this. The girl at the reception said that his time was not up yet. Will he come back again? They don't refund money. He ran out of the computer club, prepared to jump and took off into the sky. At this time, one of Dahlia's followers asked if she was deceiving him so that he would self-destruct. Another user wrote that this guy must have fallen into a stupor from believing in fairy tales all day long. It's okay to just randomly respond with some nonsense. Another user said that she could tell him something like wash your body with spiritual kai with a serious face. She could tell him to refine his kai into its purest form, otherwise there might be problems later. Dahlia said they had gotten too comfortable with the role and signaled to staff about the switch. She told her viewers to remember to like and become a member of their fan group. Next, she will introduce everyone to their current sponsor, Immortal Aromatic Tea. At this time, Liu Mo reached some abandoned building and, going inside, said that there were no people within a radius of several kilometers. This place would suit him. He began to use spiritual kai. Flames appeared around him, which he directed to the floor. The flames formed a circle and a magic rune appeared. Liu Mo began to levitate in the center of this circle and concentrate. He took a deep breath, immediately opening his eyes, and the fiery flames flew away, breaking the windows of the abandoned building. Liu Mo still continued to levitate and inhaled fiery kai, after which a stream of light began to emanate from him and fragments of stones also rose into the air. Liu Mo continued to concentrate, after which he opened his eyes and an explosion occurred. Liu Mo looked at the huge palm-shaped hole on the wall of the building and said that it worked. The Velvet Fairy is truly immortal. Just a couple of her tips helped him get rid of the danger that was hiding in his body. He would never have thought that it could be a matter of impurity if suddenly he could no longer cultivate his cultivation. Master, Velvet Fairy, online experts, compared to his previous life, this world is filled with good people. It took him 10 years to reach even the elementary level, and it will become even more difficult for him to cultivate the next steps and deal with impurities. Although there are so many online experts in this world, he still hasn't seen the whole world. If he receives the favor of the Velvet Fairy, perhaps he can find his place in this world. He hit the road and decided it was time for him to find the Velvet Fairy. He soared over the city and landed on the road. He looked around and said that there are not many people here. He needs to use the internet somewhere and contact the Velvet Fairy. He noticed a phone on a person passing by and thought, is she using this thing to watch videos? Walking further down the street, he saw another man with a phone. He looked at the phone in the guy's hand and wondered if he could access the internet with this thing. Suddenly, a man called out to him and asked if he wanted to try his luck. You only need 1 yuan to participate. If he wins, he will get the phone for free. People immediately turned to his voice and asked, is it a toll-free phone number? The guy asked, just 1 yuan and he can get a phone worth several thousand. Even at a casino, the chances of winning are higher than here. Let people earn money for a phone on their own rather than rely on empty luck. The woman told Liu Mo that he was right, don't let him fall for it. This man managed to scam people out of huge amounts of money in a month, and she still hasn't met anyone who has won here. All participants pulled out only 1 ball with the inscription, thank you for participating. The man said that was nonsense, they were just unlucky. He is an honest businessman, he has nothing to hide. Liu Mo approached him and asked if he could use the internet on this thing. The man replied that with the phone the whole world would be in his hands. Liu Mo asked that if he wins, will he get one of these phones? The man confirmed his words and told him to pay 1 yuan and pull out a ball with a special prize. If he succeeds, he will give him a new phone. Liu Mo gave him 1 yuan and said that he would probably try it. The man said that all he had to do was put his hand in the box and pull out any ball. Liu Mo grabbed the red ball and handed it to the man. The man opened the ball and wanted to upset him, but it was written on the piece of paper that he had won a special prize. The man was very surprised by this, and Liu Mo thought that for his level, seeing the contents of the ball was a piece of cake. It's much cheaper for him to pay 1 yuan and win a phone than to go to an internet cafe every time. The master only left him 2 books and some cash, so he needs to spend his money wisely. The man handed him the phone. Liu Mo asked if he could tell him how to use it. How to get online here. Does he need a SIM card? Let him give him the cheapest one he has. How to shoot a video. Why is he leaving? He really doesn't know how to use it. After that, Liu Mo went to the abandoned building and looked around. He said it looked like the abandoned construction site the store owner had told him about. It's usually deserted, so it's the perfect place to film. He inspected the building and said that this place would be suitable. He placed the phone next to the column and said that he would put it here. He walked a few meters away and said that he would start now. He began cultivating and sharply extended his hand forward, summoning a huge stream of power that destroyed a piece of the building. After that, he once again used his abilities and the debris began to fall down, raising thick dust. Liu Mo looked at this and then waved his hand and the dust disappeared at once. He said that he used the purification technique that the Velvet Fairy taught him yesterday. The effect of this technique is simply incredible. With the help of it, he managed to get rid of a huge part of the impurities in his body. However, there are still impurities in his meridians, so he hopes that online experts will share with him their experiences of getting rid of impurities. Dahlia subscribers noticed that this guy posted a new video and some of them said that he has amazing special effects. The girl watched the video and said that he used just one punch to demolish an entire building. That's an impressive maneuver. Another girl clapped her hands and wondered where the comments about his beauty were. Liu Mo started reading the comments and asked what kind of special effects. This is his real strength, don't they understand? He said displeasedly that a lot of time has passed since he posted the video, and they all continue to talk only about these special effects. There hasn't been a single constructive comment yet. A notification appeared in front of him that the Velvet Fairy had started a stream. Would he like to join? Liu Mo was happy about this and joined the Velvet Fairy's stream. The Velvet Fairy greeted everyone on her stream. Let all new arrivals remember to turn on the notification. Today they will start by announcing their sponsors. One of her subscribers wrote that the Velvet Fairy is his #1 waifu. Another subscriber wrote that the landscape in the background is very beautiful. He will do anything for her. The user under the nickname Velvet Fairy Dog sent her 99.99 hearts and she thanked him for it, after which she said that although she was a little embarrassed to say his nickname out loud, she thanked Taoist Liu Bu for the 999 unicorns and said that she simply adored them. Liu Mo said that the Velvet Fairy is amazing. More than 10 million users have already connected to her stream and the likes have already reached 1 billion. How wonderful it would be to cultivate in a place as beautiful as this. She showed a jar of tea and said that it was immortal fragrant tea. Her friend only collected fresh tea leaves from the very top of the mountain. Thanks to a special processing technique, they are guaranteed to get an unforgettable tea experience. Everyone who purchases this tea will receive a photo with her autograph as a bonus. Liu Mo said that who would have thought that an expert like her would have to go into sales to make money. He thought she lived in abundance, but who could afford to hire the Velvet Fairy? He counted his money and said that he did not have enough money to buy her tea. Although he's more interested in whether she'll be willing to give him an advice or two again. He wrote in the comments that he followed her advice and cleansed his body with the purest spiritual Kai. May he ask if she knows a way to get rid of impurities completely. If she shares her knowledge, he will be eternally grateful to her. At this time, a girl in the office called out to Dahlia and said that yesterday's boyfriend was asking her something again in the comments. Dahlia thought, again. Lately these crazy cultivators have been getting too used to their role. How can she answer him? She noticed the janitor in the hallway and an idea came to her. She congratulated Liu Mo's follower and said that she didn't expect him to achieve success so quickly. However, she will be busy for the next couple of days, so if he wants, he can visit the park where he will find a group of reverends. Liu Mo thought, reverends. Do they all have incredible cultivation knowledge? Dahlia said that the reverends come there at 6 a.m. when the concentration of spiritual Kai is at its peak and the violet Kai has not yet awakened. She wishes all followers good luck. After her advice, Liu Mo went to the park and said that even the air in this place is much cleaner than the city, so it is not surprising that the Velvet Fairy asked him to come here for help. He saw a man standing in the cultivator's stance and was surprised. The man screamed and began to hit his back against the tree. Liu Mo said that this old man's body was being hit by the tree without using spiritual Kai. He must be an expert from a school that practices body cleansing. Liu Mo watched him carefully, but suddenly, to the side, he noticed another man who emerged from the water and immediately dived. Liu Mo followed him and thought that the water was icy at this time of day. But this old man also did not use spiritual Kai and simply dived in. He must be practicing using energy Kai to gain enlightenment. This park is full of experts. He needs to find someone who can help him with breathing techniques. He came to the training ground and saw many people training. Suddenly something spun behind Liu Mo and he saw that the old man was spinning on the exercise machine, and the old woman next to him was practicing running in the air. Liu Mo thought, what are they doing? Suddenly some old man cleared his throat and told him that he had been watching him all this time. Since he's already here, why doesn't he sit down and chat with the old man? Liu Mo ignored him and the old man shouted that he was telling him this. Why does he ignore him like this? Modern youth show no respect for their elders at all. Liu Mo turned around and asked, is that what he told him? He bowed to him and said that he had acted badly and insulted the elder. He hoped he could forgive him. The old man replied that everything was fine. It was he who saw him first, because he has a keen eye. However, having met here now, it must have been fate itself that brought them together, so they shouldn't quarrel over such trifles. Liu Mo thought, does he have a keen eye? He probably detected it through his spiritual perception, and his spiritual perception was unable to detect even the slight pulsating radiation emanating from this old man. He is able to completely hide his spiritual perception from him. He must be 2 degrees superior to him, if not more. If he accidentally angered him, he would smear him against the wall like a fly. And now that he is watching him closely, he will not be able to escape or engage in battle with him, even if he wanted to. He needs to behave carefully. He asked if he could find out the name of the senior Taoist. The old man thought, has this young man read too much science fiction? Does he have 8th grader syndrome? He laughed and said that many years had passed and the old man had completely forgotten his name, but he can simply call him Reverend Violet Sun. Liu Mo replied that he was glad to meet the Reverend. Can he find out what the Reverend is doing here? The old man smoothed his beard and thought, does that mean he wants to play a little more? Okay, he'll play along. He replied that he was waiting for sunset to gather the most concentrated spiritual Kai and essence of the sun and moon. Liu Mo thought that the Kai generated from the fusion of the sun and moon during sunset was incredibly mysterious. As an elementary level Taoist, he doesn't even feel it, but this elder can easily absorb it. How good is his cultivation that he is capable of such a thing? He knelt down in front of him and said that the Reverend's cultivation was comparable to heaven. The monk asked what brought him here so early in the morning. Young people are rarely seen here lately. Liu Mo replied that he didn't want to hide it from him, but he had just recently reached the elementary stage. And 2 days ago he received advice from an immortal fairy and learned that there was a hidden danger in his cultivation. Even receiving advice from the fairy, he could not completely get rid of the impurities in his body, and on her advice he came here for help. He doesn't want to bother him, but he hopes he can help him. The monk replied that he would definitely not be able to solve this problem on his own, but it would not be difficult for him. Liu Mo was happy and asked, is this true? The Reverend handed him 3 books and told him that he had several secret breathing techniques. This is a priceless treasure, but by the will of fate itself he will let him look at it. Does he want to get these books? Liu Mo confirmed his words, and the monk said that since they were connected by fate, he believed that, despite his wishes, he would still share the books with him. But what can he give him in return? Liu Mo couldn't find anything to answer and thought that there was no free bread in this world, but he only had 5 yuan. After he received the phone and bought the SIM card, he didn't have much money left. Although he met some of these names in the remaining records of the past world, he believes these manuals are incredibly rare. If these books were included in the remaining records after the apocalypse, they must be high-grade relics. He should get at least one. The monk asked what he was waiting for. He doesn't want to get the books. Liu Mo called out to him and handed him 1 bill, saying that he was poor and could only offer him this. He hopes he will be generous and accept this pathetic offering. The old man got angry and said that he had been playing along with him for so long, but he only gives him 5 yuan. Liu Mo thought this was the end. He made him angry. He hopes he won't kill him. The old man snatched the bill from his hand and told him to forget about it. Since he likes books so much, he will sell him one. He threw him a book and Liu Mo said that this is Tao Te Jin. This book is a kind of Bible about Taoism. He said that this is a legendary treasure. Even after radiation completely destroyed all literary works in his past world, no one forgot this name. This must be a high-class heavenly guide. He thanked the old man for his generosity and asked him to bow to him. After that, he happily left hugging the book and thought that he had received a valuable treasure for only 5 yuan. The elder is a wonderful person. The old man looked at the bill and said that modern youth know how to toil with all sorts of nonsense. He just wanted to cheat him out of money. Why did he just complicate everything? At this time in the office where Dahlia is broadcasting, the man called out to her and said that yesterday's stream was great. Today they will slow down, let everything be simple and in a relaxed atmosphere. Let her just talk to the fans. She agreed and welcomed all followers. The Velvet Fairy's dog wrote that she should look at the slow cultivator. He posted something again. Another user asked the commentator above to watch his words. He is talking to his wife. Another user wrote that they cannot compare with him. He is the first on the list. Do they dare to compete with him? Dahlia asked, is the cultivator slow? Is this the guy who started cultivating at 8 and reached the elementary stage? The girl came up to her and said that she had already found his latest video. Let her take a look at it. She watched the video and realized it was him. In a comment on his video, he wrote that he had made a small breakthrough in cultivation and he wanted to share his minor skills. He hopes for their advice and will be very grateful to them. Dahlia watched him use his Kai and thought that he used just his palm to shake the building. Then the explosion caused a collapse. Even stones and grains of dust were crushed. The special effects looked too realistic, so natural that she can't find a single flaw. Her viewers noticed that she was looking at her phone for a long time and became interested. Someone wrote that he thought it was a newcomer under the nickname Slow Cultivator. They say it has incredibly realistic special effects. Another viewer agreed with him and said that as an expert, he can say that this guy is not bad, a little worse than him. Another viewer wrote that this is true, but this guy got too carried away. He still asks everywhere for advice. Another spectator laughed and said that he heard he had reached the elementary stage. Maybe the Velvet Fairy will give him some more advice. The man told Dahlia to stop staring at the video. Let her say something already. She put down her phone and said that she had just watched his video. The reason why the cultivator guy managed to soar so much under her guidance also lay down to his talent. But their order protects the unity of heaven and people. If a follower of Taoism wants to completely get rid of impurity, she would advise him to practice the elementary Tao, thanks to which he will achieve much better results. The audience in the chat laughed and someone said that the lesson was from the Velvet Fairy Live. Another viewer agreed with her words and asked if it was about cultivation. Once she started talking about it, nothing would stop her. Another viewer asked, "What secret techniques will we talk about?" He can't wait any longer. She said that she would also like to recommend 3 changes. Unfortunately, the manuscript's change of season and fortune-telling on turtle bones have already disappeared without a trace. Moreover, the knowledge is too ordinary and is not suitable for everyone who has just reached the elementary level. Therefore, she believes that a Taoist should begin with the Tao Te Ching. This book contains more than 5,000 lines of Taoist manuscript, incorporating primitive and complex concepts. This invaluable manuscript is suitable for those who want to learn the Tao. As they say, Tao was born from chaos and existed before heaven and earth. The book Tao Te Ching can help Taoists better understand the great Tao and cultivate their own path. The man said it was great, wonderful words. The popularity of their stream has increased to 20 million views. The girl laughed and said that they were talking about Dahlia. In order to become a true cultivator, she spent 2 years studying various cultivation novels. The live broadcast ended and Dahlia said that she was so tired. The girl came up to her and said that they again had a new record for views. Dahlia said that this slow cultivator is quite a noticeable guy. Who would have thought that thanks to him they would gain such popularity? The man said that they had talked for a while and thought about collaborating with the slow cultivator. His work is of high quality and it just so happens that her videos have good chemistry. What does she think about this? Dahlia started drinking milk and thought that this guy's special effects were really remarkable in terms of quality. Besides, he is also handsome. All cultivation content creators are just trying to show off their strength. They rely on harsh and unnecessary special effects for the sake of hype. She said that the slow cultivator was using a publicity stunt by asking for advice, which got the professionals interested. This gives his audience a sense of satisfaction that they are helping him, while at the same time they watch his progress, thereby gathering even more audience. The man said that he would also be interested in working with him. If he wanted, they could start running a new program with him. At this time, in an abandoned building. At this time, Liu Mo was watching her stream and said that he already has this book, but he doesn't understand anything at all. There is something written here about the Tao, something about the name. He can't read these words at all. This is probably due to the fact that he lacks the talent to understand such complex symbols. He will try to search on the internet, maybe he will find the answer there. He reached into his phone and thought, can he even find the entire original text of the Tao Te Ching on the internet? The experts of this world are very generous. He read that it was written there that the Tao in question is not the real Tao. Suddenly he understood everything and found himself in a completely different space among the planets. He said that the Tao is limitless, cultivators are just crooks. He looked at everything narrowly, focusing only on getting rid of impurities, and he should have paid attention to his Tao. Tao is both tangible and intangible. It is a continuously changing chaos from which order is born. Tao is omnipresent and infinite. He began to meditate and thought that Tao is the beginning of everything, and it was created from emptiness. He breathed in the air and strength began to arise in his body. Everything around him began to break, and the power still raged inside his body. A child was born in his body, which gave him this power, and all the energy spilled out. Suddenly dark clouds gathered in the sky and people began to ask why the sky darkened so quickly. Useless people at the weather station, they said that the weather would be clear. Clouds began to gather over the entire city, and at this time at the weather station an employee called out to the director and said that this was some kind of anomaly. An unexpected change in atmospheric activity over the city, a huge concentration of unknown energy appeared in the sky. The director told him not to panic, let him continue to monitor the situation. He must be informed immediately of any changes. At this time, Liu Mo continued to meditate and the child continued to grow. Liu Mo thought that this was undoubtedly a first-class manuscript. He was able to immediately reach the 9th stage by reading it just once. All his flesh was reconstructed, his spiritual perception increased in strength by 10 times. Even his body became half immortal. He has practically stepped onto the stage of spiritual transformation. Suddenly, glimpses of light appeared among the clouds and energy began to accumulate there. At this time, the alarm sounded at the weather station and the director asked how this was possible. The worker responded that the barometric pressure, ultraviolet radiation intensity and radiation levels had skyrocketed. What's happening? Lightning began to strike in the sky and the photographer managed to capture it on camera. He said that who would have thought that he would be able to capture such a sight when he went to photograph the ruins. He filmed it and people started writing in the comments that it was simply incredible. Incredible special effects, even the smallest details were worked out. He must have put a lot of effort into creating them. Someone wrote that even though these are just special effects, let him study basic physics. Where can a huge beam of light appear in the sky? Who would even believe this? Another person wrote that a meteorology professor was in touch. Based on years of records, he can report that such a phenomenon is unlikely. The photographer exclaimed, "Do they think he posted a fake? How can he even fake this?" He launched a live broadcast and said that right now he is in the Fanshan area at an abandoned old construction site. Suddenly the connection was abruptly interrupted and he wondered why there was no signal. Suddenly everything around got dark and he asked when it got so dark. Suddenly his eyes widened in surprise and he saw a ray of light rushing down. At this time, a worker at the weather station said that they had lost the signal from their satellites and all their summer residents were also in danger. The director looked at the monitor and asked, "Is this really the end of the world?" At this time, Liu Mo still continued to meditate and absorb power. A yellow beam of light rushed from him into the sky, heading into another beam of light. At this time, Dahlia was at home and resting in the bathroom. Suddenly, her friend burst into her room and said that they had an emergency. She asked, "Is everything so serious that she couldn't even knock?" The girl showed her something on her phone and said that something strange was going on near the old construction site. There is some kind of pillar of light in the sky, as happens in all these short stories about cultivation. Many people post photos and posts with this phenomenon, and all the photos were taken from different angles, so it's unlikely to be fake. Dahlia looked at the photos and said that this is such an unusual natural phenomenon, but has she ever seen colorful flashes in the sky? Black clouds are gathering in the sky. She wonders which Taoist caused such a disaster. She asked, when did this happen? Is it close to them? The girl replied that it was coming right now. She can look out the window, it all scares her. Dahlia jumped out of the bath and rushed to the window. She opened the curtains and was very surprised when she saw two pillars of light. She pinched her friend and she asked why she pinched her. She replied that she wanted to make sure she was not dreaming. Her friend asked what if it was really the work of a cultivator. Dahlia called her Zhang Jin and asked, "Is this happening somewhere in an old construction site? Is there no mountain there?" She confirmed her words and said that there was Yuking Mountain nearby. It is deadly there, which has caused many incidents. Dahlia headed towards the exit and Zhang Jin asked where she was going. She said she was going to take a closer look at it. At this time, the old man was watching the girl's stream and she thanked him for sending her the rocket. The old man chuckled and said that he would do anything for her. Suddenly a young man ran into the room and told him that now was not the time to sit on the phone. Something strange is happening at Yuking Mountain. Someone summoned a huge pillar in the sky. The old man hit him on the head and said that he was wasting his time teaching him. What kind of pillar of light? Let him stop reading his fantasy novels and start doing real science. The so-called pillar of light refers to the phenomenon that causes a cultivator who is about to reach the spirit transformation realm. The cultivator's condensed ocean kai creates a force that attracts the disaster clouds, creating this phenomenon. Disaster clouds were generated by heaven and earth, and they also symbolize the will of the earth. If a mortal wishes to ascend, they must first pass a test of the will of the earth, which takes place in the form of a pillar of light, otherwise they will be destroyed and wiped from the face of the earth. But in the modern world there are no cultivators. His student said that something strange was really going on there. The old man hit him again and told him to come to his senses. Let him just be a diligent citizen and do useful things for society. He is punishing him, so let him go and read books, and until he finishes, let him not come to him. At this time, Liu Mo sighed and thought that he was already very close to the soul transformation realm, but he still lacked the foundation. He had better not enter the realm of soul transformation for now, suppress his cultivation, and calm his body. He would suppress his cultivation to the 4th stage and then use the excess spiritual kai to calm his body. He used accumulation and the power began to decrease and the pillar of light began to disappear. The child returned to his body and became smaller. A bright glow began to emanate from Liu Mo's body and his eyes lit up, and then rays of light appeared from his eyes, which destroyed a nearby building. Liu Mo stood up and said that he had descended to the 4th stage of the innate realm, but his body had become stronger. He came down from the building and said that now that he had the cultivation textbooks, he should look in them for martial arts or dharmic spells that he could learn. At this time, the pillar of light thought, has he really left? What should it do now? It can't hit a random passerby, can it? Only it thought that it could play with someone again. The pillar of light disappeared and Liu Mo noticed that he had no internet connection. He said it was strange and wondered why there was no signal. He received a message that there are not enough funds in his balance, so they advise him to top up his account in order to continue using their services. Liu Mo thought, did he really spend all the money on the phone? If he doesn't have the internet, he won't be able to contact experts. It seems he has no choice, he needs to return to the mountain and try to sell something there. 12 years ago little Dahlia was running along the mountain and her mother asked her not to run. Her father said that they had been climbing for the 2nd hour. It is true what they say is that children have endless reserves of energy. Dahlia turned to them and said that everything is fine. Don't worry. She turned her head to the side and noticed a butterfly. She climbed over the fence and reached out with her hand to a butterfly that was sitting on a flower on the very edge of the rock. Her parents immediately rushed to her side and told her to go back. Little Dahlia almost reached the butterfly, but could not resist and began to fall from the cliff. Her mother called out to her in fear, and Dahlia, having injured herself on tree branches, continued to fall down. Her mother started screaming for help and said that her daughter had fallen off a cliff. Her parents shouted her name again and she just continued to fall, looking up. Suddenly someone picked her up and she looked up at the one who saved her. Her savior deftly jumped over the rocks and carefully lowered her down, placing her on a stone. After that, he touched her forehead and healed her, then he left, and she remained lying on the stone. 4 hours later, the rescue team found her without a single abrasion. Everyone was shocked by this and chalked it up to her luck. Now the adult Dahlia was driving in the car and looking at her scar, which remained after that day. She knew that an immortal had saved her then. There are definitely cultivators in this world. She must find the one who saved her life and thank him properly. Suddenly, a roar was heard from a bright pillar in the sky and Dahlia asked Jiang Jin, did she hear anything? Jiang Jin looked out the window and said it sounded like thunder. Suddenly she saw that the clouds were parting and Dahlia asked the driver to stop the car. The car stopped at an abandoned construction site and she said it looked like they were too late. Since the clouds gradually disperse, they will not have time to get there in time and film everything. Jiang Jin said that evening is approaching and the forest on the mountain is full of wild animals. Maybe they'll give up on this idea. Dahlia agreed with her and invited her to go home. She thought that if there really was an immortal on the mountain, then something like this would definitely happen again. When the time comes, she will definitely find him. Let him just wait for her. She was about to leave, but suddenly she noticed something and turned around. She pointed her finger forward and told Jiang Jin to look at that old abandoned construction site. Does this place remind her of anything? She seemed to have seen this somewhere before. Jiang Jin said that this construction site was abandoned a long time ago. There are just rubble of buildings here. Dahlia looked at her phone and said that she remembered. This is the same building that the guy destroyed in the video. She showed her the video on her phone and told her to watch it. Isn't that it? Looks exactly the same. Jiang Jin said she's right, it's the same place. She has an idea. They can film this construction using a program and restore it back. Then they can use this video if they cooperate with the slow cultivator. Dahlia said they could arrange it, but she managed to contact him. Jiang Jin replied that not yet. They were not even sure if he would want to cooperate with them. Although judging by his video, it seems to her that he would not mind working with her. Dahlia smiled and said that for that matter, they need to show him their sincerity. First this, then everything else. She asked if she understood everything. Jiang Jin smiled and confirmed her words. At this time, the old man handed Liu Mo 20 yuan and told him to take it. Liu Mo asked, only 20? There are over 100 kilograms of junk here. How can it only cost 20 yuan? The old man told him not to think that he was trying to deceive him. But what should an old man like him do with this block of stone? There is a lot of garbage here, but not all of it can be recycled. Liu Mo was upset and thought how difficult it was for him to earn money in this world. After that, he went to pay for the connection on the phone and the company employee said that he would charge him 18 yuan. Liu Mo asked, will the money he earned with blood and sweat go to his phone balance? After that he said that money goes away so easily in this world. Suddenly he received a new message and Liu Mo thought he just topped up his balance and already has a new message. The message said that he, a slow cultivator, received 1,000 yuan from the Velvet Fairy user, Dahlia. 500 yuan was automatically transferred to his account. Liu Mo was surprised, 500 yuan. The Velvet Fairy's generosity knows no bounds. He thanks her for this gift that he so needed. He burst into tears and said that she not only helps him in mentoring, but also saved him from poverty. Someday he will pay her for everything. Suddenly he received a message from Dahlia in which she wrote that his videos interested her. She would like to arrange a small collaboration with him. What will he say to this? Liu Mo thought, is the Velvet Fairy asking him to make a video with her? She wants to make a video of herself teaching him. This is a chance sent to him by God himself. In the message he thanked her for her praise and said that this was a great idea. He would be happy to take part in it. He thought that since he was going to meet the Velvet Fairy herself, he needed to prepare her a small gift. He wonders what she likes. He watched a video of an old cultivator. The old man began to create and a pill flew out of his cauldron. He said that this pill called Return to the Source was given to him by his ancestors. By taking this, they will be filled with Kai, and it will also invigorate their body and spirit. Let them take the pill 3 times a day for 2 weeks and it is guaranteed to fill them with energy. Only now they can buy 1 tablet at a low price of 300 yuan. Liu Mo exclaimed that this is it. He can give the Velvet Fairy a couple of these tablets. Liu Mo wrote to the old man that after watching his video about the mystical tablet, he received a revelation and took another step towards knowledge of the Tao of alchemy. He's only self-taught in alchemy, so he's never had the chance to use a cauldron to create pills. But when he saw his stove, he immediately realized how unique it was. He hopes for his help and would like to know where he can find a similar cauldron like his. At this time, the man who was pretending to be that old man read his message and thought, what's wrong with this slow cultivator? Most people write to him to buy these pills, but this guy wants to buy a stove to cook them. And why does he communicate like an old man obsessed with Taoism? He asked him, he wants to buy a stove, not tablets. Liu Mo confirmed his words and wrote that he would like to buy a stove. Does he sell such things? The man read the message and thought that he has been doing this for years and constantly meets people who want to buy pills or make a return. He even fell for scammers more often, but for someone to want to buy his stove. This is the first time this has happened. He looked at the stove and thought that a couple of years ago he bought this junk at a flea market for only 50 yuan. Although this thing is quite old and bulky, he has to admit that it is great for making his videos. To be honest, he, Chen Wai, is just an ordinary herbalist with superficial knowledge of medicine. If his son had not taught him how to make videos, he would never have gained popularity as an immortal. Who would have thought that the pill he makes from goji berry extract and flour would gain such popularity? Although he had been thinking about replacing this old stove for a long time, he decided that then he could sell it. At this time, Liu Mo was worried and noticed that he had not responded for so long. Maybe he didn't want to sell the stove. Most likely, because the furnace for creating pills is a precious tool for an alchemist. Who would even want to sell that? Chen Wai wrote to him that considering his great desire, he is willing to sell him his stove. He will not ask for much, he will sell it for 500. Liu Mo was happy and thought, 500 yuan, almost for nothing. He asked him if he could find out his place of residence. He'll come in and buy it today. Chen Wai told him that he was currently cultivating in the far north. He could send him money and he would send him a stove tomorrow. Liu Mo thought, is the elder not only willing to sell him the stove, but also deliver it to him? The far north is thousands of kilometers away. Even if he flew there at full speed on his sword, it would take him at least 3 days, although he could deliver it to him tomorrow. This is too good a deal, he needs to be careful. He is definitely superior to him in cultivation. If he has evil intentions, he should be prepared for it. He wrote to him that he lived on Yuking Mountain. He can leave the package under a 100-year-old banyan tree at the foot of the mountain. Now he will text him his phone number. Chen Wai asked again, under the banyan tree. He will do as he asks. Liu Mo transferred the money to him and said that after the purchase he only had 2 yuan left. After a while, a courier arrived at Chen Wai's house and knocked on the door and said that it was Shun Feng's delivery. Did he want to send something? Chen Wai confirmed his words and said that here is the package. Let him leave it in the place he indicated. He can just throw it there if no one comes for it. The courier agreed and set off. The next day he arrived at Yuking Mountain and while driving he wondered, who even sends 40 kilograms of some kind of metal garbage to the mountain? He can't even take other parcels along the way. He'll only lose money on this delivery. He reached the tree and threw the package, after which he wiped the sweat from his face and said that he had finally gotten there. He almost tore his back while dragging it here. He called the recipient and after several rings said that he was not picking up. What kind of idiot would come here for this rubbish? He decided not to dwell on it and said that anyway it was lying in a deserted place, it was unlikely that there would be anyone who would be strong enough to steal this box. Deciding that it was time for him to return, he got into the car and Liu Mo, who had been on the tree all this time, was glad that he had finally left. He jumped from the tree and approached the parcel. Inside the box he saw a stove, after which he broke the box and lifted the stove with one hand and said that it weighs 35 kilograms. The material is dense and quite durable. He took the stove and ran away, and the courier saw him and was very surprised. After that, he came to the warehouse and told Mr. Wang that today he saw something amazing regarding the box that he needed to deliver to Yuking Mountain. He left this box under the tree and went to the car, but he became worried about the parcel and decided to go back. Let him see what he caught on camera. He showed him a video on his phone and said that there was a guy who was carrying this metal thing like a feather. Mr. Wang said it was nothing compared to what he saw. Does he remember a strange incident a couple of days ago? Then he was delivering an order near Yuking Mountain. He looked up and saw a man floating in the sky. The courier was surprised and asked if he was trying to make fun of him. Was he? Mr. Wang put his hand on his shoulder and said that there is something wrong with this mountain. Many tycoons tried to develop the entire mountain, but each time they failed. Let him be on guard next time he delivers something there. The courier agreed and said that he needed to confirm delivery. At this time, Chen Wai received a message that the parcel had arrived and he asked if they even sent him a video report. In the video, he saw Liu Mo carrying the stove with ease and exclaimed, "How does he have so much strength to carry this heavy thing like that?" Suddenly he realized that he could use this video for his own purposes and began uploading it to his account. He laughed and said that this video would definitely bring a crowd of onlookers to him who would want to buy his pills. Suddenly a notification popped up in front of him that his account was suspected of selling counterfeit medicines and was blocked. This made him fall out of his chair and curse loudly. At this time, Liu Mo was sitting in front of the stove and making a pill. He thought it was an amazing stove. He opened the lid and saw a golden pill inside and said that he had succeeded. With the medicinal herbs from the mountain and the detailed instructions for the furnace that the elder sent him, he was more likely to be able to create the pills using pure internal energy. If he finds more recipes and time to practice, he is confident that he will be able to create the highest rank 9th revolution pills. And finally the time will come when he will no longer need to worry about money. That's right, he will need to ask that elder about the new formulas. Maybe he could teach him a recipe or two. He went to his account and saw that his account was blocked and thought, what does this mean? Suddenly the Velvet Fairy called him and he looked at the screen in surprise. He accepted an incoming call and the Velvet Fairy welcomed him to their broadcast. The Velvet Fairy dog asked in the comments, is this really a slow cultivator? Another spectator told them to look. Their slow cultivator was able to find an approach to the Velvet Fairy. Someone in the chat laughed and asked if he wanted advice from her again. Just don't let him say he's going to steal his waifu. Another person wrote that he is not bad, he has the feeling that they were made for each other. Liu Mo said that he welcomes the Velvet Fairy. He is very grateful to her for her useful advice. Without her, he would never have been able to make such a breakthrough in cultivation. Someone wrote in the comments that this guy is at his best again. He wonders what kind of breakthrough he had. Another viewer wrote that this is the same guy who never leaves his role. He plays pretty well. An energetic guy on the right and a beautiful Velvet Fairy on the left. What should he do? They will make him faint. The Velvet Fairy said that he shouldn't be so polite. As long as they have faith in each other, sharing advice is a common thing for her. Can she find out where he lives now? He looked away and thought, why is the Velvet Fairy interested in this? He can't reveal his location to all these people, otherwise he'll definitely get into trouble. He said that he considered the Four Oceans his home and often traveled to other lands. He arrived at Yuking Mountain a couple of days ago, and he plans to stay here for a while. The Velvet Fairy said she knew it. She's sure he filmed his videos there. Liu Mo became worried and she said that she saw the building he destroyed when she got to Yuking Mountain. It's great that he makes all these videos, but he shouldn't destroy other people's property. Let him not worry, she will help him restore this building. She moved to the site of the destroyed building and Liu Mo said, is this the same place in the video where he destroyed the building? Does the Velvet Fairy already know where he is? The Velvet Fairy waved her hand and ordered the rubble of the building to rise up. Her power reached the rubble and they began to slowly rise and rebuild. The restored concrete slabs began to line up the walls of the building and Liu Mo said it was incredible. She had probably reached at least the realm of grief. She has amazing control over spiritual energy. The Velvet Fairy spread her arms to the sides and received unicorns from the audience. A viewer wrote that this is such a high-quality work. Every pebble was returned to its original place. He pays tribute to the post-processing and special effects team. He wonders how much nerve it took them to do this. Another viewer laughed and said it wasn't bad. Her special effects are almost on par with his. Another viewer asked, did she just turn back time and rebuild a destroyed building? Suddenly one of the spectators asked why the Velvet Fairy needed information about the location of the slow cultivator. Does she really want to find him? Another viewer wrote that this is the end, he can already hear his heart breaking into small pieces. Liu Mo said that she is endowed with incredible power, let her accept his admiration. She blushed a little and thought that this guy was really different from the others. He is handsome, elegant and has an immortal aura about him. Viewers started sending them gifts and one viewer wrote that the slow cultivator destroyed the building and the Velvet Fairy restored it. This is a masterful performance, he can't wait for their collaboration. One of the spectators began to cry that his wife was stolen from him, and another spectator laughed and said that the Velvet Fairy had been cultivating for 1,000 years, but today he saw how it blossomed. Another viewer wrote that they suit each other perfectly, but he is afraid that the guy who is the first on the donation list will not be able to stand his heart. Another viewer wrote that if he had been in the place of the slow cultivator, he would have already donated to the Velvet Fairy long ago as a token of gratitude. Liu Mo remembered that he only had 2 yuan left and thought that he would also like to express his gratitude, but now he is broke. He is already a big debtor to the Velvet Fairy. It would be rude if he is the only one who does not support her now. He clicked the donate button and sent her 15 cans of cola. One of the viewers wrote that no one had sent cans of cola for 100 years. Is he serious? 10 cans cost only 1 yuan. Someone wrote that if he doesn't have enough money to donate, then it's better not to. What's the point of throwing away 1.5 yuan? Another viewer agreed with him and said that the Velvet Fairy is one of the top streamers. The very first guy on the list gave her more than 100,000 yuan. Liu Mo said that he himself knows that this is not enough, but even this money came to him with great difficulty. Dahlia was surprised and thought, shouldn't she have money to shoot such high-quality videos? But it seems to her that he is lying. She said that the quality of his special effects is impressive. She believes they are unable to estimate how much he spends on all this. She understands why he saves. Would he like to join her team and help with video processing? With them he will be able to make new content more easily. She asked if she could find out what programs he uses to create special effects. Liu Mo asked in surprise, special effects? What is she talking about? He just goes into the app, clicks record, then pauses and loads the video. Dahlia asked if this is all. Liu Mo was surprised to confirm her words, and she thought that it seemed like this guy didn't really want to work with anyone. Judging by his tone, it would be difficult for her to persuade him. He said that, to be honest, he became her big debtor because she helped him in many ways, and he has been thinking for a long time how he can repay her. He decided to create his own pill and give it to the Velvet Fairy. She asked, is this true? He said that he had just recently started studying Tao alchemy. He has all the necessary ingredients and a special furnace, but lacks the formulas to create the pills. Could she teach him how to prepare first-rank medicine? He will do everything possible to succeed in making it, and he will repay her for everything. She thought that usually she was asked to dance, sing, or play some game. But who the hell asks for a recipe to create medicine? A viewer in the comments laughed and asked what kind of formula is used to create pills. He is so true to his work. He plays his part until the very end. A viewer under the nickname Perfectly Clean Young asked if he needed a formula to create a pill. Well, he can share with him one recipe for a pill called Deep Cleansing of the Soul. This will help him get rid of impurities and strengthen his fundamental strength. Is he interested in this? Liu Mo asked, Deep Soul Cleansing. He read about it in the manual that the elder sent him. The pills are divided into 9 ranks, and Deep Soul Purification is considered the best medicine of the 9th rank. The ingredients are not that hard to come by, but they have a rather complex and laborious manufacturing process. One blot and everything will go down the drain. It would be difficult for an ordinary alchemist to make such a thing. Perfectly Clean Young wrote what he saw. He became interested. To make the pill he will need the Qiang flower, the Xuanming fruit, the Kingming ear, and the 1000-year-old mountain ear. He needs to grind all the ingredients and get 500 grams of fine powder. Then let him cook until the powder loses its clear hue, after which he must remove 2/3 of the mixture and add 25 grams of Lingji red powder. He then needs to send it to the oven before forming the pills. He wrote down all the ingredients and preparation steps, and if he is interested, he can make it himself. At this time, a student came into the master's room and said that he had been watching this live broadcast for the 2nd hour. Isn't it time for him to get back to work? The old man laughed, and the student said that if he didn't stop, he would report to the top that he had spilled the recipe for the medicine on the Velvet Fairy's broadcast. Does he even know that he is now breaking the rules of their clan? The old man exclaimed, how dare he? He shares his secret knowledge with the younger generation. A fool like him will never understand how wonderful it is to mentor others. The student asked, since he shares his knowledge with them, should they thank him? Why is he the only one sending rockets to the Velvet Fairy? The old man remained silent, and the student asked if he could really share their formula on such a live broadcast. The old man responded by asking what could go wrong. Deep cleansing of the soul is almost impossible to prepare. Even professional alchemists do not undertake it. If even one of the viewers of the broadcast manages to make these pills, he will fall on his face and recognize him as his master. He asked, what about investigating that incident at Yuking Mountain? His student replied that he was trying to gather information until he reached a dead end. Everyone claims that it was just a natural phenomenon, but he definitely felt the spiritual power in that area then. He believes it could have been caused by someone trying to move through the area of grief. The old man hit him and asked how many times he had to repeat that there were no cultivators in the world. They are men of science and believe only in this. Let him go and reread 3 volumes of elementary physics. His student grabbed his head and said that the master knows best. The master is always right. At this time, smoke was coming from an old hut in the forest. Liu Mo was sitting inside the hut in front of the stove. He took one of the ingredients and with a slight movement of his hand sent it straight into the stove. He gathered energy around his hands and the ingredient began to dissolve. Following this, he threw Xuanming fruit, Kingming dew, and 1000-year Highlander into the oven. He thought that he had already taken out more than 10 kinds of ingredients and added them to the oven. There is only one step left, but it will be very difficult. It began to shape and all the ingredients began to merge into one pill. A bright glow began to emanate from the boiler, and after that Liu Mo opened the lid of the oven and steam began to escape. Inside the furnace, he saw the finished pills and said that finally he could. He held the pill close to his mouth, but then tossed it inside and tasted it. He said that the pill immediately melted into his mouth, turning into a homogeneous mass. He feels the warmth spread through his body as the liquid hits his throat. There is a subtle sensation as if he is being burned by a cold fire. This must be a pill that cleanses his body of impurities. But the effect is a little weak. He doesn't think that the experts from the Velvet Fairy Senior Flow would lie to him unless there is a problem with the formula. He poured the pills into the bag and thought, what is he talking about? The pill formula is something that masters spend hundreds of years of research to create. Judging by the theory set out in the manual for the use of pills, which the master gave him, there are no problems with the formula. The formula was perfect and the ingredients were correct, but he was only able to create a pill with 30% of the described healing power. He thinks he can consider it a failure. He must have done something wrong. He sighed and said that he was already a little tired from the mental stress. He spent a lot of his spiritual kai to cultivate. Suddenly he realized spiritual kai. Spiritual kai can act as a vessel for the healing effect to penetrate into the bones and bloodstream. It can also help combine the opposing therapeutic effects of Qiang flower and Xuanming fruit. According to the pill manual, not only can he infuse spiritual kai, he must also infuse power into the pill. This will increase the effect of the pill. He needs to try this. He will first coat the extracts with a layer of spiritual kai, then add some mental power to them. Thus, he can marinate healing powers with his powers. The ingredients began to transform and smoke began to emanate from the hut. The smoke spread throughout the area until it became visible in the sky. At this time, workers at the weather station noticed this and told the director that their instruments had recorded another strange phenomenon over Mount Yuking. The top of the mountain is covered in thick fog. The director said that they didn't even figure out how the incident happened a few days ago. How did another anomaly appear? Let them monitor this closely. He will contact management immediately. At this time, powerful energy began to emanate from the furnace, which Liu Mo needed to absorb. He exerted all his efforts and a pill began to form in a bright glow, and then there was a powerful burst of energy. At this time, not far from the mountain there was an admiring photographer who said that it was not in vain that he had spent the last few days hiking. At this time, Liu Mo decided to increase the heat while refining the pill. Immediately after this, a very bright glow became noticeable on the top of the mountain, from which creatures began to appear. First a dragon appeared from a bright light, then a tiger appeared. The photographer exclaimed, "What is this? Is it an azure dragon and a white tiger?" There are 4 mythical beasts that are considered the guardians of each direction. The azure dragon of the east, the white tiger of the west, the bird of the north, and the tortoise of the south. At this time, in one of the city's high-rise buildings, standing at the window and looking at the top of the mountain, the man said that he understood everything. He told the weather station director to simply monitor the phenomenon closely and report any changes to him immediately. He called his subordinate and told him to prepare the helicopter. They would go on a trip to Yuking Mountain. At this time, Liu Mo inhaled the aroma of pills while the entire room was filled with fog. He began to shape the pill and said with relief that it worked. He opened the furnace lid and saw sparkling pills inside. He ate one of them and felt as if there was an ocean of spiritual kai in this pill. A powerful wave of cold fire flows softly down his throat before spreading through his bloodstream. This is 10 times stronger than his last attempt. Just think, this can improve the quality so much. He underestimated this device. He poured the pills into the bag and said that he still thinks that this is not ideal. His strength is still low. What if he increases the concentration of spiritual and mental power? The pill he had just swallowed had restored some of his spiritual power, so he could try again. He began to prepare the ingredients, and at this time, the old man in the temple was watching the stream of the Velvet Fairy. He wondered if they would have enough money to cover expenses if he donated another rocket. Suddenly, a student ran up to him and said that a helicopter was flying in their direction. The old man asked why his helicopter was here again. His student asked, "Is he talking about Director Wu from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Since they are here to find him, it means they again do not understand something." The old man said that they, cultivators, have a responsibility to help the world when something supernatural happens. The student asked what responsibility. Didn't the master just work on the street, making a living doing palm readings for ladies before meeting Director Wu? He didn't care about the money either. He just wanted to hold the hands of the young ladies. After he got hooked on Dahlia's streams, he spent all the money from Director Wu on a donation, causing their already poor sect to fall even lower. His teacher hit him and said that he took him in and raised him for 17 years. Not only does he not listen to his instructions, but also tries to teach him. The student exclaimed that he spent all the money he had for his dowry on live broadcasts. How is he getting married now? His teacher responded by exclaiming that he had never even held a girl's hand. Does he think he'll ever get engaged? The student asked, didn't he say that if he touched their hand, he would have to marry them? His teacher told him to stop talking nonsense. Director Wu has arrived. Outside the temple, the rumble of a helicopter was heard, from which Director Wu came out along with his subordinate. The old man and his disciple came out to meet him and bowed to each other. The old man told the director that a lot of time had passed. Director Wu called him Dayashi and said that it was so long ago. Taoshi is a term for a monk or priest who practices the Tao. The director told him that another phenomenon had appeared above Yuking Mountain, which they could not explain. He hopes that he can accompany them there. Taoshi smoothed his beard and the student exclaimed that he knew. Is this that expert again? The one who brought sorrow upon himself? Taoshi hit him and called him by name Fugui and asked how many times should he repeat that they should believe in science. His student, rubbing his head in pain, agreed and Director Wu said that he would tell him more about the situation on the way, so they need to move out. At this time, a red bird and a black turtle appeared in the sky, and the photographer filmed it all on camera. He asked his viewers, do they see this? All 4 guardian beasts appeared in the sky. He is broadcasting directly from Yuking Mountain. This is a live broadcast, there are no special effects at all. He swears on his life that these are not special effects. At this time, Director Wu gave Dayashi's phone number and said that this was the last video from the mountain. The one who filmed this is broadcasting live everything that happens. Taoshi asked, is he sure these are not ordinary special effects? The director replied that this was not the only video. They can find many photos and videos from other sources, from different angles. They can't all be made using the same special effects. The weather station monitoring Yuking Mountain also recorded electromagnetic fluctuations similar to those of another phenomenon that occurred 3 days ago. Suddenly the Taoshi sensed something and asked where the aroma of the pills came from. He opened the door and said that this was impossible. He looked at the top of the mountain and thought in surprise that he had smelled the thick aroma of pills all the way. What level does the pill have to be to spread such a powerful smell? He told them to speed up, he needs to go there, he wants to look at it. Director Wu told them to sit still and told the pilot that he needed to fly at full speed forward. The pilot replied that he understood him and they flew at full speed to the top of the mountain, where all 4 animals were. Fugui told the teacher that 4 guardian beasts appeared in the sky. The teacher did not answer anything and then they decided to turn around and saw that he was no longer in the helicopter. At this time, he was already heading down on the sword and thought that the aroma had become even stronger. Could it be that these beasts appeared because someone was making pills? But nothing like this had ever arisen when he refined the pills. At this time, Dahlia ended the broadcast and said goodbye to its viewers. The audience also began to say goodbye to her and one of them told her to watch the broadcast from Yuking Mountain. There's something going on there again. Another viewer wrote that there are 4 guardian animals. Is she not in Sky City? Isn't it near Yuking Mountain? She read the comments and thought, is this immortal there again? At this time, Liu Mo was still making pills and using absorption and then formation. The energy formed a pill and the 4 guardian beasts rushed upward, creating a bright wave of light at the top of the mountain. Liu Mo fell exhausted to the floor and said that creating this pill took away 99% of his spiritual power. He would have experienced a negative reaction if the pill had been more potent. He got up from the floor and said that he thought even cleansing pills could be dangerous. It's good that he managed to do it. At this time, the Taoshi was flying on his sword and looking at the top of the mountain. He said it was true, Yuking Mountain is the source of these phenomena. Something serious must have happened there. Perhaps he could even meet a real cultivator. At this time, Liu Mo looked at the pill he had made and said that it was a pity that this pill was only for extending a person's life by 100 years. It is completely useless for those who are already at the congenital stage. He doesn't seem to have any talent for alchemy. He put the pill in the box and said that this time he received an unexpected benefit from the purification process. Last time, he suddenly broke through to the 9th degree of the innate realm. At that time its foundation was still lacking. And so, he suppressed his cultivation to the 4th stage to harden his body. But after refining this pill, his spiritual energy seeped into his muscles and bones, and now he returned to the 1st stage. Thanks to this, he should now feel that his aura is absolutely flawless and he can store twice as much spiritual energy as before. He feels that his mental strength has increased many times over. He went outside and said that this was truly an unexpected win. Suddenly he looked around and was surprised. He thought that he had not been refining pills for long when these trees and bushes appeared here. He turned his gaze upward and saw 4 guardian beasts. He said that this is the red bird of the south, the black tortoise of the north, the azure dragon of the east, and the white tiger of the west. These are the 4 guardians. He read in the ancient records that the master gave him that the appearance of 4 guards is a sign of great luck. He doesn't know why such a celestial phenomenon appeared here, but he should try to cultivate as much as possible. At this time, Taoshi was heading forward and thought that he had stepped onto the path of cultivation 10 years ago, but compared to ancient times, the spiritual Kai of the modern world had degraded to such an extent that it was difficult to find anyone with true cultivation now. However, 3 days ago, the pillar of light that descended near Yuking Mountain was clearly a heavenly tribulation as the high-level cultivator was about to break through. As for the phenomenon now, it is a sign that the highest quality pills are being prepared. This means that there is definitely a real cultivator on the mountain right now. No, not just a cultivator, it could be an immortal. If he could meet him, he might be able to achieve his cultivation if he gave him some guidance. He landed on the ground and thought that the spiritual Kai here was too thick. The closer he got, the denser it became. This must be the immortality pill. A real immortality pill. He asked the cultivator to wait and Liu Mo felt footsteps and said that someone is here. This is also a cultivator. Taoshi ran forward laughing and said that one breath of this thick spiritual Kai was enough for his old bones to be filled with so much energy. He even feels the impurities in his body being slowly cleansed with every breath. Compared to the healing effect of the pill's aroma alone, its decades of cultivation are like dog water. He wonders if the immortal will agree to let him take it if he shamelessly begs him for it. He cannot even imagine what the consequences will be. Suddenly he tripped over a stone and jumped a few steps forward. Liu Mo thought that the cultivator was rushing here. He was only at the stage of building the foundation. He looked into the thicket of the forest and said that it must be someone who was attracted by the appearance of the four guards. Well, the experts of this world are righteous and generous, completely different from his previous world where people attacked others without a single thought. He cannot be greedy, but he cannot refuse this opportunity either. He needs to forget this. He needs to leave a portion for the person who comes here. He will absorb some of the spiritual Kai to improve his cultivation and give the rest to the mountain and the creatures on it. He spread his arms to the sides and light began to emanate from his body. A strong column of light appeared from it and rushed into the sky. Taoshi noticed this and said that the spiritual Kai was going to this pillar of light. The column of light headed straight towards the four beasts and rushed upward. A cloud of energy appeared at the top of the mountain. Liu Mo clenched his hand into a fist and in the sky, the rays of the sun began to leak through the clouds. At this time, Liu Mo rose into the air and everything around him began to glow. At the same time, the photographer looked at it and said that it's beautiful, it's all too beautiful. Having the ability to capture something like this made his decision to become a videographer worth it. At this time, Taoshi was making his way through the thick grass and said that there is such thick and pure spiritual Kai here. One breath is equal to years of his cultivation work. What kind of person has such an ability to summon dense and pure spiritual Kai to cover an entire mountain? This must be an intimidating expert. He came out to a clearing with a dilapidated house and Liu Mo said that he was wondering how this fellow Taoist found the way here. Taoshi tensed and thought that he was here. He bowed to him in respect and said that the man's name was Chun Yong. He didn't want to bother him, but he hopes that he can forgive him. Liu Mo sat in hiding and thought that this name sounded so familiar. Well, at least he was polite. He told him to be calm and asked what he was doing here. Taoshi Chunyong breathed a sigh of relief and thought that it didn't look like the expert was angry. He replied that he dared to ask to what family or sect the eldest belonged. Liu Mo thought worriedly, what is his gender? If he makes it clear that he has no support, he won't take advantage of it. He cleared his throat and said that his teacher had long since separated from the mortal world and he did not like to interfere in worldly affairs. It was inconvenient for him to tell him his name. Chunyong thought fearfully, this expert's strength is at the zenith of the entire earth, but does he really have a master? What level is his master? Liu Mo asked, is he from a sect? Chunyong replied that cultivation sects are exalted and detached from the world. He has no talent and has not joined any sect. He is just a wandering cultivator. He saw a phenomenon caused by the appearance of an immortal treasure near Yuking Mountain, so he came here to try his luck. Liu Mo went downstairs and asked, immortal treasure. Chunyong looked up at him in surprise and Liu Mo said that he didn't remember seeing the immortal treasure. There was nothing here. Chunyong closed his eyes and replied that he understood everything. He thought that this expert could hide his appearance from his sight and spiritual sense. His cultivation must be enormous. Liu Mo walked up to him and asked if any other cultivators had come here. Chunyong replied that he was lucky and was passing by when this phenomenon appeared. He also didn't see any other cultivators on the way here. He is mediocre and has only reached the stage of building the foundation. He thought that he was already the strongest in his generation, but today he opened his eyes. The body of the elder creates a feeling of merging with space, and the spiritual aura is soft and lush but shining like the sun, just like the innate state described in the Tao Te Ching. He wonders if the elder can also give him some advice on this topic. Liu Mo thought, even a cultivator at the foundation construction stage says that he is cultivating the Tao Te Ching. He thinks it's important because he was even able to find the full version. He replied that this is a technique that anyone can use. Nothing mysterious, he just has to clear his mind and feel the great Tao. Chunyong wanted to happily ask him something, but suddenly Liu Mo felt the presence of ordinary people and thought that now was not the right time. He would keep them away. Chunyong heard the sound of a helicopter and thought it was Director Wu's helicopter. Liu Mo began to use his power and Chunyong mentally told these idiots to get out of here. Liu Mo sent his power upward and Chunyong was surprised. Fog appeared around the helicopter and the pilot told the director that they were surrounded by thick fog. Their electronics are also experiencing interference. He cannot tell if there are any obstacles near the helicopter. Now they are too close to the mountain, they may crash if they fly erratically. The director told him to maintain this position and hover in place. Fugui grabbed his head in fear and thought that this white mist was created from spiritual Kai. The fog compressed into steam and completely engulfed the helicopter. This level is not what his master is capable of. This is a real cultivator. There is definitely an immortal on Yuking Mountain. Chunyang knelt down in front of Liu Mo and asked him to forgive them. Those inside the helicopter are his student and the ordinary people he brought them here. They don't know the rules and don't think anything bad. Let him punish him instead of them for not teaching them properly. Liu Mo asked, are his people there? He wondered, could a cultivator at such a low stage teach disciples? He asked, are they without evil intentions? Chunyang confirmed his words and said that he would pick it up right now. He won't reveal his existence, so he begs him not to kill them. Liu Mo replied that he has no intention of killing them, even if he just doesn't flaunt the fact that he is here. Is he clear about that? He thought that it was better for him not to cause trouble and to cultivate slowly. Chunyang said with tears in his eyes that he understood him. Liu Mo waved his hand and energy flags began to be placed around the area. He said that he created a form inside the mountain. Ordinary people can no longer enter here. Let him remember that he should not turn back when he leaves, otherwise he will be trapped inside. Chunyang replied that he understood and thanked him for his generosity. Liu Mo waved his hand again and cleared the fog around the helicopter. The pilot told the director that the fog had cleared and the helicopter had restored its instruments. But they are too close to the ground and there is still thick fog blocking the view. The director told him to increase their height. They would wait for the Dayashi there. The helicopter flew away and Chunyang exhaled in relief, after which he bowed to him and said that he dared to ask one more question. He had never met a cultivator as strong as him. The cultivation path is difficult and lonely. If he ever faces the question, can he help him a little? He thought that he might never meet anyone of his caliber again. He should try to get this opportunity, even if he has to beg. This might be his best chance to advance his cultivation. Liu Mo agreed and said that cultivators helping each other is as natural as the Great Tao. If he has any questions, let him come to the foot of the mountain. However, he hopes that he will not talk about it, as he would like to cultivate in this world. Chunyang said that he understood everything and thanked him. After that he stepped over the barrier and stopped. He took an amulet out of his pocket, and while burning it, he told the elder that he had met a real immortal. At this time, the helicopter was hovering nearby and at one moment the door suddenly opened. Fugui and the director called out to him and he told them that if they didn't want to die, then they should get out of here right now. At this time, incense was burning in an unknown place and the unknown girl heard the words of Chunyang that there was still an immortal in this world. Someone handed her an amulet and she told this person to quickly give it to her. At this time, Liu Mo stood in the middle of the forest and sighed with relief. He said that they had finally left. Whoever sent this cultivator here, now that his location was exposed, he should be more vigilant. He's been having trouble clearing the pill for the last 2 days. He's wondering if there's any advice on the internet about this. He looked at his phone and saw that he had 4 new messages. He thought, who sent him so much? He looked at the message from Dahlia, who asked when he was free. She wants to meet him. Seeing that he was not answering, she sent several more messages and asked him to answer when he saw it. He replied that he was here. Why does the Velvet Fairy need him? At that time Dahlia was driving in the car and said that he took so long to answer her. She already thought that he hit his head while he was cultivating and took off to heaven. But she needs to go to the capital, then she can arrange a meeting with him. She wrote to him that she was now going to the capital for a broadcast. It was for 7 days, so she invited him to meet after that. Liu Mo agreed and she told him that they agreed. He better come, otherwise she will be angry. He agreed again and she said that then she would sleep. For now, she had slept very little for the last couple of days. Liu Mo thought that even a professional like her has to go on broadcasts and sell things. Making money is not so easy. Suddenly he remembered the pills and said that although his pills did not help in cultivating the Velvet Fairy, they could still nourish and restore her spirit. He asked if she could send her address. He has a gift for her. Without thinking twice, she wrote him her address, and Zhang Jin told her that it seemed they were late again. The phenomenon had already disappeared. Are they still going there? Dahlia yawned and told her to forget about it. She was tired during the night of the broadcast, so she wants to go home and rest. Zhang Jin said that she wondered who thought of going there to see the phenomenon. Now that it is no longer there, workers like her have to work overtime to take her home. Dahlia giggled and said she did a good job. She'll ask the studio to give her a raise when she gets back. Zhang Jin turned the car around and said that this is better. She finally said what she wanted to hear. At this time, Liu Mo came to the courier company and said that he needed to deliver it to Mo City, Jin River District, Building 18 on the 14th floor. The courier company employee said it would cost 15 yuan. Liu Mo counted his savings in his head and said that the recipient would pay for it. After he left the courier company, his phone rang. He received a message congratulating him on reaching the required number of views. Now his account can become their partner and gain access to the sale of souvenirs. Let him verify and try. Liumo was happy and thought, now he can trade online like the Elder Velvet Fairy and that blonde immortal old man. It's great. He just finished a batch of pills, he can sell them and make money. But how much should he sell it for? The formula is not his and they gave it to him for free. The oven costs 500 yuan, but it is very cheap, so he can consider it a donation from the old man. He collected herbs in the mountains, from which he can make 10 pills. If he does the math, he thinks 100 yuan is not a bad price. He put the pill up for sale and asked, do they want to cultivate? Want to learn the Tao and become a cultivator? Then have them try one of his brain-clearing pills. These pills will help them get rid of toxins and allow ordinary people to unleash their potential and cultivate. And all this for 100 yuan. Some man came across this ad and asked, is this toy sold for 100 yuan? He laughed and said that it was immediately obvious that this was some kind of deception. People who sell immortality pills and claim that it is a panacea that can give them immortality are definitely scammers. He called out to his dog named Sen King and asked, is this true? The dog barked in agreement and the man looked at the words that his immortality was very close. Did he think about immortality? He looked at these words again and gave in to temptation. He said it was only 100 yuan. Compared to how much he spent trying to cultivate, this is a small thing. He can live without these 100 yuan. He called out to his dog and said that he would take it for a walk. He left the phone on his chair and he received a message that the order had been accepted. His immortality was just around the corner. At this time, in the studio, Jiang Jin walked into Dahlia's room and asked if she was ready. They need to go to the studio, they will start broadcasting soon. She approached her and said that she had collected the parcel from the administrator. Dahlia took the package and asked if it was paid for at the reception. But she didn't order anything. The sender's address is the Great Banyan Tree. What kind of nonsense is this? Jiang Jin laughed and asked if it was from a fan. Why doesn't she open it and see what's inside? She replied that she had received various things from fans, but this was the first time she had to pay for shipping. They opened the package and were surprised at what was inside. The box contained a golden pill that emitted a pleasant aroma. They smelled it and said it smelled so good. Dahlia thought that she felt like she woke up after a good sleep, then ate a hearty and tasty meal, and then went to a massage and spa. This energy flows through her body. It's like she's being cleansed from the inside. All the pores are open to absorb at least a drop more of this aroma. It smells so good. She closed the lid and said it was a bit suspicious. She'd better put it aside for now. Jiang Jin asked, what is this? Dahlia replied that she doesn't know, but she can tell that it's something unusual, so she suggests that she close it for now. She invited her to go to the studio since the broadcast would begin soon. She can put this box in her drawer. Jiang Jin looked at the box again in surprise and put it in Dahlia's box. At this time, the courier came to the man and said that his parcel had been delivered. The man took the small box and asked if he needed to pay for shipping. What kind of seller is this? He went back into the house and asked what it was. Is it just a plastic ball? He was deceived again. Getting angry, he threw the pill box on the floor and said that let all these cultivators disappear. Enough of the deceivers. He looked at Liu Mo's ad and asked, what kind of immortality? What an idiot he is for falling for this. He added it to the blacklist and headed out of the house and asked who needs cultivation anyway. He'd rather spend his money on women and alcohol. The dog barked after him in surprise, and when the door slammed shut, the dog sniffed the pill and ate it. The dog licked his lips and several hours passed. Dahlia yawned and said that the broadcast was finally over. She opened her eyes and was very surprised at what happened to her room. She wondered where this fog came from. Her room smells so nice. She walked up to the table and said that it seemed like the smell was coming from here. She opened the drawer and revealed the box of pills. She took the pill and said it smelled so good. It's like it's asking you to eat it. She looked back and thought that Jiang Jin had already left. No one would know if she just tried it, right? Nothing will happen just once. She popped the pill into her mouth and thought she couldn't resist it. She swallowed it and 5 minutes passed. She lay down on the bed and said that she was so scared when the pill melted in her mouth, it seemed like there was no difference. She wondered why she was so worried. She closed her eyes and said that she needed to sleep. She had to get up early tomorrow. Suddenly, she opened her eyes wide and felt pain. Her heart is beating so fast, it hurts. Was it really poison? She doesn't want to die. At this time, the man was driving with his friend in a car. His friend called him Brother Kyle and said that he had always been interested in cultivation. What does he think about those 4 beasts above Yuking Mountain? He replied that this was probably someone's trick. Cultivation and immortality only happen in books. It's all nonsense. His friend laughed and agreed with him. He told him not to sleep long today. He drank enough. Kyle agreed and thanked him for giving him a ride. He lit a cigarette and thought about cultivation. After that, he threw the cigarette on the ground and crushed it with his foot, sending everything to hell. He came home and said that just the thought of it made him angry. He'll get rid of this nonsense now. Who needs this cultivation if he is already rich anyway? His dog, who was sitting on a chair, cleared his throat and asked if he had finally decided to return home. Kyle was surprised and the dog asked if alcohol had brainwashed him. Why is he standing with his hands raised? Kyle swore loudly and asked if his dog was talking. He had too much to drink. He rushed to his dog Sand King and asked him not to scare him. He's not sleeping, right? Sand King hit him in the face and he flew into the distance. Sand King asked, is he in pain? Kyle confirmed his dog's words and Sand King, exhaling cigarette smoke, said that this means he is not sleeping. Sand King said that from now on, he needs to follow 3 rules. First, this is his home. He is the owner, he should listen to him. Second, let him buy more of these pills and bring them to him. He wanted to talk about the 3rd rule, but Kyle interrupted him and exclaimed that he was an ungrateful dog. He raised him for so many years, loved him like a father, and now he rebels against him. Sand King kicked him and said that he feeds him the same tasteless food every day, locks him at home when he goes out, puts a leash on him for walks, and also castrated him. Does he say that he loved him? Let him not worry, he will love him too. So let him listen to him carefully. This is his home, he will live by his rules. Does he understand everything? The next morning Jang Jin came to Dahlia's apartment and said that she bought her soy milk. She saw that there was no one in the living room and asked if she had woken up yet. She knocked on her room and told her to come inside. She knocked again and called out to her. At this time, Dahlia was sitting on her bed and was smeared with some kind of disgusting liquid. Jang Jin came into her room and asked in surprise what she had smeared herself with. It smells disgusting. Dahlia replied that she didn't know. Her body ached all night and then she started sweating a lot. She's going to go take a shower, so she'll explain everything later. Jang Jin agreed and said that she would help her change the bed linen. Dahlia went to the shower and began to wash off all the dirt from herself. A few minutes later Jang Jin came into the bath and said that she was amazing. Dahlia looked at her in surprise and she said that her complexion was healthier and her skin was softer. What kind of potion did she drink that changed her so much? Dahlia replied that she only ate that strange pill. It seemed to be asking her to eat it, so she couldn't resist. She started to unscrew the cap of the bottle, but did not calculate the strength and squeezed it too hard. She asked if she had overdone it. Since when is she so strong? Jang Jin grabbed her hand and said that she needed to take her to the hospital now. This not normal. Dahlia asked her not to pull it and tried to pull her hand away. When she pulled her hand away, she threw Jang Jin over herself and she fell onto the bed. She apologized to her and said that she didn't do it on purpose. Jang Jin, lying on the bed, said that she wanted to say that they would go to the hospital after the broadcast because it was about to start. But this is simply not normal. What if her life is in danger? She has to tell the producer about this. They are going to the hospital now. After completing all the tests, Dahlia told her that as far as she could see, she was fine. Jang Jin looked at the test results sheet and said that the results were not only good, but also the past problems were gone. Even her myopia has disappeared. It's simply incredible. Dahlia said that the package said that the sender was an ancient banyan tree at the foot of Yuking Mountain. Maybe the immortal sent her the pill. Jang Jin said that she is back with her rich imagination. Let her be glad that she didn't get poisoned and didn't have stomach problems. Suddenly Dahlia remembered that the slow cultivator told her that he wanted to send her a gift and he also lived near Yuking Mountain. What if it was him? At this time, Liu Mo was collecting herbs and received a message. He thought someone bought his pills. He saw that the Velvet Fairy called him Mr. Immortal in a message and asked, is he here? She needs to ask something. Liu Mo thought, why did she suddenly call him Mr. Immortal? Does he also want to ask something? She wrote that yesterday she received the pill. When she took it, it was as if she had been reborn. Did he send this to her? Liu Mo was surprised. Has she been reborn? Even his best pills only reach the 5th cycle. If he eats this, then the pills will contribute very little to his cultivation, but for a professional like her, the pills will relieve fatigue at most. The pill that seemed to make her reborn. It must be a gift from an expert in alchemy. He cannot accept praise for such a thing. He replied that it was not from him. She asked in disappointment, is this really not from him? He replied that it really wasn't from him. At that time she stood in the hospital and thought, if not from him, then from whom? Jang Jin said that she said that it was not him. He's just using it. He pretends to be a cultivator, talks about his discoveries and asks for a recipe for pills. Let her stop falling for his deception. She saw that she was looking at her phone again and asked what she was doing. Dahlia showed her advertisements for pill sales and told her that she wanted to buy all the pills that were available. Who knows, maybe she will find out everything. They walked towards the exit and Jang Jin called her a rich young lady and asked how she could spend tens of thousands of yuan on such things. Ordinary people like her, their hearts bleed. Dahlia giggled and said that she would find the sender of this pill and go live with him. She can't believe he's still silent about it. At this time, Liu Mo sneezed loudly and said that a hair got into his nose. Suddenly he felt someone's presence and tensed. At this time, Chunyang and his disciple Fugui were climbing the mountain. His student asked why they were returning here. Chunyang called him stupid and said that they were coming back here to cultivate. He said that he traveled with him a lot through the mountains and rivers, seeing many mystical phenomena. Does he feel anything now? Fugui wiped the sweat from his face and said that he felt tired. Chunyang asked, does he feel like he has become stronger in spirit in these mountains? Fugui hesitantly agreed, and his teacher said something because he could sense the spiritual kai that naturally existed in their world. In other words, the spiritual root. The disciple exclaimed, spiritual root, meaning he can cultivate to become immortal. The teacher asked, cultivate so that he could become immortal. What does he think is immortality? His student joyfully replied that immortals have limitless power. The teacher said it was wrong. Fugui then asked, are they separated from the mortal world? Chunyang said again that this is wrong. His student exclaimed that he knew. Immortals are those who help the weak, fight injustice, and protect their world. His teacher smoothed his beard and said that it was still wrong. Immortals are people too. They have 7 emotions and 6 passions. They have a desire for need. Some are evil, some are not. He can only guide him to the beginning of his cultivation. There are many mystical and complex things that he can only study on his own. He patted him on the head and said that he really wanted him to be kind and be patient, because once everything starts, everything will depend on him. They stopped at the edge of a cliff, and Chunyang said that this is a good place, so he invites him to stop here. Her student asked, will they rest here? Chunyang sat down and replied that this was not the case. In their time, spiritual kai had degraded so much compared to ancient times that they could consider a place with such a concentration of spirituality as Yuking Mountain to be the sacred land of cultivators. Today he will teach him how to absorb spiritual power into his body. Does he remember the breathing techniques he taught him? He needs to move yang clockwise around the body and collect spiritual kai. Then he needs to concentrate and absorb, destroy, transform, dissipate, and collect the cycle. He needs to cleanse the body of impurities, temper the mind, and condense the Tao. From ashes to ashes, from dust to dust, he needs to draw strength from the cycle of the natural world. Energy began to emanate from his teacher, and at this time Liu Mo was watching them from a tree. He looked at the old man and thought, is it him? The old Taoist is on the verge of a breakthrough, and the young Taoist next to him is not bad. It has some imperfections, but its spiritual root is good. If he trains properly, he will definitely achieve success. He thinks it's fate, so he will help them. Suddenly, a bright column of light headed into Chunyang's body, and he felt a surge of strength. A bright column of light rushed into the sky, and a flying dragon appeared around it. Chunyang's eyes lit up, and Fugui called out to his teacher in concern. He thought, had he really broken through? Chunyang clenched his hands into a fist and thought that he had broken through. He began to cry and said that he had been stuck in the second stage of building the foundation for 30 years. He thought that he had already reached his maximum. But, having borrowed spirituality from a professional, he broke through to the 3rd stage and received a couple of decades of life. This is a blessing from heaven. Liu Mo said that the old Taoist's cultivation is weak, but he wants to study the Tao with all his heart. What a pity, his talent is too mediocre. He jumped down from the tree and decided to head towards them. Chunyang told his disciple that each of the dozens of cultivators had been stuck on building the foundation for many years. It took at least 10 years before anyone could break through further, because spiritual kai is a subtle and complex thing. His disciple congratulated him and asked so he can continue teaching him how to cultivate. The old man laughed and said that he was lucky. Since he has broken through, his teacher is now considered the best Taoist among all Huazia. Fugui thought that even after the breakthrough, the teacher was still the same. Suddenly Chunyang felt someone's presence behind him and turned around sharply. He said that he knows this aura, this is a professional. He bowed to Liu Mo and said that he was very grateful for his help in cultivation. Fugui continued to stand in surprise, and his teacher, forcing him to bow, asked why he did not greet the elders. Fugui said that this is an ordinary person, he doesn't even look older than him. Is he sure that he is a professional? Was he wrong? His teacher apologized to Liu Mo and said that his student had just begun his training and could not sense spiritual kai. He hopes he will forgive him. Liu Mo replied that it was no big deal. Why did they come to Yuking Mountain? Chunyang looked up at him and said that thanks to him, the mountain had become a sacred cultivation land. He only wanted to cultivate a little here. If he doesn't mind, he will be very grateful to him. Liu Mo thought that this old man was very polite, but didn't he have one stage? Why would he be so emotional? He asked what their plans were after the breakthrough. Chunyang replied that he wanted to go on a journey with his disciple, find the sect, and help him take the path of cultivation. Will he say anything? Liu Mo replied that it was a matter between the teacher and the student. He did not need to ask him. But he has a question, what outstanding sects do they know in this world? Chunyang didn't answer and thought, shouldn't a professional of this level know everything about the situation in the world? Does he not know how cultivation has degraded and how few cultivators there are now? Suddenly he realized that at this level, solitude alone would take hundreds of years. He completely lost touch with the world. He said that he probably didn't know, but the heavenly Tao was damaged and the spiritual Kai was in decline. Most cultivators are hiding. Regarding sects, he does not know how many there are. Liu Mo was disappointed and thought that based on his words, professional cultivators were pretending to be ordinary people. Such an old cultivator simply couldn't see them. Degradation of spiritual Kai? Is he joking or what? The spiritual Kai here is many times better than in his previous world. While Liu Mo was thinking, Chun Yang looked at his face with a sparkle in his eyes and thought that he had not seen his face last time, but now he had a good look. There really is an immortal aura around him. He said that he thought that no one could surpass the golden foundation stage, but after seeing him, he realized that there was a lot he didn't know. Liu Mo closed his eyes and thought that he would wait until he realized how many cultivators were hiding in the city. He said that his pleas were pointless. The world is big, there are many people here, so he cannot compare with real professionals. Chun Yang and Fu Gui exclaimed at the same time, "Is there something even stronger?" Chun Yang bowed and thanked him for the reminder. He had broken through with it and was immensely grateful for that. Can he learn his name, that he may know who his virtue was? Liu Mo replied that there was no need for ceremony. He said his name and said that he just wants to cultivate peacefully, so he's hopeful. Chun Yang understood what he meant and said that he could rest easy. He would not tell anyone about his great name. They imposed themselves on him, but they will never bother him again, so they will go. They said goodbye to him and left. At one point Fu Gui decided to turn around and saw that Liu Mo was no longer there. He said he disappeared. Is he really immortal? His teacher did not answer his question and said that he would probably show him the path and show him the whole world. After a while, Kyle wrote to Liu Mo and said that he had eyes, but could not see Tai Mountain. He asks not to blame anyone but him for this. This is just a fraction of his sincerity. He hopes he won't think it's too little. He also wants to ask him for more pills. He is willing to pay 10,000 yuan for each. At this time, Liu Mo read his message and asked, the total would be 100,000 yuan. But who is this Emperor Kyle? At this time, Kyle was crawling on his knees around his house and begging Liu Mo to sell him these pills. He really regrets letting his dog eat this treasure. This time he will eat it himself so that his stupid dog doesn't get to it. Liu Mo looked at his message and thought, the person calling him a great immortal and willing to pay him 100,000 yuan came out of nowhere. This is very strange, only if it is a deceiver. The pills are sold in the official store. He can buy this one there. He doesn't have to write to him. He also offers a high price. In the previous world, the elders warned him about the kind-hearted ones who like to give things away for free. All these deceivers will drive him to death if he takes something from them. He thinks that he can deceive him just because he is not a pro on the internet. Let him dream about it. Liu Mo wrote something to him, and at that time Kyle read his message and asked, did he refuse him? He thought he wanted to deceive him. He got it wrong. He sent him another message, but Liu Mo had already blocked him. Kyle got upset and said that Mr. Immortal added him to the blacklist. Sand King approached him from behind and asked, will he continue to crawl here? He told him to buy the pill. He doesn't have to scream and cry. Kyle said that he tried to buy pills, but the Great Immortal not only didn't take the money, but also added him to the blacklist. He added it there first. He's probably still angry. Sand King read their correspondence and said that he was very angry. He would make sure that he was buried. Kyle asked in shock, is he a corpse? Sand King lit a cigar and asked, is he really that stupid? Most likely, the Great Immortal will simply ignore him. Kyle asked, is this true? Won't they kill him? Sand King told him to think about it. The one who sells these pills can be either an ordinary person or an immortal. If this is an ordinary person, then what if he is angry? But if not, why should he wait to kill him? Kyle said he was right. He was such a stupid dog, eating his own poop, chasing his own tail, and now he is calm, collected, smarter than most people. This is a divine pill. Sand King told him to stop talking nonsense and asked what was wrong with the pills. Kyle said that he wanted to buy everything, but the Great Immortal had already added him to the blacklist. Sand King told him to buy everything in the store. He thinks he can buy such pills for money. This is immortal destiny. If an immortal wants, he will receive such pills without even spending money. But if he doesn't want it, then he won't be able to get one even for a lot of money. Smiled and said that he was right. At this time, a new message came to Liu Mo's phone saying that he had a new order. Liu Mo was surprised and asked, have all 29 pills been sold? It was that Emperor Kyle who bought them. Well, since he bought them officially, he will sell them. Everything is legal, so he won't be able to deceive him later, even if he tries. After that, he put the phone in his pocket and went into the forest. After a while, Dahlia started broadcasting in the studio. She greeted her viewers and said that the topic of today's broadcast was fake cultivation pills. Viewers began to write that the Velvet Fairy missed only one day of broadcast. How did she change so much? Another viewer wrote that now his waifu is even more beautiful, she is now like an immortal. Another viewer wrote that he so wants to marry her. Another viewer asked if she had a new filter. This is a wonderful effect, where can she download this? The studio worker said it was incredible. They already have 5 million likes and 100,000 viewers on the broadcast. Dahlia told viewers that she recently bought a couple of cultivation pills, but some of them are not what they seem. To help others not to be deceived, she will show all the pills. She showed the pill and said that the seller stated that the golden base pill was made from a variety of medicinal herbs and sold for 1888 yuan each. But if she cuts it open, they can see that the pill is made of some kind of powdered flour and a layer of caramel and sugar, and they sell it for 1888 yuan. To make a pill, the alchemist must extract the essence from the herbs and process it under special conditions. A batch of pills can only be ready after days or even a week of aging, and there is also a high risk of ruining everything. She hopes that all her viewers will remember this and will not buy counterfeits. If they need medicine, then let them go to the pharmacy. Viewers began sending donations and writing in the comments that they trusted her and hated cheaters. At this time, Liu Mo was watching her broadcast and wondered what was going on. The Velvet Fairy talks about all the deceivers. Someone sold her a pacifier and made her angry. It's a good thing he didn't tell her the truth about the pill when she asked, otherwise he would have been the one to fool her. He put the phone on the table and said that he still lacked the Tao in alchemy, so he couldn't sell pills anymore. The most important thing is its cultivation, everything else doesn't matter. He began to meditate, and at this time Dahlia exposed the pill sellers. She crushed the pill with a hammer and said that it was made of glue, so they would add this seller to the blacklist. It's terrible that among so many pills it's so difficult for them to find real ones. Zhang Jin gave her a thumbs up and said that her broadcast was again in the top. She even broke her own record. Dahlia was upset and thought that she had bought pills from all the big online stores, but she couldn't find the real pill. She had no idea who the sender was. Suddenly Emperor Kyle sent her 999 super rockets and wrote in the chat that he bought a real pill. His dog ate it and became wiser. One of the spectators asked, "Is this Kyle?" He gives her rockets again. Another viewer wrote that it seems he was late. 3 hours of broadcast have already passed, and he just decided to appear with his revelation. Another viewer agreed with the comment above and asked if his dog has gotten smarter. His dog is also smart, he can even give her a paw. The Velvet Fairy's dog wrote that he can also read and write. During this time, Kyle furiously posted comments and asked what do they know about this. His dog actually found spirituality. The dog not only wears clothes, but also drinks his expensive alcohol. Dahlia saw this message and asked if his dog had become spiritual. She told Zhang Jin to display Emperor Kyle on a separate monitor. She told viewers that if everyone was in doubt, why don't they invite their friend Emperor Kyle on the broadcast to prove that his dog has really gotten smarter. The Emperor will show them this, won't he? Kyle asked if they think he's afraid of them. Now they will see everything for themselves. He joined her broadcast and Dahlia asked where his wiser dog was. Suddenly Sand King hit him with his paw and stood in front of the camera and asked, was this beauty calling him? He giggled and said she was so beautiful. What cream does she use? Dahlia was very surprised and asked if the dog really talks. Pervert dog. One of the spectators said that this cannot be true, the dog really talks. Is this a montage or is there someone in a dog costume? One of the viewers wrote to the others to look at the background. They can understand that this is not a real dog. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. What the hell is this? Another viewer agreed with him and said that I was a talking dog. Then the authorities broke down the doors and took the poor thing away in the name of science. Sand King asked what do they know about this? Do they think all dogs hang out with people for fun? If anyone dares to catch him, he will show them his strength. But if journalists are interested in him, then they better send a beauty, otherwise he won't answer. Kyle went into the forest into the cell and asked, do they believe him now? His dog actually talks. Cultivators and spirits really exist. Immediately after that his broadcast was interrupted and Sand King asked why he turned off the broadcast. He spoke to her. Kyle said that he was not familiar with human society, so he prevented his disgrace. If the authorities come, he won't be able to save him. Sand King said let them come if they dare, and let him go and buy him games and expensive alcohol. Let him get out of his sight, he is tired of constantly looking at his ugly face. Kyle frustratedly obeyed his dog's orders, while Dahlia told the audience that the connection with the Emperor had been severed. She quickly said goodbye to the audience and asked Zhang Jin, did she see this? He said his dog became spiritual after eating the pill. Zhang Jin asked her to wait and asked the producer if they had a recording of the broadcast. Can they check if it was a dog or a montage? The producer replied that they had a recording, but the analysis would take some time. Zhang Jin told her that she heard the producer, they will come here tomorrow. They still need to examine the changes in her body. The doctor checked her, but she needs to be careful. Dahlia agreed and thought that if this dog really became smarter after the pill, this pill could have come from the same person who gave her. Who could it be? Maybe it's a slow cultivator. Last time he denied it, but why is she still thinking about him? At this time, Liu Mo was meditating and received a new message. The Velvet Fairy asked, "Is he free tomorrow?" She wants to meet him. He was delighted and agreed to the meeting. Then she asked where they could meet. Suddenly a thought came to Liu Mo's mind and he thought, she just exposed the deceivers and now she suddenly wants to meet him. Is this really a trap? With her abilities, would she need to come up with something to deceive a natural cultivator like him? On the other hand, if he refuses, she might get angry, and if a professional of her level gets angry, the consequences will be unimaginable. He can't be so careless. He will choose a place where he can escape if something goes wrong. He wrote that they could meet tomorrow evening at a tea house at the foot of Yuking Mountain. She agreed and he thought that it was good that he had earned some money. Now he could treat her to tea. The next day, Zhang Jin told Dahlia that this dog is now in the news. She needs to watch the interview from channel 1818 News. The dog's owner's name is really Kyle. He's really a husky and he can talk and walk on his hind legs. Dahlia started watching a video in which San King told the cameraman to move closer. He needed to adjust the angle. After that, the frame switched to Kyle and the reporters asked him when he found out that his dog was talking. He replied that he really regrets it. He bought a pill online and fed it to his dog, thinking it was a pacifier. Who knew he would get wiser instead? While Dahlia was watching the video, Zhang Jin told her that someone from yesterday's broadcast told the news. They immediately went to the scene and found the dog. There is more than one channel. They are all official. This is not a hoax. Dahlia's eyes widened when she heard that he bought the pill. He knows who the seller is. She asked where Kyle lives. They will go to him now. They arrived at the airport and Zhang Jin told her that rich people are completely different. They go where they want and when they want. Dahlia stopped and Zhang Jin asked what is it. She replied that she had a meeting with a slow cultivator in the evening. Zhang Jin looked at her and said that everything is fine. Let her just ask him to reschedule the date for tomorrow and then she will fly out in the evening. Dahlia asked, date. At this time, Liu Mo sneezed and thought it was strange that he had been sneezing a lot lately. He stood opposite the entrance to the tea house and thought, when will the Velvet Fairy come? At this time, a crowd of people and reporters gathered in front of Kyle's house. They were all interested in him and his dog and asked them to come out. Kyle carefully opened the curtains and looked outside and said that he was too reckless. He did not expect that what he was talking about would attract so much attention. They can't even leave the house. He looked at San King and said that he was telling him that if someone came to take him away, he would not be able to stop them. Besides, they found out about the pills. He couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't steal them. San King said they could try. Kyle headed to the door and said that he would go and tell them that it was all a montage and that he should hide. They will leave when they realize that it is all a deception. San King took a sip of alcohol from his glass and agreed. But when Kyle opened the front door, Director Wu appeared in front of him and asked, is his name Kyle? They're from the Bureau of Supernatural Investigation. They would like to ask him and his dog to come with them. Kyle repeated, Supernatural Investigation Bureau. What kind of nonsense is this? He had never heard of such a thing. He thinks he will go somewhere with a bunch of unknown people who suddenly appeared on the threshold of his house. He shouted at them to get out of here. Suddenly, Director Wu's security guard grabbed his hand and Kyle said that he would call the police. Director Wu revealed that he was calling his father and said that they came without warning, so they took the liberty of calling his father. He put the phone to his ear and his father told him to quickly come with them. Without thinking twice, Kyle agreed. At this time, a bus was driving along a mountain road with Fu Gui and his teacher on it. He thought that he had been studying with the master for almost 20 years, but this was the first time he had heard about the sect, and after the breakthrough, his aura completely changed. His spirit is as sharp as a sword. His spiritual kai overflows like that of an immortal. Does that mean everyone in the sect is just as strong? So everyone can cultivate to immortality and do all these things. He joyfully turned to the teacher and wanted to ask something, but he saw that he was watching videos with beautiful girls and asked, does he have a conscience? Chun Yong asked, what is he saying? Right now he is teaching the Tao to young people in the chat. Suddenly the director called him and he picked up the phone. The director told him that they had found a dog that had gained spirituality and learned to speak. He needs his help. Chun Yong replied that he knew it. He saw it on the news. It was probably a hoax. Director Wu said that this is not a hoax. They have already arrested the dog and the owner. The case is up to them. They need his help in studying the dog. Chun Yong was surprised and thought, is this really true? Which saint gave spirituality to dogs? He replied that he understood him. He would be there in half an hour. He rushed to the driver and told him to install it in the bus. His wife is giving birth. They need to return urgently. The driver stepped on the gas and said that he understood him. After a while he stopped on the side of the road and said that this was a big event. He couldn't drop them off, but it was still closer from here. Chunyang replied that everything was fine and they began to leave. The driver looked out the side window and chuckled and said that he was such an energetic old man, even children were his age. This is admirable. When the bus pulled away, Fugui told the teacher that they were 300 kilometers from the city. How will they get to Director Wu in half an hour? His teacher replied that it was simple. He grabbed his hand and they quickly ran. At this time, in Director Wu's office, Kyle and his dog were sitting on a chair. San King said that they have been keeping them here for an hour, what do they need? Kyle replied that he didn't know. He looked at Director Wu and asked if he could at least tell him what they were waiting for. The director took a sip of tea and said that he could tell them. First, he invites them to behave themselves when they meet him. If they anger him, he could destroy their entire family. They got scared and thought, is it really that serious? The director wanted to call his name, but Chunyang entered the room with his out-of-breath student. Director Wu spread his arms to the sides and told Dayashi that he was here. Kyle and Sen King asked at the same time, is this a Taoist? Director Wu approached Taoshi and said that a couple of days had passed, and he was already like a completely different person. Chunyang smoothed his beard and said that he had good powers of observation and had recently been lucky enough to make a breakthrough. Director Wu was surprised and thought that in their time, spiritual Kai was especially rarefied and confused, making a breakthrough was extremely difficult. No one has succeeded in doing this in recent decades, but how did he do it? Kyle thought, is this the immortal? He feels a bright aura from him, he wants to kneel before him and serve him. Chunyang thought that this technique was very effective. San King looked at them and thought that this was bad. What if he thought it was delicious and made a cutlet out of it? He needs to run. This is a great moment. He will run away while they are distracted. He only needs to make one jerk. He deftly slipped past them and, heading straight into the doorway, laughed and said that they didn't have time. Director Wu ordered him to stop the dog and his guards rushed forward. Kyle got scared and thought that if he ran away, they would take it out on him and destroy the whole family. Chunyang brought 2 fingers to his face and stopped the dog with a slight wave of his hand. San King froze in place and thought, what happened? He can't move. Chunyang ordered the dog to approach him and he abruptly threw the dog to the side. The dog hit the wall and said that this is violence. He will report him to the Animal Welfare Society. Chunyang ordered him to be silent and his mouth closed. Kyle fell to his knees in front of Chunyang and said that his last name was Lee and his first name was Kyle. He asks him to take his students. He began to cry and said that he had been striving for the Tao since childhood. He's willing to go through anything, so he asks him to teach him how to cultivate. Chunyang examined him carefully and noticed that he had a spiritual root, although it was worse than Fugui, but just having a spiritual root made him a chosen one. Suddenly Director Wu grabbed Kyle by his clothes and told him to stop causing trouble. Chunyang raised his hand and said to be quiet, he could teach him. But when choosing a student, he relies not only on talent, but also on personal qualities. If he really wants to know the Tao, then he will monitor himself for 3 years. He will take him on as a student if he can stand it. Kylio was delighted and asked, is this true? He fell on his knees in front of him and thanked him. Chunyang told him to live his normal life, he has ways to learn it in these 3 years. Director Wu looked at Chunyang and asked the Taoshi, what's wrong with the dog? Chunyang walked towards the dog and said that he would take a look now. He raised his hand in front of the dog and extended it forward, after which he touched the dog's forehead and wondered why there was a divine pill in his stomach. The pill has not yet completely dissolved, but the dog has already become much stronger physically. He exclaimed that this was such a waste. Why did he need to feed the pill to the dog? If he had been given this pill, he would have made another breakthrough. Director Wu noticed that he was sad and asked what is it. Fugui looked at the teacher and asked why he was crying. Chunyang shouted that they had angered him. San King was scared and Chunyang thought that if he beat him to death, all the effects of the pill would disappear. Even if he can get it, it is already spoiled by his nature. If he eats this, he may become mentally retarded. He called out to Kyle and asked where he got this pill from. Let him tell him everything in detail. Kyle began to tell him everything, and at this time the crowd was still standing near Kyle's house and a Dahlia car drove up. Jang Jin told her that official channels confirmed that the dog was a deception. It seems the dog's owner is not at home either. She thinks he is hiding after being exposed. Dahlia was upset and said that it was time for them to return. They had already missed a lot. Jang Jin introduced her to a man named Qin Xiao and said that he lived nearby and knew Kyle, and he also helped them organize this trip. Qin Xiao said that it was a great honor to meet the Velvet Fairy. He should be the one to thank them. Suddenly Dahlia remembered something and took a notebook out of her bag. She wrote something down there and tearing off the page told Qin Xiao that she needed to hurry to the broadcast. Can she ask him to give this to Kyle if he sees it? She wants to see him in person. Qin Xiao agreed and said that she and he would drink together. Don't let her worry, he'll definitely tell him. They left and said that they were in a hurry, next time they would treat him. He waved to them and said that it was an honor to help the Velvet Fairy. At this time, Kyle had already told everything and said that this is how it all happened. Chun Young asked, did he buy the pill online? Isn't this all a scam? Director Wu agreed with him and asked who would sell the pills that gave the dog spirituality. Chun Young suddenly remembered why the pill seemed familiar to him. It had the same aura as the spiritual Kai of Yuking Mountain. Why does Mr. Liu Mo sell such pills online? Only if he is not preparing to enter the mortal world. Does he sow karma? Is it because of what is about to happen? But shouldn't there be a lull? Suddenly he called out to Director Wu and said that he had an urgent matter that he needed to attend to immediately. He and Fu Gui will be gone for a couple of days, and if something happens during these couple of days, then let him try to control it and suppress it. Director Wu told him not to worry, they had already given the command to spread the word that everything was a fiction. And they also want to track the seller of this wonderful pill, they won't do anything to him, even if they find him. Chun Young agreed and said that he needed to be careful. Let them remember, no matter what happens, they must not go to Yuking Mountain, otherwise he will not be able to save them. Director Wu agreed and Chun Young asked Kyle if he could contact the seller through his phone. He replied that he tried to send him money and he blocked him. Chun Young thought that it was normal for professionals of his level to be out of this world. He told Kyle that he needed to cooperate with the director and not cause him any more trouble. Kyle bowed to him and said that he would carry out his orders. Director Wu asked Taoshi what should they do with the dog. Chun Young thoughtfully stroked his beard and said that he has a talisman of silence and closure. Let them use these talismans to stop the dog if he wants to harm someone or cause a commotion. Of course, this is only to control the situation, and if he knows that they used it for personal reasons, then they will deal with it when he returns. He'll be back in about a week, let them be careful. Kyle and Director Wu, holding amulets in their hands, looked at San King and laughed maliciously. San King asked what they want to do with him. After that, the screams of a dog began to be heard from the office. At this time, on Mount Yuking, dark energy began to emanate from the temple. At this time, Liu Mo was still standing at the tea house and suddenly felt that the structure around the teacher's temple was shaking. He wondered if he should postpone his meeting with the Velvet Fairy. He rushed out and said that moving around the teacher's house was more urgent. He can always come back here. At this time, San King was lying helplessly on the floor, and Kyle, laughing, said that he had not had so much fun for a long time. The director's subordinate entered the room and said that they had determined where the package was delivered from. According to their intelligence, the package was delivered to Mr. Kyle's house from a barn near Yuking Mountain. Kyle asked the director what should they do. The teacher clearly said that they should not go near Yuking Mountain. Director Wu replied that he did not know. He told him to look after the dog and he would make the call. He called his boss and he asked if something happened. Let him tell quickly why he called the old man. The director said that he guessed right. They have a huge problem. The boss told him not to mess with Yuking Mountain anymore, it is a special place. Let him listen to the Taoshi and not cause a commotion there. Director Wu agreed and thought that even the previous boss was telling him to obey Dayashi. Previously, he tried to find out about the teacher and student, but was left with nothing, as if they had appeared out of thin air. The boss told them to remember that there are some things that ordinary people are better off not knowing. The director said that he understood and returned back to the office. Kyle asked what they would do. Director Wu replied that it's okay, there is something on Yuking Mountain that it's better for them not to get involved in. Kyle thought that Director Wu held a position that his family wouldn't dare mess with, but there are things happening on the mountain that even he is afraid of. What kind of monster is hiding there? Suddenly his phone rang and he said that he needed to answer. His friend called him and said that he wouldn't believe it. The famous streamer came to his house to meet him and the talking dog, she even left him a note. Kyle asked, "Are you a streamer? What did she write?" His friend replied that this goddess is called Dahlia. She wrote that she also took a pill and something like that. Kyle and Director Wu were very surprised by his words and after a few seconds of silence, his friend asked, "What is it? Is he even here?" He laughed nervously and said that it seemed like the signal was bad, so they'd talk later. He hung up, and at this time Qin Shao was indignant and exclaimed, "He hung up, what a rude person he is." Director Wu asked Kyle if there was anything special about this streamer he was talking about. He replied that she was a host on the Talk Talk channel with dances and songs on the theme of cultivation, and especially it seems to him that she is magnificent. The director asked, "Is she great? And what else?" Kyle said nothing. Director Wu got angry and asked, "Is it okay?" Kyle asked him to wait and let him think. He remembered that she had looked strange lately. She was pale and looked a little better than the others, but suddenly her aura and appearance changed dramatically, as if she had become healthier and more alive. He showed him the photo and said that this is it. Director Wu looked at the photo and began to admire its beauty. He blushed and said that it was true that there was something unusual in her appearance. He invited him to find her and said that although they could not go to the mountain, they could still find out something from her. At this time, Liu Mo was on Yuking Mountain and went to his old house. He wondered if the building was collapsing. He needs to look at it first. He opened the doors of the temple and told the teacher that his student was at home. He lit the candles and told the teacher that he really should have listened to his warning and left only after the ascension. There are so many professionals in this world, his power is limited. His kindness and care for him made him lose his vigilance like in his previous life. He always said that he was too pure and trusting, but he doesn't know if that's a bad thing. Suddenly he heard a squeak and turned around. He saw a small mouse run through the crack in the door. Suddenly Liu Mo understood and said that he was wondering why he couldn't feel the breath of other people. Maybe it's all because of the mouse. The mouse ran into a room that the teacher had never allowed him to enter. He said that this room protects an important secret of their sect. If there is something important there for their sect, then he needs to save what the master left behind. He touched the door and destroyed it. He stopped in front of the entrance and remembered how the teacher told him that if he went there, he might die from Cayenne deprivation of vitality. The teacher always warned him about the dangers of this place, but the mouse seems to be okay. Now that he is strong, he has the body of a pseudo-immortal, his Cayenne vitality are in abundance. He must be able to hold out long enough to avoid even the most powerful curse. He stepped over the threshold of the room and stopped. He felt his body shaking from this evil force. Suddenly this feeling disappeared and he thought, what was the teacher hiding here? He needs to study this carefully. He won't rest until he finds out everything. He illuminated the room with his power and saw that there was a computer, a trash can and other things in the room. He looked around the room and said that there was nothing special here. He looked at the basket and thought, maybe there. He removed the rag covering the contents of the basket and saw discs with naked women there. He blushed and thought, is this a secret that will absorb Cayenne vitality? He quickly covered it with a rag and said that now he understood what he had done here. He sighed and said he was a little paranoid. It turns out that the teacher resorted to lies to hide it from him. Suddenly he felt the trembling again and it began to intensify. Suddenly all the furniture in the room began to shake and he said that something was definitely wrong here. He noticed a depression in the floor and touched it. He moved part of the tile to the side and saw in the hole a box that was completely covered with talismans. He said that he didn't even need to use his spiritual senses to feel the evil powers that this box exuded. Apparently this is what the master locked here. He noticed that the talismans on the box began to collapse and thought that he did not know what was inside, but he was sure that if it came out, he would be in trouble. If the teacher kept it, then he needs someone to sharpen it again, right? Under the box he noticed a letter and asked what it was. He opened the envelope and said that it was the teacher's handwriting. In the letter, the teacher called him a fool and said that if he was reading this, it means his teacher was no longer in this world. He told him not to come here, but he still didn't listen to him. He can't believe that he cultivated to the innate stage. Liu Mo read these lines and apologized to the teacher. He had truly reached the innate stage. He began to read further. The teacher wrote that if he reads this, he will tell him a few secrets of their sect. But first he needs to get rid of the discs in the trash. He can't let his teacher's reputation be ruined. Liu Mo asked, reputation. But the teacher had no reputation. His teacher wrote that this thing had been passed down in his family for 72 generations. They don't know what's inside anymore, but there's no way he can open that box. Liu Mo was surprised. 72 generations. This box must be over 1,000 years old. His teacher repeated in a letter that he should not open this box. The consequences would be unimaginable. If he has the opportunity, then let him bring it to the heir of the Tao sect. Liu Mo said that he understands that it is dangerous, but where can he find an heir? He decided to seal the spiritual power box for now, then he would think about where to find the heir. He added a few more seals to the box, and at this time, a dark clot appeared in one of the buildings in the city. The clot thought that he definitely felt the companion's aura. Why did it suddenly disappear? What happened? He needs to find out. After a while, in the Kunlun Mountains, Chunyang and Fu Gui climbed up the mountain. Fu Gui counted 1,000 steps and sat down on a stone and told the teacher that they had been climbing for an hour. After that he asked how long they still had to go. Chunyang replied that they were already there. Fu Gui saw nothing ahead and asked, has he gone crazy from old age? There's nothing here but frogs and more steps. And there is also a sign warning that they cannot go further because there are wild animals there. Chunyang took out the amulet and used it, commanding the hidden one to appear. After his words, everything around began to transform and a temple appeared in front of them. Chunyang turned to his student and said that the teacher would show him a new world. They entered the temple and saw people cleaning the area. One of them turned around and told the great guardian that he had returned. Chunyang sighed and Fu Gui was surprised. His teacher is the great guardian of this mysterious place. They walked inside and everyone immediately began to kneel before the great guardian. Fu Gui looked at all this and thought, is this the same old pervert who likes to watch broadcasts all day long? Everything is like a dream. Chunyang told them to stand up and asked where the Tao leader was. The man replied that the leader cultivates at the top of the cloud sea. Chunyang smoothed his beard and said that everything was clear to him. He pointed to Fugui and said that this was his student, their second teacher. Everyone immediately greeted the second teacher and began to say that he would need to have outstanding talent to attract the attention of the great guardian. Another man agreed with him and said that in cultivation with a guardian, a year is considered 10. Fugui was happy and thought, is he so impressive to them? It was like he was in a dream. Chunyang told him to follow him. They will go to the mountains. After that they began to climb the mountains, and he told his disciples to remember that when he meets the leader, he should not say anything unnecessary and let him behave respectfully. Fugui agreed and thought, the leader of the Tao is the leader of the entire Tao sect. He wonders what kind of person this is. It must be a gray-bearded old man in a cultivation robe, riding a cloud to see through objects like an immortal. Just the thought of meeting him excites him. They reached a huge door and Chunyang said that they had arrived. He knocked on the door and went inside. Fugui's eyes suddenly widened when he saw a white-haired girl in front of him. She waved to Chunyang and told her brother that he was back. Tears appeared in Chunyang's eyes and he called her his brother. Fugui fell into thought, is this the leader of the Tao? Why is she dressed like an anime loli? She's definitely being confused with a schoolgirl. Why did the teacher call her brother? What's going on here anyway? The girl patted his teacher on the head and said that he did a good job. Seeing this, Fugui was very surprised and thought, his teacher is an old pervert and Lolita is the leader of the Tao. This is the end of the entire sect. Chunyang asked what she thought of his stupid student. Immediately after that, her eyes glowed and Fugui thought that she seemed to see through him, as if nothing could hide from her gaze, as if with one look she could kill him if she wanted. She said that it was not bad, he had enough talent, and his heart was patient. It has a good basis for cultivation. Chunyang turned around with a smile and said that of course, this is his student. He hugged his student and said that this was his older brother, Nangongqian. By seniority, he should call her second teacher. Fugui whispered to him that she was a girl. Maybe he should call her auntie. His teacher cleared his throat and quietly said that if they were to fall into conventions, they should call her sister, but for some reason she liked being called brother. He can't convince her, so all he can do is do as she says. Fugui greeted the second teacher and she smiled. Chunyang told his student to wait here for a while, he needed to discuss something with his second teacher. Fugui agreed, and Nangongqian, with a slight wave of her hand, raised a pillar of light into the sky and they disappeared. Chunyang said that she is growing before our eyes. She formed an array with just a wave of her hand. She turned around and asked what kind of saint he met when he was in the mortal world. Chunyang replied that he is a professional at the top of this world. After that they sat down next to the incense burner and he told her everything. She said that when the underlying evil reappears, those who secretly guarded this world will also appear. Everything seems to be happening as she predicted. A month ago she used a mirror peeping into the heavens to see the future, but it cost her 10 years of her life. Chunyang called out to his brother in concern, but she raised her hand to interrupt him and continued speaking. The wolf will come, devouring the heavens, disaster will happen. Of course, many factors influence the future, but she is the only one who can try to change it. Chunyang asked in surprise, how is this possible? She said that since ancient times there has been a great evil whose purpose is to devour the world and bring chaos. It absorbs life and gains immortality, which is why it still exists. The evil's actions outraged the immortal sects, and they banded together to seal it away in hopes of gradually weakening the power. Of course, a great evil would not allow itself to be sealed, because it needs to devour the life forces that continue to exist. And every 10 cycles of rebirth, it sends a part of itself to bring destruction to the world. He said that a little more than 180 years had passed since the last time. The main forces of the immortal sect will not be able to stop this. She told him not to worry. According to her prediction, as long as the sects were weakened by the lack of spiritual kai, the great evil was also weakened. Over 1,000 years of imprisonment, its strength has decreased significantly. If all the professionals unite, it will be impossible to defeat them. He asked, is this true? She confirmed his words and said that this is why she wants to hold a meeting of all the great immortals so that they can fight the great evil together. He said that many professionals died in 3 cycles ago. He is afraid that there are too few people who can help them. She said they had no choice but to make an effort. Let him try to get that professional he was talking about because they will need all the help they can get. He replied that he would try to do it. At this time, people were walking on the streets of the night city. A woman and a man were sitting in one of the night bars. He invited her to go somewhere and promised that it would be fun. She asked cheerfully, just don't let him say that he wants to eat her. He led her to the exit and said that he would not eat her, but he would not mind if she eats him. A fair-haired man came into the bar and sat down at a table. He asked the girl for forgiveness since there were traffic jams. She replied that it was okay, she just came. He turned around and looked at the couple who had recently left the bar. After some time, they retired to an alley and the man told her that she was the most beautiful girl he had ever met. She asked then does he mind if she eats him. He replied that of course he didn't mind. Let her do what she wants. She smiled and said that was good. After that, her face became distorted and her smile turned into a terrible grimace. Her neck lengthened and her head headed straight towards the man. She bit off his head and the night alley was splattered with blood. The girl's head returned to its place and she said that it was so tasty. Suddenly lightning appeared in the sky and she got scared. Immediately after that she turned into a dark clot and started running. But at one moment the clot hit the barrier wall and was locked. The blonde man said that this is the 142nd time he has gone on a date and evil has ruined everything. The evil clot called him a guard and sent him to hell. Immediately after this, a dark arrow appeared behind the man's back, but he turned around and managed to dodge it in time. He jumped into the air and said that they are all vile creatures. He attacked the clot and said that he just wanted to get married in peace. A bright beam of light aimed at the evil clot, but it reflected its blow and the man said that the mantis was trying to stop the carriage. He snapped his fingers and light energy began to flow around the dark clot. As soon as the protective power of the dark clot dissipated, a ray of light rushed straight into it and pierced right through it. At the place where the clot was, the bodies of dead people appeared and the blonde man asked how much it had eaten. One of the bodies began to move and the dark clot rushed away. The man caught it and asked, "Is it running away?" A dark clot was sucked into the flask and the man asked how he could let it go when he already left the date to catch it anyway. He took out his phone and said that it was dirty, so he needed to order cleaning. Suddenly old Pure Yang called him and he picked up the phone and asked, "Is it him?" Chun Yang called him Sun Jifeng and asked how his date went. He's not kidding, but he's almost 100 years old. Even for a guard he is quite old. All his students and their students have already gotten married, why can't he? Sun Jifeng got angry and told him to say what he wanted or he would drop the challenge. Chun Yang sighed and said that he was already so old that his nerves were gone. They are organizing a meeting of immortals next month. He hopes the guards will come too. He replied that recently there have only been more demons and ghosts. Do they want them to drop what they are doing and come to the meeting? Do they think everyone is as unbusy as they are? Chun Yang interrupted him and said that the seals were weakening. Sun Jifeng replied that this cannot be. The seals were updated 3 cycles ago. He agreed and said that he would make the guards come. Chun Yang said that's great. For this he will introduce him to the Purple Dawn Fairy. He is sure they will suit each other. Sun Jifeng started swearing and said that she is 180 meters tall and weighs 180 kilograms. She looks like an ogre. One more trick and he'll skin him. At this time, Chun Yang ended the call and told the disciple that he had just spoken with Sun Jifeng, the leader of the guards. They purify the bodies and use them in battle. It's a pity that their line is drying up. Fu Gui asked, "How is this?" Chun Yang replied that there are so few cultivators now, where will he find a body to purify? Moreover, it passes through blood relationships. Sun Jifeng is almost hundreds of years old, and he doesn't even have a girlfriend. Fu Gui smiled and asked, "But he doesn't have a girlfriend either." Chun Yang hit him on the head and said that his teacher was a Taoist. He devoted his life to the pursuit of Tao. How can he compare it? He sighed and said that the heavenly gates were closed, which meant the path to cultivation was cut off. Fu Gui asked, "Heaven's Gate. Are these the same ones mentioned in the books? Is this a gate through which a person can become immortal and enter the world of immortals?" Chun Yang said that there is a list of people who tried to enter there, but there is not a single name of anyone who succeeded. They only know that the heavenly gates are created to absorb spiritual Kai from the mortal world. Fu Gui asked, "Is this to help mortals ascend? Why absorb Kai from their world?" Chun Yang replied that they don't know. But while the Kai is being absorbed, the number of cultivators drops. In order to prevent the spiritual Kai from completely disappearing, all the professionals sacrificed their lives to seal the gate. The world was restored, but cultivating immortality became more difficult. Fu Gui asked why this happened. What was beyond the gates of heaven? His teacher replied that it was too early for him to know about this. He would tell him in due time. And now they must find a way to survive this cycle. They will hope that they will find a solution when the immortal sects gather. Time passed, morning came. Jiang Jin and Dahlia came to the cafe and told the manager that they had reserved a table. Kyle waved at them and told them to come here. Jiang Jin and Dahlia sat down at the table and asked where the dog was. Kyle replied that his dog was so much trouble that they locked him up. He looked at Dahlia and thought that she was even more beautiful in life. Some kind of aura of mystery emanates from her. Dahlia asked if he could tell us how this happened. And how did he get this pill? He replied that it all started when he was sitting in Tok Tok. After a while, he finished telling the story and they exclaimed at the same time, "Did he buy the pill for 100 yuan? He said he was just bored." Dahlia asked if he could tell her the sender's address. He replied that he could only say that he was from the city of Mo. He was forbidden to tell the exact place. Dahlia got upset and said that she had spent about 100,000 on pills but had never found the real thing. Jiang Jin asked if they could hold a conference of all cultivator streamers. Maybe someone else knows about the whereabouts of the seller. They can actually attract him. Dahlia and Kyle said it was a great idea. He proposed calling the conference a meeting of immortal sects. Let them leave the preparation to him, he will take care of everything. Jang Jin said that then she would take care of the transportation planning, and he would take the place. Dahlia will be responsible for advertising and inviting other streamers. They high-fived each other and said it was settled. At this time, Liu Mo was cultivating in the old shack. He thought that crisis and opportunity go hand in hand, misfortune and grace merge into one. Is there any difference? When the ordinary is taken to the extreme, it becomes mysterious. When stupidity is taken to extremes, it turns into evil. Bright but not dazzling, strong but not overbearing. A true Taoist is one who is able to find balance. A bright ray of light shot into the sky and Liu Mo said that he had entered the 4th stage of innateness. Now he has even more strength and can defend himself better. Suddenly the Velvet Fairy called him and he thought, is the eldest calling him? He picked up the phone and she said that she was organizing a meeting of immortal sects at Mo International Grand Hotel in 7 days. Will he have a moment to look there? Liu Mo thought, a meeting of immortal sects. From the name alone it is clear to him that this is an important event. But why are people of his level invited personally? Dahlia noticed that he was silent and wondered if he was still offended that she missed their meeting. She told him that it was her fault that she didn't come then. She suddenly had something important to do, so she had to miss the meeting. She tried to return as quickly as possible, but was told that he had already left. She is very sorry, she hopes he will come. Liu Mo laughed mentally and said that it seemed like the Velvet Fairy was worried about him. For the first time in his 2 lives, any woman other than his mother is worried about him. He thanked her for the invitation and said that he would definitely come. She was delighted and said that then they would see each other soon. She ended the call and sighed and said that thank God he was not angry and agreed to come. Jang Jin looked at her and said that this was the first time she had seen her worry about a guy. Let her just not tell her that the slow cultivator is interesting to her as a person. She replied that it was not so. She doesn't know how to explain, but something tells her that he is special. At this time, Liu Mo laughed and wondered, how could he refuse when the Velvet Fairy personally invited him? This is an opportunity to expand his horizons, and it's also a great chance to ask professionals if they know what to do with the damn box. He remembered that he had just ascended, he needed to try to refine the pills and ask the alchemy masters for advice, and he cannot disgrace the Velvet Fairy. While he was thinking, evil energy began to emanate from the box. At this time, Chun Yang and his disciple returned to Director Wu's office. Chun Yang asked did they learn anything while he was gone. Kyle was happy that the teacher came back and said that they were holding a meeting of immortal sects, would he like to attend? Chun Yang was surprised and asked, is he holding a meeting of immortal sects? Did Director Wu approve it? He thought that a bunch of mortals dared to use this name, aren't they afraid of being struck by lightning? Kyle confirmed his words and said that they want to find people at the meeting who know something about the pill seller. Chun Yang sat on the sofa and said that he would not come. Let them do as they see fit, he has things to do. Kyle asked is this true? It's a pity, they invited many streamer girls because brother Fugui said that he was interested in them. After Chun Yang hit Fugui, he told Kyle that since he was using the name of an immortal sect, how could he hold a meeting without a real cultivator? Well, he thinks he'll stop by there for a while. Kyle said it was great. Let him show them what he can do. Chun Yang asked what kind of girls are streamers. Kyle replied that they invited almost everyone involved in the topic of cultivation. The event is being organized by the Velvet Fairy. He must know her because she has become very popular. Chun Yang giggled and thought it was worth it to see the Velvet Fairy in person. Suddenly he came to his senses and ran out of the room, telling his students to wait here. He had something to do. Kyle asked where he was going. Director Wu said he will be here soon. Chun Yang told them not to worry, he was quick. At this time, in the Yaoqing Mountains, Liu Mo was making pills again. He shaped the tablets and completed the preparation. He took one tablet and said that the bone rinsing tablet was even better this time. He can bring them to the meeting and not disgrace the elder. Suddenly from the street he heard the voice of Chun Yang, who said that he came here to see the elder Liu Mo. He stood in front of the shack and said that he had something important to discuss. Liu Mo looked at the front door and thought, is he back? He hopes it's not about cultivation. Most of his cultivation was achieved through self-study of books given to him by his teacher. What if he teaches him the wrong thing and deviations begin? He needed to avoid it for now and improve his cultivation until the day of the meeting. He shouted that he was cultivating now, let him come back in 3 days. Chun Yang thought that it was a pity that he was busy cultivating. He should be glad that he is so polite. He had heard that there were professionals who killed those who interfered with their cultivation. He asked him for forgiveness and said that he would return in 3 days. He ran away and thought that it was good that the meeting of the immortal sects was only next month. While he waits, he can attend Kyle's meeting. Liu Mo waited until he left and sighed heavily, saying that they couldn't stay here anymore. If he found it, then there is no guarantee that no one else will find it. After the meeting he needs to move. His spiritual energy became more and more saturated as he prepared the pills. With what he has now, he can break through to the next stage. He began to cultivate and the streams of power reached the box that lay on the table nearby. The box began to shake and Liu Mo stopped abruptly. He sensed danger. It's the same feeling I had in the forbidden room. He quickly turned around and looked at the box. The seals weakened and dark energy began to burst out of the box, absorbing all the ingredients that Liu Mo had collected. The box began to suck in everything that was around, and Liu Mo looked at it in surprise and did not know what to do. Suddenly the oven rushed straight towards the box, but Liu Mo stopped it and said that it was bad. He approached the box and began to seal it. The box closed and returned to the table again. But Liu Mo's heart began to beat quickly and he remembered some moments from his life. He said that he had a headache, 7 emotions and 6 desires were raging. This box is more dangerous than he thought. He needs to double, no, even triple the number of seals. He sealed the box and the dark energy stopped raging. Liu Mo caught his breath and thought, what's in this box? Such terrifying power emanates from it. He especially didn't like this strange red light. His head is a mess. It's good that his mind is strong enough. If he were a little weaker, he could go crazy. He wrapped the box in cloth and said that this is a very dangerous thing. He needs to give it to the leadership of the Dao sect at the meeting. After a while, at the guard's headquarters, Sun Jifeng was watching a video advertisement on his phone about a meeting of immortals, saying that they could witness the appearance of a real immortal. The talking dog has appeared again. There's no way they'll miss this. He looked at the advertisement and said that it was organized by mortals. It's very interesting, but the silhouette looks familiar. The man asked, is this organized by mortals? Isn't this some kind of entertainment? Besides, ridding the city of demons is still their responsibility. The other man agreed with him and asked the boss why don't they go there and snatch his wife. Sun Jifeng told him not to worry about his personal life. He called them because he was leaving for the Kunlun Mountains for a few days. Demonic activity has increased again. He has a bad feeling about that event, so he wants them to go there. The man told the boss that this is just an event for mortals. Why would they go there? Sun Jifeng exclaimed that this is an order. Let them remember that besides them, the Guardians, there are many secret organizations in their world and each of them has its own unique method of cultivation. Orthodox Tao cultivators, exorcists based on Zhangzai, a medicinal sect hiding in the mountains. Although they don't interact with them, he knows for sure that they have professionals in hiding. He can say the same about demons who use their own cultivation methods based on evil. Their job is to maintain peace among mortals and protect them from evil forces. The guards agreed with the leader, after which 2 days passed. The man greeted his viewers and said that it was him, Cha Jai. Today he is at the opening of the long-awaited meeting of immortal sects. He showed the audience a beautiful building and said to look at it. This is the famous Hengsheng Hotel with more than a century of history. Before today's event, they had been renovating there for over a month. He approached Kyle and said that this was the organizer of today's event and the heir to the Hengsheng conglomerate, Li Kyle. Kyle greeted his audience while a beautiful girl walked down the red carpet and waved to her fans. Cha Jai quickly turned to her and said that she is here. Kyle peeked out from behind him and told the audience that he was the owner of a talking dog. At this time, Director Wu was watching Cha Jai's broadcast and asked his subordinate, 132 cases of disappearance last night. His subordinate confirmed his words and said that in Mo alone there are only 11 cases. Director Wu asked, so much. This is not normal. They need to increase the number of case officers and add more people on patrol. And also let them send someone to monitor the crowds. They need to ensure the safety of the residents. His subordinate agreed and left to carry out the order. At this time, the man walked along the red carpet to the hotel and the admiring crowd said that this is the great immortal Du Jai. After him, a man in a yellow suit, who was called the God of Luck, walked along the red carpet. An old man and a boy followed him. The old man told him that it was worth noting that the heir to the conglomerate was generous. He chose such a famous place to gather internet stars. The guy agreed with him and said that a night in this hotel costs a couple of thousand. He invited all the streamers to participate. Even small streamers like him, with a couple of tens of thousands of subscribers, moved into a separate room. He heard that they had made an Immortal Ascension podium for this event. The old man asked how much does it cost. The guy said that they did everything to create the feeling that this is all a novel about cultivation. They walked into the hotel and the girl greeted them and told them to come inside. In front of them they saw a scene over which a dragon was hovering. The old man asked what they had prepared for the event itself. The guy said that there were so many people there. He had been to events before, but never on such a large scale. At this time, Dahlia looked out from behind the curtain and said that there were so many people there. She had been to events before, but never on such a large scale. Zhang Jin said that it was all thanks to Kyle. He tried his best. The video with the advertisement alone received more than 100 million views, and it was trending all day long. Moreover, a bunch of large companies have joined in sponsorship. Fu Gui asked, are even companies participating? Sand King, sitting next to him, lit a cigar and told them to wait for him to appear. Let them forget about their advertising, its broadcast will become a trend throughout the internet. He looked at Fugui and asked, where is this old man? Fugui asked, is he talking about his teacher? He said he wants to be at his best, so he's getting ready for the opening. At this time, Chunyang read palms and told the girl that the line of luck is good, the prospects are not bad, she will be lucky soon. He was surrounded by young girls and one of them asked if he could tell her fortune. Will she be happy too? Another girl told him she was next. Chunyang thought this was such a blessing. While he was having fun with young girls, Dahlia looked at Liu Mo's empty place and wondered if he would come. At this time, Liu Mo appeared at the hotel building and he thought that there must be a hotel here. He didn't have money for new clothes, so he took the teacher's old clothes. He hopes he is not angry with him. He looked at the message from the Velvet Fairy that she asked him to write to her when he arrived. She would send someone to meet him at the back door and then he would be brought to her. He thought that he was too weak to go through the main entrance. He walked past the admiring crowd to the back entrance. The man opened the door and asked who he was. Liu Mo said his name and said that the Velvet Fairy invited him. The man said that he must be a slow cultivator. She is waiting for him, let him follow. Liu Mo entered the hotel and followed him. He thought that the choice of place for the meeting of the immortal sex was not surprising. Only the best sex can afford an event of this level. But why are there so many mortals here? There are so many people here, and only a few of them cultivate, and even then weakly. He looked at the back of his companion and thought that even he was mortal. Is society run by mortals? Maybe it's an unspoken rule not to reveal their cultivation. This must be so, because if all the professionals reveal themselves, then, at best, mortals will suffer. A clash of spiritual force could blow this place up. He needs to tame his Kai, otherwise he won't even know how he died if the eldest gets angry. He followed the man further, and a suspicious man and woman followed them. The man asked her, is Dahlia and the dog here? She replied that they were somewhere close, she could smell their bodies from here. The man licked his lips and said that this is perfect, once they eat them, they will be one step closer to resurrection. They evaporated into thin air and the woman said that was for sure. At this time, the man had already brought Liu Mo to the right place and knocked on the door. Jiang Jin opened the door and asked, what is it? Suddenly she blushed and saw Liu Mo. The man said that this was a guest invited by the Velvet Fairy. Hearing this, Dahlia pushed Jiang Jin away from the door and happily asked, has the slow cultivator arrived? They looked at each other and Liu Mo thought that the Velvet Fairy was as beautiful as a goddess. Spiritual Kai emanates from her, not surprising for a cultivator from a major sect. Dahlia looked into his eyes and thought, is this a slow cultivator? He is even more beautiful than in the video. Nowadays most streamers use filters. She would never have thought that there were people more beautiful than filters. Sand King exhaled cigarette smoke and asked who is it? Fugui replied that he did not know. He only heard that he was an invited guest. Suddenly Liu Mo felt Kai vibrations in the room and, looking at Fugui, thought that this was a disciple of that Taoist. The energy was coming from him. He looked at the dog and thought that energy was coming even from the dog. Thank God he is holding back his Kai. There are so many professionals gathered here, they are all just hiding. Otherwise how could a dog have cultivation? There are too many hidden professionals in this world. Suddenly Sand King dropped the cigarette from his paws and barked. Fugui noticed this and asked what happened. Did the cigarette burn his fur? Sand King said let him burn his ass. He feels a powerful aura here. Dahlia told Liu Mo that she would take him to his place. She looked at Jiang Jin and told her not to follow them. Dahlia grabbed Liu Mo's hand and they ran away. Jiang Jin slammed the door behind them and said that she abandoned her friends because she had a boyfriend. Suddenly she saw Sand King's face in front of her and asked what he was doing. He sniffed the door and said that naturally they, the losers, did not feel anything. He felt the Kai fluctuation. It seems that an influential person has arrived. Jiang Jin hit the dog on the head and asked who he called a loser. Fugui asked, is he talking about his teacher? Sand King replied that this was not true. How could he sense his lousy aura? Suddenly he felt something and told them to wait. After a short pause he said that the aura had disappeared. Jiang Jin got angry and hit him and said that he was just an upstart. At this time, Dahlia was still leading Liu Mo by the hand and he called out to her. She turned around and stopped, but when she noticed that she was holding his hand, she quickly recoiled from him and turned away. Liu Mo was surprised by this and thought, was he rude and offended her in some way? He looked at his hand embarrassedly and thought that this was the first time he had held a girl's hand. He has no experience, what should he do? Her palm is so soft. He collected his thoughts and thought that this was his first time at a meeting of immortals. He can't offend the sect members, and besides, the fairy invited him, so he can't seem rude. He bowed to her and said that thanks to her invitation he could take part in this meeting. It is an honor for him to meet such influential people. Dahlia thought, is he still pretending? She smiled and thought that he was so handsome, it was a pity that he was immersed in his game. If only everyone were so loyal. Liu Mo noticed this and thought, did he say something wrong again? A woman's heart is more complex than the Tao Te Ching. Dahlia asked him for forgiveness and said that she lacked manners. It's starting soon, so she needs to get him to his place quickly. At this time, the guy and the old man were sitting in their places and waiting for the event to start. He called the old man a Lanbo Taoist and said that he was quite popular when he sold the same pills. Why was his account suddenly deleted? Lambo told him not to remember it, it makes him angry, he doesn't know why he was reported and then his account was deleted. He lost 3 million subscribers. The guy said he lost so much this month. What is he planning to do now? Lambo responded by asking what else should he do. He will start all over again, he even wants to make videos even more. He had a stove, he bought it once, and now he needs to buy a new one for filming. The guy asked if anyone really wanted to buy it. Lambo confirmed his words and said that he had been asking for a long time, so he sold it to him. And then he started selling pills, all his clients left, such a failure. Suddenly he realized that his account had been deleted right after the sale. He is sure that he complained because he was jealous of him. He exclaimed that he would not forgive him for this. At this time, the girl who was sitting next to Chunyang noticed Dahlia and asked who was with her. All the people present saw a handsome young man walking near Dahlia. Dahlia told Liu Mo that this is his place, starting soon. He thanked her and sat down in his place. She said that she would be back soon, let him wait for her. He agreed and thought that she had prepared a very good place for him. It was good that he went with her. Suddenly a girl touched his shoulder and asked, "She's not mistaken, right? Is he a slow cultivator?" The other girls heard this and immediately surrounded Liu Mo from all sides. One of them asked if he could add her as a friend on social networks. Another girl called him handsome and asked if he could improve her love life. Another girl called him a baby Taoist and asked if he wanted to cultivate with her. Chunyang got angry and exclaimed, "Who stole his girls?" He saw that they surrounded Liu Mo and thought, what is he doing here? Lanbo jumped up sharply and thought it was him. His friend asked what happened. He replied that he had finally found this ungrateful idiot, now he would get him. The guy asked who he was talking about. While Liu Mo was sitting surrounded by girls, someone's screams were heard from the side and they turned around. Chunyang looked in surprise at Lanbo, who stood opposite Liu Mo, and he said that he was a brat selling fake pills. How dare he fool him? Today he will restore justice on behalf of heaven. Liu Mo thought in surprise that this was the professional who sold him the stove. He recognized him. From what he saw on the internet, he was at least a level 8 pill master. The most important thing is that he claims that he is selling counterfeits. Does he really think that the level of his pills is too low and that he is insulting his stove? The girl exclaimed that this was nonsense. Their baby is not like that. He is not a he, but he looks simply disgusting. Another girl agreed with him and they started pointing their fingers at him, saying that he should look at himself first. Another girl said his eyebrows are dirty, maybe he should wash himself first. He's just disgusting. Another girl exclaimed, who is he to talk such nonsense? Another girl agreed with her and said that it couldn't even compare to his finger. Lanbo became angry, while a surprised crowd watched them. Someone asked what they were arguing about. What's happened? Another person in the crowd replied that it seemed like it was something about selling pills. Lanbo pointed his fingers at them and exclaimed, what do they even know? Suddenly a voice in his head asked him to calm down. He asked who said it. The voice said that it was him, the slow cultivator. He invites him to just talk. This is a meeting of immortals, there are a lot of important people here, why don't they discuss it later? Lanbo pointed his finger at Liu Mo and asked, did anyone hear him? He gave up. He wants to settle everything personally. The girl asked, is he crazy? He didn't say anything. Another girl agreed with her and said that only he was insulting him here. Another girl said that he was really crazy. He's being dramatic to get attention. Another girl called security and asked, is no one going to solve the problems? Lambo exclaimed that he was a third-level cultivator. He will definitely deal with him. Liu Mo mentally told him to be quiet, these women are about to go crazy with anger. Lambo thought that only he could hear him. Could he really be able to transmit sound? He heard about this technique from a teacher. Only those who are in a golden shell can do this. He had heard rumors that there would be real immortals here. They surrounded him and flattered him. Did he sign his own death warrant? He fell to his knees and said he was joking. He asked the immortal lord to forgive him his sins. The girls were surprised and asked what happened to him. He was aggressive just now, why did he suddenly fall to his knees? Another girl said that the situation changes more often than the costumes in the video. Liu Mo told the master that he didn't need to kneel. He thought, why is he bowing to him? He's a nobody, isn't he a joke to the local professionals? Lanbo ran away and asked him to forgive him. He's already leaving. The girls looked after him and one of them asked how they even let him in. He's crazy. Another girl agreed and said it was outrageous. Chunyang said that thank God, Mr. Liu Mo was kind and let him go. He was afraid that he would turn him into dust from anger. At this time, Lanbo was still running along the corridor and suddenly collided with Kyle. Kyle said that he is the Taoist of Bohai Lanbo. Lanbo asked, does he know him? Kyle grabbed him by the shoulder and said that he bought a lot of his rejuvenation pills. Lanbo became worried and said that he knows that he is above this. He needs to understand that this is common in their work, it's just pills. Kyle said that he heard him shout something about immortality pills. Does he know the immortals who sell them? Lanbo replied that probably. Has he taken these pills before? Kyle yelled at him to shut up. The dog ate this pill. Does he know his dog? Sand King ate it and is now talking. He couldn't even take those pills, and this immortal was still ignoring him. He'll go crazy soon. Lanbo thought, is he really immortal? Is what he was selling for 200 yuan really an immortality pill? It's outrageous. At this time, the host told the dear guests to take their seats. The opening ceremony of the meeting of immortals will begin in 5 minutes. Liu Mo sighed and thought that they had finally left. Suddenly Chun Yang called out to him and said that he seemed to be in a good mood for deciding to take part in the event. Liu Mo thought, what is he doing here? He wanted to answer him something, but suddenly a man stood in front of him. He asked who he was. How dare someone sit here? Let him not say that he believes that he is worthy to be on par with the pure Taoist Yang. Chun Yang thought, where did this idiot come from here? What's on him? He wanted to tell him something, but the man told him not to bother. He, Zhu Lei, will help him. He thought that he already knew everything. The real immortal present at the meeting of immortals is pure Taoist Yang. He is sure that the immortal will be glad if he helps him, then he can succeed. He told Liu Mo to get up, don't let him ruin the Taoist's mood. If he doesn't want to move, then let him not be offended by the rudeness. Chun Yang thought this was the end. This idiot had angered an immortal. He can't do anything. He won't be able to do anything when the time comes. Zhu Lei proudly thought that the immortal was looking at him. His expression, he's definitely happy with it. Liu Mo asked what sect he was from. Who is his teacher? Zhu Lei was surprised and thought, a sect. Teacher? He exclaimed. Why should he tell who his teacher is? Why doesn't he call his teacher to kick both their ass? Let him remember, his name is Zhu Lei. It would be better for him to apologize to the master and get out of here. Liu Mo said that his name is Liu Mo. His teacher is an immortal from Yuking Mountain, although he is from a small sect, but he did not provoke him. Maybe his cultivation is not that strong, but how dare he argue with him? Chun Yang thought it was bad. Liu Mo said that he demands an excuse. Liu Mo destroyed the seats and Zhu Lei asked what he was doing. He dared to disrespect Master Dao and still hasn't paid the price. He's also being cruel and trying to disrupt the meeting. Liu Mo said that he came down from the mountain about a month ago. Everyone he met was kind. He had forgotten that people like him still existed. Zhu Lei saw strong energy emanating from Liu Mo and fell to the floor in fear. At this time, on the second floor, Zhang Jin was looking at all this. She called Dahlia and said that it seemed that the slow cultivator had gotten into a fight. She turned around in surprise and exclaimed, what does this mean? Chun Yang thought this was the end. The elder got angry. If he goes berserk, not only mortals, but also the entire cultivator community may suffer. He stood next to him and said that he would like to intervene. He offers to solve everything peacefully for them. Zhu Lei looked at him and asked him to save him. Liu Mo turned his gaze to Chun Yang and suddenly rushed from his seat and jumped onto the roof of the stage. He started using his power and people started shouting that it was a cultivator. Is he holding something in his hands? A paper crane appeared above him and people looked at it with delight. Dahlia and the others looked at this and Zhang Jin said that this cannot be true. He is truly a cultivator. The paper crane flew to Liu Mo and sat on his finger, after which Liu Mo threw it into the air and a real living crane appeared from a piece of paper. Immediately after this, Chun Yang made many more paper cranes and they began to circle in the air along with the crane. The delighted crowd started shouting that it looked so realistic. The paper crane turned into a real one. What kind of magic is this? This is a real immortal. Tears welled up in Zhang Jin's eyes and she said that it was so beautiful. The number of spectators was growing and growing. Dahlia thought dumbfounded. Liu Mo did this. Was he really immortal all this time? While they admired and were in shock, Chun Yang looked in surprise at the flying crane, and at one moment the crane and the paper birds collided in the air and glowing sparks appeared. Chun Yang thought that his paper crane was nothing more than a fun trick. Even an ordinary person could learn it in a couple of years. But he turns paper into flesh, turning into real is a whole other level. Even the leader of the Dao sect can't do that. Zhu Lei looked at this performance and thought, is he really sleeping? Does he have spiritual power? How did he do it? Suddenly people grabbed him and he asked what they were doing. Someone hit him and told him to shut up. Let him quickly apologize to Mr. Immortal, otherwise they will beat him to death. Another man told Liu Mo that he was stupid and blind for not being able to see Mount Tai. What will he order them to do with him? Zhu Lei turned his frightened gaze to Liu Mo and began to beg for forgiveness. Liu Mo told him to stop, he could go. One who cultivated without a teacher is pitiful. Chun Yang cleared his throat and said that since they had settled everything peacefully, they would continue the meeting of the immortal sects. Let them greet the organizer, the Velvet Fairy. People started shouting her name, and at this time the men were sending Zhu Lei out. He thought, why would someone so strong pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger? Where is his dignity? Suddenly he collided with a suspicious man and recoiled from him. The man licked his lips and asked where he was going. At this time, Dahlia greeted everyone present. All the spectators shouted her name in admiration, and Liu Mo clapped for her. She noticed this and blushed. At this time, the man stretched his long tongue towards Zhu Lei and he asked what he was doing. A dark clot came out of the man's mouth and told him to be afraid of it. The dark clot sank its teeth into Zhu Lei's flesh and said that he had such a delicious soul. He feels hatred, fear, despair, how pleasant it is. The dark clot completely took over Zhu Lei's body and Liu Mo felt something was wrong. He grabbed his chest and thought it was that strange feeling again. Dahlia said that everyone is probably tired of waiting for the start, let them greet the talking husky, Sand King. The husky came on stage and greeted those present. People exclaimed joyfully that this was a real dog. At the same time, the clot adjusted itself to Zhu Lei's body and said that this is a good body, he will use it a little. The evil-possessed Zhu Lei laughed and said that now he had the soul of a cultivator and he could fight this old Taoist. He chuckled and said that he forgot there were two more there. If he can eat a dog and a girl, then it will be easy for him to smear the old Taoist. At this time, Kyle asked Lambo to quickly tell him who was selling the pills. Lambo asked him to calm down and said that he needed to scroll through the story. He thought that there was a real immortal here, why shouldn't he ask him this? Suddenly someone's hand grabbed Kyle's shoulder. He turned around sharply and asked Director Wu what he was doing here. He replied that there was a problem, they urgently needed to evacuate everyone from here now. Kyle said the event has just started and there are still 200 million watching, they can't stop it. Director Wu asked his subordinates why they are standing still. Let them get everyone out now. They obeyed his orders and Director Wu told Kyle that their department had discovered traces of evil energy here. He fears it has something to do with the hundreds of people disappearing, so they need to stop this meeting urgently. Suddenly the main doors closed with a roar and all the people turned around at once. The girl stood in front of the door and told them not to move. The director exclaimed that it was her. Let them grab her. His subordinates ran towards the girl. She said that it seemed like someone was impatient to die. She waved her hand and fragments of stones flew with great force towards his subordinates, piercing right through their bodies. From several such blows they fell to the floor and gave up the ghost. Souls began to leave their bodies and she sucked it into herself. She licked her lips and said it was so delicious. Immediately after that, she was filled with power and people started screaming that a murder had happened here. Liu Mo put his hand on his chest and thought, why did his heart suddenly hurt? Even bad memories started popping up in his head. He urgently needs to stabilize his condition. Sand King looked at the whole situation from the stage and said that this energy is so frightening. Dahlia looked ahead and asked what was going on there. Suddenly Sand King suddenly jumped up and said that everything was bad, he needed to run. But suddenly, dark energy grabbed him and Dahlia and Chunyang got scared. Zhu Lei said that it has such a pleasant aroma. He must have eaten the immortal pill. The girl told him to stop wasting time, let him just eat it. Then he needs to kill the old Taoist and grab the girl. He got angry and said that he was not her servant, so she should stop telling him what to do. He reached out to Dahlia and said that he will eat whoever he wants. Suddenly, the tail of a broom wrapped around the hand of dark energy and Chunyang told him not to even think about it. Suddenly, Zhu Lei grabbed the tail of the panicle and Chunyang was surprised. Zhu Lei pulled it on himself, along with Chunyang, but he reacted and took out the 5 lightning punishment talisman. He stuck a talisman on his forehead and told him to go away. The talisman began to glow and sparkle, but the dark energy was still able to hit Chunyang. He flew back onto the stage and Dahlia asked if he was okay. Zhu Lei tore off the talisman along with a piece of flesh and said that he was playing with death. Chunyang thought, something born of chaos. Where did they come from? The girl told Zhu Lei to look at this pitiful look. Let him stop wasting time and finish off this old man. Chunyang decided to act and summoned his broom, after which he took a fighting stance and pinned them down with his broom. The girl asked, does he think it will work? Chunyang replied that he was not finished yet. After that, a huge bell appeared in his hand and he pointed it at them. He used the blow and the bell covered them, dust rose from its fall and Chunyang began to cough up blood. Dahlia called out to him with concern and he said that the bell of the mystical sky is a treasure that came to them from ancient times. Sand King was lying on the floor all this time and asked, did he catch them? Director Wu looked at it and asked, did he succeed? As expected from a Taoist master, Liu Mo thought, why are these ominous feelings getting stronger? He looked at the bell and the evil creature struck it with his fist. Liu Mo thought, did these two absorb each other and become one? Suddenly the bell was cut in half and Chunyang exclaimed that this was incredible. The evil clot got out of the dome and laughingly told the old man that his stupid bell was not even 1 decimal as strong as the one that was used to imprison his body. The rest of the Taoists sacrificed their lives to suppress him, and now only mediocre and useless ones like him remain. Such a treasure was wasted in his hands, so he will take it for himself. He started laughing and Chunyang thought that he had the same aura as his older brother. This is the realm of the golden core. He increased the power of the golden core, absorbed his partner in the forces of the bell. He looked at Liu Mo and thought, what's wrong with him? Why is he just standing there? Is he really going to help them? Maybe he's not on their side. All this time, Liu Mo just stood still and did nothing. Suddenly, a red flag flew towards the possessed Yulei and he said that these were guards. A man appeared behind him and told old man Yang that he didn't think he would be smeared like that. Is he really getting old? He raised his index finger up and said that after all, they, the guards, are more suitable for dealing with such creatures. A red flag exploded in Yulei's hand and he said that because of them, he remembered something unpleasant. Chunyang told them to be careful, they are already in the golden core, they are not his rivals. The man got scared and Yulei immediately threw him aside. Blood began to flow from his mouth and he crashed into the wall. He slowly slid down the wall leaving a bloody trail behind him. Kyle backed away and said they were in danger. Director Wu looked at it and thought, this can't be true, even Master Taoist can't handle this. Yulei said that their interference was only annoying, so where did they stop? Chunyang took out another amulet and said that it was a talisman called Destruction. Once he uses this, everything within a 300-meter radius will turn to dust. If they allow him to absorb the souls of everyone present, he will become too powerful and they will not be able to stop him. He has no other choice. He asks for forgiveness, but evil cannot continue to exist. He doesn't listen to his elders, but he really hopes that he can at least protect defenseless witnesses. He has nothing to offer but his own life. Suddenly he noticed that Liu Mo was missing and the evil-possessed Yulei asked, does anyone else want to die? Liu Mo stood in front of him and he said that he would wipe that expression off his face. Yulei attacked Liu Mo, but he easily repelled his attack. Yulei was surprised by this and Liu Mo just frowned. Yulei was scared and thought, what happened? He got scared for a second. He clenched his teeth and said that it was just a human bug. He will gladly eat his soul. Immediately after that, he rushed towards Liu Mo and Chunyang said that this was bad. He was mad. He pointed amulets at him and all the people present immediately ducked down to avoid the blow. But nothing happened. The amulets only built a small protective dome around them. At this time, Yulei still continued to advance towards Liu Mo, but at one moment he flew to the side and everyone present was surprised. Chunyang thought that this couldn't be true. Chaos born at the Golden Core stage. A great demon of this level had not appeared for 100 years, and he was sent flying with one blow. Is Liu Mo really stronger than his older brother? Yulei looked up at Liu Mo and thought, where is he even here from? He rose to his feet and said that even though he was in his home world, even the cultivators of the past could not compare to him in strength. Energy began to gather around Liu Mo and Yulei thought that there should not be enough energy left in this world to cultivate in his home world, but how did he gain such power? At the same moment he let out a terrible scream and disappeared. Chunyang said in surprise that even spiritual Kai has surpassed the home world, how can this be? Liu Mo waved his hands and thousands of rays of light rushed towards Yulei, pinning him down and preventing him from escaping. Yulei tried to break through the bonds and told Liu Mo to get rid of him. But in response, Liu Mo only shackled him more. Yulei tried to escape, but the rays of light cut off his fingers and he thought that his spiritual Kai is so pure it even penetrates through his body. Let him not take him so far. Since he can't escape, he's counting on one attack. Once he kills him and eats him, no one will be able to stop him. Fortune favors the brave. Even if he has to sacrifice part of his soul, he will take it with him. With this thought, he attacked Liu Mo, but he extended his hand forward and Yulei thought that he was a fool. Even the immortals from the past could kill him. Even if they both disappeared now, he would still win. A terrible grin appeared on his face and he attacked Liu Mo, wishing him death. Liu Mo resisted his blow and asked, is he finished? After that, a sword appeared in his hand and he attacked him. Yulei saw a bright flash of light in his eyes, and immediately after that, Liu Mo cut his body into several pieces. Chunyang said it was strong. A newborn in chaos is not so easy to kill. The dark clot broke into several parts and lost the shape of Yulei's body. After that, he laughed and asked, is that all he can do? It seems he overestimated him. And now let him die and become part of his power. Liu Mo said that if he remembered correctly, divine lightning is poisonous to a creature like him. Then why don't they take a walk? Liu Mo again bound the evil clot and, with a wave of his hand, sent it towards the ceiling. Liu Mo flew after the evil and broke through the ceiling with it. They flew out into the street and Liu Mo pointed his sword towards the clouds. The clouds immediately began to turn into thunderclouds and lightning began to flash in the sky. The evil clot said he was crazy. Does he want to go through his grief so he can use it against him? But Liu Mo was determined and sent the clot straight into the thunderclouds. He flew after the dark clot, breaking through the clouds. The clot said he was an idiot. His power triggered the increase in the power of grief to the initial level. He will be beaten to death, not even a soul will be left. But Liu Mo did not listen to him and continued to fly forward, straight towards the lightning. A light aura appeared around his body, and the clot became very frightened. At this time, everyone who was present at the meeting of immortals ran out into the street and looked at the sky. Chunyang said that this is the lightning of tribulation. He has no idea what level Liu Mo is at if his grief caused such excitement. Liu Mo used the breach, and immediately after that lightning began to strike them. Liu Mo grinned and asked, "Is that all?" The evil clot said that the lightning of sorrow has 5 shots, each of which is stronger than the previous one, so it is doomed. He is playing with fire. If he dies, only his soul will suffer, but if even a scratch appears on his soul, then his body will also suffer. Lightning struck again, and Liu Mo turned his gaze to the evil clot. The evil clot screamed in pain, and Liu Mo said that he was talking too much. The evil clot said that heaven is blind. They hit the wrong guy. Lightning began to gather in the sky again, and Liu Mo took out his sword. He began to spin the sword, holding back the lightning strike. Several lightning bolts struck him at once, and Director Wu asked in surprise, "Is this the legendary scene of the ascension of an immortal?" Dahlia thought, so this is Liu Mo's true identity. His videos were so realistic. No matter what happens, he must survive. The lightning continued to strike him, but he just held it back and smiled. He pointed his sword upward and cut the lightning with one swing. Chunyang thought this was incredible. He withstood 3 tribulation lightning strikes with just his spiritual Kai. Ancient writings say that a cultivator can only withstand grief with the help of body, soul, and Kai. Countless geniuses have disappeared trying to endure this. How strong is his Kai? The evil clot told Liu Mo that he was a monster. He received and withstood 3 tribulation lightning strikes without being on top of his home world. If he survives, he will fall into the world of sorrow. He better release it now. Liu Mo looked at him and said nothing. The evil clot said that he didn't need an enemy like him. He is the only survivor of the 4 disaster monsters. He will not die as long as chaos exists. Even if he destroys his body again and again, they will be reborn as long as evil chaos exists, as long as people have bad thoughts. So if he kills him now, he will come back for revenge. Let him out before he makes an enemy. Liu Mo smiled and said that then he will send him where he should go. Immediately after his words, lightning struck them, and Liu Mo screamed in pain, and the evil clot tried to withstand this blow. Strong lightning struck the city center, and people covered their ears from the loud roar. Chunyang said that the power of grief has soared. Liu Mo must survive. After a few seconds, everything became quiet, and Liu Mo examined his changed body. The evil clot, which had already noticeably weakened, said that he could not avoid the last lightning strike of grief. They would both disappear. Liu Mo said that he knows very well that he won't be able to dodge the grief after being hit a few times, but can't he assume that he will die? Immediately after these words, he grabbed the evil clot and he asked what he was going to do. He raised the evil clot above himself, and lightning rushed towards them. The clot told him to get his hands off him. He is not human. He continued to insult him, but at one point lightning struck him, thereby protecting Liu Mo from the strike. The clot screamed, and Liu Mo continued to hold it. The evil clot said that he was a flesh and blood mortal. After being punished by divine lightning, he would immediately disappear. Once his body is torn into small pieces, he will absorb it and win. Liu Mo said that the Tao that cannot be described is not the inner Tao. Writing and a light aura appeared around his body. He was filled with power, and the marks of the lightning strike on his body disappeared. The clot asked, "True Tao, how does he understand something like that?" A dome appeared around his body, which protected him from lightning strikes, and after a while everything became quiet, and the evil clot began to fall powerlessly down. But Liu Mo stretched his hand forward and grabbed the evil one. He put on a new outfit and laughingly said that who would have thought that he would meet someone who could comprehend the true power and secret of the heavenly land. Not only does the lightning strike him, but it also nourishes his body with Tao. Only a few who glorified the heavens were able to absorb the origin of the world. It was fortunate that he found it before it became strong enough. His body will be very nourishing. He has tens of thousands of bodies all over the world, so let him prepare to die the next time they meet. Chunyang heard the clot's words and thought that just one chaos born was already so strong. If the seal were to break and merge with its parts, wouldn't it be the end of the world? Liu Mo said that then he would find them all and destroy them one by one. After that, he clenched his hand into a fist, dispersing the dark clot, and said that he would destroy them until there was not a single one left. People saw that the evil clot was defeated, and Liu Mo asked, "Was someone calling him?" He looked at all the people who were below, and Dahlia asked, "Is this the end?" He won. Liu Mo headed down and landed, after which people immediately began to bow to him and thank him for saving them. He was surprised and asked why they were bowing to him. People started hugging him, and the man said that he was his benefactor. His family is very rich, let him say a word and get whatever he wants. Another man grabbed his leg and asked him to accept his disciples. He agrees to everything. Liu Mo exclaimed, "What are they all doing?" Chunyang shouted for them all to quickly disperse. Mr. Immortal just fought and is now tired, so let them go. He turned to the people and said that due to this, today's event is cancelled, let them go home. Liu Mo looked at how people quickly dispersed and Chunyang thanked him for saving him and said that he would never forget it. Liu Mo asked, "These people, are they all cultivators from immortal sects? Didn't they test him in that fight with the evil creature?" Chunyang said that he misunderstood something. "They are all ordinary people." Liu Mo was surprised and said that he was only able to reach his current level thanks to the advice of the Velvet Fairy. Besides, he feels the aura emanating from her. She was surprised and asked, "Does he feel an aura from her?" She thought that it was just a game. How could she know that he was really a cultivator? Chunyang told Liu Mo that he probably didn't know because he cultivated in the mountains, but now the young people can no longer cultivate. Instead, they are all just pretending. After these words, Liu Mo turned to look at Dahlia and sighed heavily, thinking that if all these people were charlatans, then how could he cultivate at such a level? Chunyang bowed to him and said that he had a small request. Liu Mo asked what's wrong. Chunyang looked up at him and asked him to go with him to the Kunlun Mountains for the meeting of the immortal sects. Liu Mo said that he thought he was saying that it was all untrue. Is this really another masquerade? Suddenly a paper crane appeared above them and Chunyang said that it was a postal crane. The crane said that all the sects are in danger, let him return immediately. Liu Mo asked whose voice is this. Chunyang fell to his knees in front of him and Liu Mo asked what he was doing. Chunyang said that all the cultivators are in decline, so he begs him on his knees for help. He asks him to go to the mountains with him. He will explain everything to him along the way. Liu Mo asked, "Is it serious this time?" Chunyang looked at him and swore that he was not lying. After that, they went to the mountains and Chunyang began to tell that 1,000 years ago there were many Tao sects, and they possessed countless mystical techniques that exist to this day. There were many unusual cultivation geniuses roaming the world. Even those who could elevate tribulation in one go and reach the realm of spiritual transformation like him were not uncommon. Liu Mo asked, "So there are still a lot of professionals left in this world?" Chunyang replied that this is not true. Current cultivators have only one goal, to enter the heavenly gates. They say that there is another world behind the gate, and they can only become truly immortal by passing through it. Liu Mo asked, "The heavenly gate in the Kunlun Mountains. How can he get through the gate?" Chunyang sighed and said that no one else had heard of any of the professionals who had passed through the gate. Only once did the peerless elder decide to leave a message after passing through the gate. The world beyond the gates was a fiction, a deception, and they need to destroy the heavenly gates. Liu Mo asked, "Was the heavenly gate a hoax?" Chunyang said that of course no one believed it at first, but everyone became interested in it. Eventually, after many professionals passed through the gate and left messages, they learned the whole truth. The so-called New World was just a facade. In fact, there were 4 villains behind the heavenly gates: Gluttony, Chaos, Qiangkai, and Tao Wu. As soon as the cultivator passes through the gate, he is devoured by these 4 monsters. Liu Mo realized that the heavenly gate that was called the world was actually a cemetery. Chunyang said that in order to stop the monster, the cultivators decided to unite and kill them. However, the monsters found out about this plan and sent their clones to the gates to surround the immortal sects. Many sects fell, and since then the cultivation path has disappeared. Liu Mo asked, "Were the clowns that strong?" And that chaos clone was pretty weak. Chunyang said that the one he killed was weaker than the one in ancient times. Back then, most of the cultivators were in the tribulation realm, but even with thousands of tribulation realm cultivators, they were unable to stop the clones. The entire world was in danger. The cultivators risked everything and burned their strength to seal the heavenly gates. Liu Mo said that the once coveted heavenly gate was sealed with their own hands. How ironic. Chunyang said that in that war, all the cultivators above the golden realm died, only Chaos survived. Liu Mo asked why they didn't kill Chaos. He replied that the professionals were dead, all the cultivators were exhausted. They did not have the strength to kill him even if they wanted to. Now the seal is weakening again. They get together to discuss what to do next. Suddenly someone called him and he took out his phone. He asked Liu Mo for forgiveness and said that it was probably something urgent. He accepted the challenge and Nangonkian started shouting, "Where is he running? Or is it already useless for her to tell him anything? Does he want her to skin him?" Chunyang asked her to calm down and said that he had some things to handle and was on his way now. They are somewhere 4,000 kilometers away. Even if they took the high-speed belt, the journey would take about 8 hours. She shouted that she didn't want to hear his excuses. All 3 of the other immortal sects were already waiting here if he didn't show up in an hour. Chunyang did not hear the continuation of her words and after a few seconds asked why she was silent. He looked at Liu Mo and said that the signal seems to be bad. The elder brother is a little hot-tempered. Suddenly Nangonkian said that the gates of heaven are open. Liu Mo was surprised and Chunyang asked what she was saying. Suddenly Liu Mo felt bad and he thought that this disgusting feeling was getting stronger. He feels the box shaking like crazy. It must be somehow connected with the heavenly gates. What did the master want to seal? He mentally told his master that his disciple would visit the Tao sect. he decided to do something else. At this time, Dahlia received a notification about a video call. She looked at the phone screen smiling, and Liu Mo smiled back at her. At this time, in the Kunlun Mountains, the members of the sects were already exhausted from the prolonged struggle, and the trees around them withered. Nan Gongqian alone fought, she still had strength. She said there were too many idiots from the demon sections here. She picked up the broken phone from the ground and said that now her phone is useless. She wonders if Pure Yang heard her. Even if he came, with his strength they could hold out a little longer. She looked at the eclipse in the sky and said that the seal was broken 5 years ahead of schedule. She looked at the huge doors in the sky and thought that these were the legendary heavenly gates. But why did they appear earlier? Spiritual Kai is in disarray, times have changed. Cultivators are no longer the same as they were 600 years ago. The fact that spiritual Kai is in decline will make it even worse. The treasure needed to create the seal no longer grows. Is this the end? The gate began to open and the evil being inside said that the end was near for the Tao sect. Immediately after these words, many evil creatures began to fly out of the gate and rush to the ground. They fell before the sect members and they were horrified. Immediately after this, the massacre began and Nan Gongqian told them to listen to her. They all need to fight together. No matter what, they cannot allow chaos to destroy the Kunlun estate. The sect members exclaimed at once that they would fight and die with her, the leader of the Tao. After that, they began to fight with the evil entities and the guards said that the night guards follow orders. They will fight the chaos together with the Tao sect. A member of another sect said that the Dead Refinement sect will support those born of chaos. A huge evil bird attacked Nan Gongqian, but she swung her sword and attacked the creature, incinerating it. Immediately after that, she made a hole in the evil creature and rushed on. At that moment, one of the sect members cut the monster in two and sent it to hell. But suddenly, another monster grabbed him and sank its teeth into his body. Everyone fought desperately, but in the end most of them died. Nan Gongqian thought that the disciples were suffering great losses. All but those few who became the basis of the kingdom died. They have become so weak. Suddenly she saw a huge paw from the side and told the student to be careful. They managed to dodge the blow and the huge creature roared, looking at Nan Gongqian. At the same moment the evil monster decided to attack her and she prepared to lunge. She quickly jumped away from the paw and attacked it, moving further along the creature's body. She reached the creature's shoulders and when it wanted to grab her, she quickly jumped away. Her eyes widened and at the same moment she attacked the monster, plunging her sword into its jaw. The dead creature fell to the ground and the disciples ran up to the sect leader. One of the students came up to her and asked if she was okay. She said that this huge monkey was in the Golden Core realm. The power of the Chaos Born only increases with time, so they need to be careful. Suddenly she noticed that even more creatures were flying out of the gate and the sect disciples began to fight again. Suddenly the body of one student was covered with talismans and he exploded. Tears appeared in Nan Gongqian's eyes and she cursed loudly. She took a small bell out of her pocket and the student asked what she was going to do with the soul-shaking bell. She replied that she uses the soul as fuel to make all those born of chaos numb. The students started running up to her and one of them said that she couldn't do this. There must be another way. The great guardian is on his way here. Another student said that they can still fight. She doesn't need to sacrifice herself. She told them to shut up. That's an order. She uses the bell to stun the chaos born and close the gates of heaven, and they must find a way to seal the gates. If the gate was fully opened, they wouldn't be able to seal it even if they sacrificed themselves. The sect members began to cry and she thought it was a shame. There is still so much she needs to learn about cultivation, so many outfits she needs to wear, so many problems to solve. There are so many more things she wants to do. She closed her eyes and thought that she really didn't want this, but she needed to do it. She raised the bell up and said goodbye to the students, but suddenly Liu Mo grabbed her hand and she asked who he was. Chunyang came forward and said that it was him. He was back. She waved Liu Mo's hand away and asked, so does he remember how to return? She pointed her finger at him and said displeasedly that she let him go in order to invite a professional who would help them fight the Chaos Born, and he went to some blogger event. Did he think he could hide it from her? She pressed herself close to him and said that now the heavenly gates are open and the demonic sects are attacking. So many members of their sect had fallen, but why did he return? She began to cry and said that she would sacrifice her soul to delay them for a while, let him seal the gate. It would be better if he stayed there, at least she still had hope. Chunyang said that the world is in panic. They cultivate the Tao and have separated themselves from the world not because they don't care about it, but because they have to protect it. How can he escape when they are sacrificing their lives? Liu Mo looked around and thought, is this the legendary mystical domain of Kunlun? This is completely different from the sacred lands of cultivators, it is more like hell on earth. Suddenly he felt unwell again and clutched his heart. He realized that it was because of the heavenly gates. Chunyang pointed at Liu Mo and told Nangonkian that he was that professional. Suddenly the man exclaimed, "How dare he?" They all turned at once at his voice and saw that the man was fighting a monster. The evil creature released sharp feathers at him, but he defended himself with a shield. He said that the monster cannot be so strong, even his artifact cannot block this attack. He threw the feathers off his shield, but suddenly saw a monster's paw next to him. At the same moment the monster cut off his hand and he began to fall to the ground. Nangonkian rushed to his aid and said that things were bad. Chunyang shouted at her not to leave, but she rushed forward and thought that Cultivator Linquin was one of the 3 professionals who had completed the formation of the inner essence. They can't afford to lose him, she needs to save him. Suddenly in the distance she saw a black shadow that was quickly approaching her. Opening her eyes wide, she saw in front of her a huge monster that was very close. She thought that the monster was stronger than her. What should she do? She saw the monster's fist in front of her and closed her eyes in fear. Suddenly she felt someone's touch and opened her eyes. She found herself in Liu Mo's arms and thought, is it him again? But who is it? Liu Mo extended his hand forward and protected it from the monster's blow. The evil creature was surprised and she thought, did he stop the monster with one finger? The next moment he waved his hand and attacked the creature. The monster spun in a huge whirlpool, collecting other monsters with it. Nangonkian looked at it with admiration and thought that this was the mastery of spirit transformation. It's just incredible. Suddenly a voice of evil was heard from the gate, who said that he had killed his avatar. He can still feel its spiritual power. Once he absorbs the other cultivators and gets out of here, he himself will eat him and absorb his soul. It will become his dinner. The gates slammed shut and the sun began to appear. After a while, the sky became clear again and Chunyang thanked Liu Mo for his help. He walked up to Nangonkian and asked if she was okay. Suddenly an old man ran up to them and asked, has the sex protection been activated? He turned to Nangonkian and asked how she activated the sex defenses and sealed the heavenly gate. Just don't let her tell him that she has spiritual stones hidden somewhere. Why didn't she use it right away? Suddenly the old man noticed Liu Mo and asked him who it was. Liu Mo looked at Nangonkian and thought that he would also like to know this. The old man asked, so she activated the protective base. She wanted to answer him something, but he looked at Liu Mo and asked, what is he doing here? He turned to Chunyang and asked why it took him so long to come back. As the great guardian of Kunlun, he should have been here when the enemies came. Has he completely lost his conscience? Suddenly, from the side, he heard the voice of a man who told him, Xuan, you stop, he's back. Linquin approached them, pinching the wound and said that besides, with his cultivation, there is no difference, with or without him. The old man called out to him and asked what happened to his hand. He replied that he almost died, but was lucky to only lose his arm. It's a pity that his cultivation level is too low to grow a new limb. When the world is in turmoil, they cultivators must stand on the defensive and an arm is not such a big loss, unlike those who show up only at the last minute and wait until it is safe. Chunyang said that if he had not invited a professional, he would already be dead. Does he still slander him? Linquin let out a chuckle and exclaimed, professional. They all know that in the mortal world all he does is surf the internet all day long. Who has he already found there? Chunyang told him to watch his tongue. Then he will not have the opportunity to ask for forgiveness. Linquin hit him and asked, should he ask for forgiveness? That's bullshit. And where are its professionals? Is he really talking about himself? He looked at Liu Mo and asked, or is it him? Suddenly he looked at him and calmed down. He took a closer look and turned to Chunyang again, calling him a traitor. He broke the laws of the ancestors and allowed an ordinary person without spiritual kai to come to the secret place of Kunlun. He turned to Nangonkian and asked, what is the punishment for this according to the teachings of the ancestors? She replied that the abolition of the violator's cultivation and his imprisonment for 6 months, but Linquin interrupted her and said it was amazing. While the sect was fighting, Pure Young brought an ordinary person into the sect. Let her punish him. Nangonkian was upset and thought that even at this stage there is a struggle, the Dao sect has fallen. She looked up at Liu Mo and thought that his cultivation level was higher than the others. If he doesn't say anything, then even Linquin, who has completed core formation, won't be able to figure it out. But why is he just standing there? What should she do? She wanted to say something, but Linquin interrupted her again and said that if she didn't punish Pure Yang, then he would. He pounced on them and directed a stream of energy. A huge web appeared over Liu Mo and Chunyang. After looking at this, Liu Mo decided to act, and Chunyang, smiling, hid behind him. Liu Mo stepped forward and waved his hand, dispelling the cobwebs. Linquin was surprised and saw that Liu Mo was emanating a powerful aura. The old man and Nangonkian were surprised along with the rest of the sect's disciples and Chunyang. A powerful force continued to emanate from Liu Mo and Linquin thought, is this the ancestral realm? Is this really grief, or even higher? Incredibly, there had been no ancestral realm cultivators for 1,000 years. How did he do it? He fell on his knees in front of him and said that he was rude and insulted him. He asks him for generosity and forgiveness. Liu Mo replied that everything was fine. He came to help, not cause more problems. Linquin thanked him and Liu Mo thought that he had scanned the entire mountain. Besides the three of them, who have completed the formation of the core, there is only one more. The rest are either at the formation of the base or below. He asked Nangonkian, is there anyone here at the level of the original realm? She confirmed his words and said that the last such cultivator was in their world hundreds of years ago. Liu Mo was surprised and thought, no one at the level of the ancestral kingdom. Does that mean he is the strongest? Nangonkian bowed to him and asked him to help them again. As he sees, the seal on the gates of heaven has already been broken. Chaos has appeared again and the Tao sect has fallen. They no longer have the strength to stop it. They ask him to help the Tao sect and the whole world survive this disaster. Liu Mo asked, is there anyone else beyond the heavenly gates besides Chaos? She wanted to tell him something, but Linquin interrupted her and told her to wait. This is the secret of their sect. They can't just tell everyone this. She asked, is he an idiot? Without his help they would all have died. Does he think he is stronger? Liu Mo repeated the question, so what else is sealed behind the heavenly gates? She answered that besides the terrible monster, Chaos, behind the heavenly gates is the path to true immortality. After this, they entered the building and decided to resume the meeting. Nangonkian said that in order to open the gates of heaven and the great Kalpa this time, they specially invited the viceroy monks of the kingdom seeking immortality to come on to jointly discuss possible solutions. Since the almighty monks are here, they will soon overcome this crisis. She pointed at the old man and said that they had just met. It was Perfect Xuan Yu from the Tree Unity School along with Perfect Linquin from Longhu Mountain. She pointed to the woman sitting next to her and said that this is Fairy Mio Yin from the Misty Palace. These three are currently leading the three great schools, excluding the Kunlun Holy Land. Mio Yin looked at Liu Mo and thought that this young man was beautiful, like a celestial being banished to the mortal world. His appearance was impeccable, and his age was just over 20. It's surprising that he had already survived the destruction of the world. Linquin said that the great Kalpa of the Heavenly Gate is the secret to the realm of those seeking immortality, so let the governors of their 4 schools consult with their elders. But Chunyang has no right to attend. He has not studied the path enough. Chunyang got angry and exclaimed, what is he saying? Liu Mo stopped him and said that Chunyang was his friend. Linquin was surprised by his words and thought, did Almighty stoop to immediately help Chunyang? He's really lucky, he's so fawning over him. At such an important time, he better not offend Almighty, but he will definitely wait for the chance to remove Chunyang from Almighty. He bowed and said that he was so rude. Since this is his friend, then naturally no one would dare to make life difficult for the perfect Chunyang. Nangonkian turned to Liu Mo and said that he had just asked her what was beyond the heavenly gates, and she had almost certainly found some clues. She is sure that beyond the gates of heaven, in addition to the 4 evil ones, there is also a path to perfection in the true. Chunyang told her that he had treated her like his best friend for so many years. Why didn't she tell him such an important thing? Doesn't this mean that the spiritualized Kai is weak and the road to cultivation in the true is interrupted? Then Heaven's Gate is just a hoax. She said that this is her biggest secret in the realm of immortality seekers. Only the founders of the path of the 3 schools have the right to know this. Chunyang asked in surprise, how can this be? Nangonkian said that she didn't tell him this, not only because of his knowledge of the path. Even if she knew this path to cultivation, it would still all be in vain. This path was interrupted by 4 evil ones. Going there means going to certain death. Chunyang was upset and asked, is it completely destroyed? Everyone else remained silent and only Mio Yin confirmed his words and said that countless horrors lurk behind the heavenly gates. And not only the 4 evils, but also the guardians of the path. As they suspected, the guards of the path were undermined by the evil spirit of Hundan. This is a mythological creature, believed to be the embodiment of the primordial chaos from which the universe arose, one of the 4 evil ones. Xuan Yu said that he remembers that countless masters have never returned, but the strength of this spirit is constantly growing. Just when the kingdom of those seeking immortality was almost consumed, wiped out from the face of the earth, all the monks, starting from the original child, chose to abandon the path of cultivation in order to seal the heavenly gates in the decisive battle with the 4 evil ones, all for the sake of saving their last pure land. Linquin sighed and said that it was a pity that the heavenly gate was sealed, the road to cultivation in the true was completely cut off. Nangonkian said that however, now that the cultivation path is in decline, the soulful Kai has weakened, their abilities are mediocre, the century is coming to an end, they will not pass through the golden elixir realm. They shouldn't even hope for immortality. But the threat of the heavenly gates looms over them, so she hopes that at the decisive moment the masters will be able to help them protect the world on which the deceased masters laid their lives. Liu Mo frowned and thought that there was a great horror behind those heavenly gates. All he could think about was how to get closer to immortality. Of course, it was important to be saved. If the gates of heaven are destroyed, the evil spirit will destroy the world. He is afraid, he cannot think only of himself. After all, they're in the same boat now. He thought that from now on he would be able to live in peace. Who would have thought that because of one end of the world he would come to the other? He said that when it comes to the fate of the path, he undoubtedly will not refuse. He asks you to tell him everything that may be useful. They thanked him for his help and he waved his hand, throwing the bottles of pills onto the table. He said it was an elixir that he purified from having nothing to do. Let them take it, but only use it when absolutely necessary. They looked at the pills in surprise, and Lincoln thought that in their days, spiritual Kai is weak, the treasures of the world are negligible. To purify so many of the highest quality elixirs would require huge amounts of substrate, extremely cumbersome extraction methods. Nangonkian looked at the pills in surprise and thought that even her fire control was not enough to achieve blue heat, so she could only heal simple wounds. But these immortality pills are incomparably precious. Myo Yin thought that this master is not only the strongest, but he also knows how to refine the elixir. He gives out elixirs of immortality as if they were just trash. What kind of daring master is this? Liu Mo said that this is the simplest elixir. If they have better substrates, he can purify them. They thanked him and he thought, smiling, that it seems that being a master is not so bad. Suddenly the smile abruptly disappeared from his face and he felt that this box was getting hotter and hotter. Although they do not know the path so well, their horizons are broader in comparison with him. He should ask them what's going on. He placed a sealed box on the table and asked if they knew what it was. They immediately jumped up from their seats and asked where he found it. They need to seal this quickly. He asked in surprise, is this some special thing? Nangonkian asked, doesn't he know what it is? He replied that he did not know. She sighed heavily and said that there is Hunden consciousness inside. If it is released, it will awaken. Fortunately, the seals have not completely weakened yet. It was good that she ordered the adept to bring the artifacts of the Kunlun treasury to strengthen it. They put a box in another box and sealed it. After that, Nangonkian asked how he got this thing. The previous chapter told her that consciousness should only be kept by the great master, but he has been a recluse for many years and is not interested in worldly affairs. Liu Mo asked what is the name of this great master. She replied that in the time of Dharma he was a true omnipotent. Now in the era of the last true child, no one can compare with his talent. The distance to the Kalpa is no more than a hair. This is the celestial Kai Lion, Wang Xuan Yu. Liu Mo spat out water from his mouth in surprise and asked, Wang Xuan Yu. He remembered the first time he met his teacher and thought, is this the old man? His teacher, Wang Xuan Yu. Nangonkian said that 500 years ago, Almighty stood up to the evil spirit alone, but lost, and the spirit entered the heavenly gate. The last Almighty was seriously wounded, and the borders of the kingdom fell. Since then there is no hope for immortality, and he went into seclusion. But before leaving, he took away Hunden's sealed consciousness. She remembers that her teacher went looking for him. Unfortunately, the Almighty did not want to interfere in the affairs of the gates of the Celestials, and the teacher returned without achieving anything. Liu Mo asked where is he now. She replied that I think this is Kingluan Peak. He thought that this was the same place where the teacher contemplated the path. He remembered the image of his teacher and thought that this cannot be. He must be just a namesake. It's already clear that that old man is an ordinary Taoist. He doesn't even have spiritualized Kai. He remembered how he taught him to meditate. He told him to sit up straight, only then would he be able to control the Kai. He needs to direct his eyes to his nose, and his nose to his mouth, then he will see the mind. He remembered how in the hot summer they ate watermelons and relaxed, how they carried hay on their backs, and Liu Mo told him to be faster. He remembered how the teacher beat him with a stick for eating all the food in the cold winter. He became upset and Nangonkian said that Mr. Wang Xuanyu was seriously injured. And although Jingmai and Kai were damaged, his knowledge of the path is enormous. Within 100 years he should have already recovered. They will look for him on Yuking Mountain, maybe he is there. Liu Mo said that he was no longer there. She looked up at him in surprise and he said that he meant that he was not there when he traveled through the mountain. Recently, he had to cross the Yuking, and there, feeling that the seal was broken and impure Kai had leaked out, he sealed the thing without knowing what it was. Myo Yin said, since Mr. Wang was like a wild pie in the clouds, he could go to places where he had traveled before. Recently, the heavenly gates have weakened and the Hunden Kai fluctuates, causing a response from the seal. Fortunately, Mr. Liu Mo discovered this in time. They all agreed with her, and at this time in the office, Director Wu was dealing with the consequences. He threw the printed articles on the table and asked why this was still being discussed on the internet. Before they left, the Perfect Ones instructed them to cover up such conversations. Now this is the most popular request on the internet and Talk. Kyle said that the influence of the Conference of Immortality Seekers is too great. Even if they stopped the broadcast in time and blocked the bloggers, they could not stop the workers from recording it on their phones. If they canceled the broadcast, they still wouldn't be able to block all the uploaded videos. Everyone is sitting in chat rooms, on forums, videos are going viral on all social networks, and they can't stop it. While they were talking, Dahlia was watching a video of Liu Mo. She came across a video in which a man said that this year's Conference of Immortality Seekers spent a lot of money. Special effects like blockbusters, heroes fight each other while flying in the air. They say that the suddenly popular young man in white has extensive acting experience. His game amazed all the newcomers. Those eager for such fights began to sign up. She played the following video of a man showing a video of Liu Mo and saying that this video was really well done, but this kind of pseudoscience would have a bad influence on the youth. He hopes that the relevant authorities will be able to intervene, yet they want to believe in science. Director Wu said that since they couldn't block it, then they would influence public opinion. As long as the perfect great celestials deal with the crisis on Kunlun, they cannot burden them. They need to get things under control as soon as possible. Dahlia said that then a little later she would start the stream and say that due to weather conditions, communication outages forced them to suspend the conference, and the video on the internet is just a backstage of a new online drama. Director Wu agreed and said that with her popularity, most would still believe it. Kyle said that their official account will post that they are hosting the National Lottery live with Dai Mei. They will give away more than 2 million gifts, so they will distract the attention of the public. Director Wu said that would do too. Suddenly the ground under their feet began to shake and dust began to fall from the ceiling. Dahlia asked, "What is this? Is this an earthquake?" Suddenly the director's subordinate ran into the room and said that things were bad. There was an anomaly in the sky. The instrument readings were off the charts. They looked at him in surprise and he told them to look out the window. They saw dark clouds gathering in the sky and were very surprised. The director told them that no matter what happens, they must first ensure the safety of the population. Let them immediately inform all departments so that they strengthen control and restore order so that there is no panic. They obeyed and Dahlia said that Perfect Chunyang and Celestial Liu Mo were not here. Now that something is wrong in the world, they must do everything in their power. Kyle asked, "Is it all they can do? Let her stop joking. They are ordinary people with her. It is impossible to resist such a force." She resolutely said that they would do everything possible, and then whatever happens. She looked at Kyle and said that she would start streaming right away to distract everyone. She turned to the director and asked if he could contact the official channels and ask them to issue a storm warning so they could all go somewhere safe and not hang around outside. He agreed and told Kyle to follow him. He would be there to help. Dahlia looked at the thick clouds and asked Liu Mo to return alive. At this time, people on the street were looking at the sky and one of them asked what was happening. Why did it suddenly get so dark? Someone else said that just for a storm warning to be issued, they need to take shelter. Another person said that his things were drying on the balcony, so he needed to run quickly. At this time, energy accumulated around the mountains and Nangonkian said that this rumble meant that the Kunlun veil had been lifted. Chunyang said that although the veil is only used to prevent mortals from seeing Kunlun, it prevents them from entering here. But to break the veil, they need to use a full attack. But is it possible to destroy such a large field with one blow? The gate appeared in the sky again and began to open. Linquin said that the heavenly gate has appeared again. Within the time of burning with one smoking stick, it will completely open. Liu Mo asked what would happen if the gate was fully opened. Nangonkian said that in their time, the world is turbulent and the spiritual Kai is hazy. This gate has a very pure Kai. Once this breaks out, mortals will not be able to withstand such an amount of pure Kai, then all living things will be reborn, and people will die. At this time, people were stuck in traffic jams on the city streets. The driver looked out of the window and asked what it was. "It's not the end of the world." Another driver watched Dahlia's stream in which she said that there was a weather anomaly today. She recommends that they stay at home and not go out. According to forecasters, this anomaly will pass in the near future. The driver said that because of some simple anomaly they had to run home from work. Who are they trying to fool? At this time, Zhang Jin gave Dahlia a glass of water and said that she had been streaming for more than 2 hours. She needed to drink water and rest. Dahlia disagreed and said they should reassure as many people as possible. She looked out the window and saw that the clouds had fallen so low. She hopes Liu Mo will be okay. At this time, Liu Mo looked at the open gate and asked, "Is there any other way they can seal the heavenly gate?" Nangonkian replied that they could do it. The seal on the Shenfu box is overcoming misfortune. With this they can suppress evil spirits. Although it is a little shabby, who knows, maybe with the precious talents collected by her school over 1,000 years, they will be able to seal the gate. Liu Mo took out the box and said that it turns out they should use it somehow. Nangonkian stepped forward and told the others to follow her. They went down the mountain and she said they were there. The Great Circle of Kunlun is located here. It is used to suppress the gates. It is necessary for one person to be in the center and 107 people to direct spiritualized Kai there. Only in this way can they control this Great Circle. But once the circle opens, the spiritualized Kai will be continuously absorbed. If the gates of heaven cannot be sealed, she is afraid that all people will turn into mummies. Liu Mo said that ironically, he thought that there were many omnipotent people in this world, but somehow he became invincible. Now, when the great Kalpa of the heavenly gates is near, and not only his, but also the fate of all mankind is on the verge of destruction, what other choice does he have? Nangonkian and the others bowed to him, and she said that it would be an honor for them to fight side by side with him. They, bound by the bonds of the Kunlun path, will all enter this circle, and what is happening outside will be passed on to the two of them. Right now, the gate is close to the edge of the world, and when the true spirit of Hundan is released, the connection of the entire world may cause even greater turmoil. Outside the circle there will be a difficult fight. Sun Jifeng ran forward and told them not to hesitate like that. Isn't it like fighting several evil spirits? They still can't allow this creature to be released, otherwise their entire school will die out again. Nangonkian asked Liu Mo to stand in the center. They will be there to help him. Liu Mo stood in the center and picked up a stone from the ground. He said that this jade was so familiar to him, it seemed like he had seen it somewhere. This is jade of true power. At that end of the world there was also such jade before he crossed the border. Maybe this world is really somehow connected with that end of the world. Then Gonkian asked, is he ready? Everyone present sat down around Liu Mo, and he thought that now is not the time to think about this. He needs to deal with what he is first. He threw the jade on the ground and spread his arms to the side, receiving the kai from the cultivators. His body began to fill with power more and more. At some point he turned his gaze to the disciples of the sect and said that before, the great circle was supposed to gather the kai of all people into the body of one, and then rapidly expand his knowledge of the path to the maximum. The only pity is that with the exception of the Kalpa and the 4 golden elixirs, most of it is just the basics. If they all acquired immortality, what would the energy of the world be like? He looked at the box and remembered that not long before, Nangonkian had said that after they activated the Great Circle, they would first need to break the Shenfu seal and with the help of the pacified Hundan mind, suppress the spirit. And then they need to seal the gate, blocking the fusion of the true Hundan spirit and its essence. Then the true spirit of Hundan will be destroyed. Liu Mo wanted to open the box and said that then he would start. He wanted to unstick the seal from the box and said that Shenfu and the box are one whole, he cannot remove it. Nangonkian said that in order to remove the seal of overcoming adversity, he needs to take advantage of the Dharma of the Supreme Canon. Alas, the canon has long been lost, no one knows this spell. Liu Mo thought, is she just telling him about this now? Isn't the highest canon the canon of path and virtue? He began to say that the path that can be expressed in words is not a permanent path, a name that can be called. Rays of light appeared around him and the seal began to peel off until it completely separated from the box. Liu Mo caught it and the box opened, releasing a bright beam of light into the sky. Hundan got out of the box and laughingly said that he had finally come out. He will devour this world, he will devour everything. He headed to the gates of heaven and said that he had returned. Liu Mo said, food, don't even dare to do this. He chained him and Hundan asked who dared to stand in his way. He looked at Liu Mo and he said it was him. Hundan asked, does he dare to disturb him? Liu Mo said that now that he is here, let him not even think about running back to the heavenly gate. The bell in his hand began to grow larger and he said that it was the bell of pacification of the spirit. He covered the spirit with the bell and directed all his strength towards it, directing the bell towards the ground. At the same moment, evil clots began to fly out of the gate and Liu Mo turned his gaze to them. The bell fell to the ground and Hundan was trapped. He called them non-entities and asked if they really thought they could throw some broken bell at him. He will see how strong they are. Dark energy began to emerge from under the bell and headed towards Nangonkian. The energy wanted to take over her body, but she calmed her spirit and dark energy began to float around the sect's disciples. She said that they should all send all their spiritualized kai to Mr. Liu Mo. They will gather all their strength at one point, let them not hide their feelings. They agreed, but the dark energy was already heading towards Linquin. The evil spirit said that everyone else transfers their kai to the Great Circle, but he suppresses it. It is the little man who is afraid of death. He laughed and said that their feelings would doom them. The evil spirit walked towards Myoyin and she opened her eyes in fear. Nangonkian told them not to let Hundan take over their body, otherwise the consequences will be terrible. Myoyin concentrated and thought that in order to stabilize the Great Circle, she should not move, then she would give all her kai to Liu Mo. She will die without regret. Suddenly, a bright ray of light pierced the evil spirit and Myoyin called out to Liu Mo. The evil spirit Hundan looked at Liu Mo and quickly walked towards Linquin. Everyone was horrified at once and Hundan entered Linquin's body. He said that he knows his greed, let him accept it and become the most powerful man in the world. The end of the world will not touch him. He will be free to do whatever he wants. Linquin's eyes turned red and he accepted Hundan. He looked at his hands and said that this feeling is so good. So what is it like to have such power? Nangonkian told him to wake up. He is still strong in spirit. He can drive out Hundan. But he didn't listen to her and told her to shut her mouth. He should have been the head of the school. He worked hard for hundreds of years. Why on earth did they choose her? He began to insult her and attacked Myoyin. He said that he had been courting her for so many years, but she, an arrogant fool, still did not take him seriously. She looked at him in horror and said that he had gone crazy. Lincoln looked at the sect disciples and said that they are all idiots and non-entities. He, Lincoln, will be the ruler of the world. Liu Mo was watching him, but suddenly Nangonkian, who was heading towards Lincoln, passed next to him. Xuan Yu understood what she wanted to do and said that she couldn't do it. He did. She interrupted him and said that he was already an evil spirit. She raised her sword over him and said that death would take away his suffering. Lincoln laughed and grabbed her sword with 2 fingers. She was horrified and thought that this is not it. Lincoln told her that among all the celestial beings, he hated her the most. He deformed her sword and ended up breaking it. After that he shouted that she would die in the name of his great cause. He attacked her and blood sprayed from her mouth. His force threw her back, but Liu Mo managed to catch her in time. Immediately after this, Xuan Yu decided to bind Lincoln with divine bonds and a beam of light headed towards him. Lincoln grinned and wanted to stop it, but the ray of light suddenly changed its direction and began to bind his body. As a result, his entire body was shackled and thousands of talismans flew at him. Xuan Yu told him that he would entangle his body with divine fetters and the talisman of humility of spirit until he drove out Hundan. He's just a non-entity. He is so easy to subdue. He's trash, why does he need it? Lincoln's eyes began to fill with darkness and Liu Mo said that Hundan had completely absorbed Lincoln. His physical body should be completely destroyed. Holy swords appeared around him and he pointed it at him with the intention of driving out the spirit. But dark energy appeared around Lincoln, which broke the swords and repelled his blow. Liu Mo thought that Lincoln knew about the golden elixir, but he never thought that with Hundan's blessing, he could develop such terrifying power. He turned to the sect disciples and told them to listen to his order. Let them collect Kai. They channeled their Kai to Liu Mo and he began to transform it into a huge sword. He pointed the sword at Lincoln and wanted to behead him. Lincoln caught a glimpse of this through the crack of the darkness barrier and at the same moment there was a roar from the sword strike. Heavy dust rose and the students closed their eyes and Liu Mo began to wait. The talismans of humility of spirit fell from Lincoln's body and his head was already lying on the ground. Suddenly his body took a step and everyone was horrified. Lincoln raised his head and put it in place. He stretched his neck and laughed and said that although this body is too bad, he can still use it. Then Hundan healed the body and said that now he will destroy them. Immediately after that, he rushed from the spot and Liu Mo thought that this was bad. With a quick dash, he rushed forward and grabbed Nangonkian, saving her from the attack. She turned to him and thought that this was the 3rd time he had saved her. If he hadn't just helped her, she would have died from the Hundan sword. Hundan grabbed his sword and said that it was such a pity he was only a little short. Liu Mo looked at Nangonkian and said that they are not his rivals, he will deal with him. Let her take the disciples away immediately, otherwise if he devours them, they will become his food. She wanted to object, but he had already taken off and she thought, how could he defeat him without the great circle of spiritualized Kai? Liu Mo walked towards Hundan and met his gaze with black eyes. At the same moment he attacked him, but he managed to jump to the side and Liu Mo turned around, following him. Immediately after that he rose into the air after him and they descended from the mountain. At one moment, Hundan stopped in the air and Liu Mo stopped in front of him. Hundan looked at him and said that it was interesting, in his body he could smell the smell of those dead people. Since he didn't expect to meet one of their descendants here, he will kill him and take over his body in revenge for his ancestors sealing him away. Immediately after that, he attacked him, but Liu Mo parried his blow and they began to fight. Liu Mo parried his blow again and he said that his speed was good, but unfortunately he was still a step behind. Hundan pushed him and Liu Mo saw darkness wrapping around his hand. Hundan smirked and told him not to resist, let him be a good boy and let him absorb his soul. His body suits him so well. He will even let him watch how he will use his body to destroy this world. Darkness completely enveloped Liu Mo's body and Hundan began to emerge from Lincoln's body. Lincoln's headless body fell to the ground and Hundan took possession of Liu Mo's body. He said this body is so good. He is the ruler of the world. He laughed, and after that he descended to the ground to the disciples of the sect. From what she saw, Nangonkian fell to the ground and tears appeared in her eyes. She said that Hundan had absorbed him, the last frontier of the path that was destroyed for humanity. After that, 1,000 monsters began to descend to the ground and the students began to fight them. At this time, Liu Mo wandered in his mind and thought that the heavens are unkind, they treat everything that exists like grass. The sages are unkind, they treat all people like grass. Isn't it in vain to compare the space between heaven and earth with bellows? It is empty, but does not dry up. It moves and produces more. He who hoards knowledge will soon get tired, so isn't it better to stick to the middle? Hundan thought, what's going on? What is this burning power? Liu Mo thought that heaven and earth are eternal and inescapable due to the fact that they exist for themselves, which is why they can be eternal and inescapable. That is why a wise man puts himself behind, but finds himself in front, does not think about himself, and preserves himself. doesn't want anything for himself. Isn't that why he can find everything that's his? Rays of light began to emanate from Liu Mo's body, dispersing the darkness, and he thought that the earth was a model for man. The earth's model is the sky is a model, the way, and the pattern of the path is that which is such in itself. Immediately after that, he rushed upward and the sect members were surprised. Tears appeared in Chunyang's eyes and he said that it was him. This is the almighty Liu Mo. He was not swallowed up by Hundun, he is still fighting. Liu Mo headed straight towards the gate and Hundun began to separate from his body. He said that he didn't think he could free himself from his bonds, but it was all for nothing. Once he and his body merge together, there will not be a single person who can stop him. Liu Mo looked at him and said that then he would die. He released the energy from his body and the evil spirit began to dissipate. The Hundun spirit thought, how is this possible? Immediately after that, Liu Mo rushed towards the gate and Nangonkian asked in surprise, is he going to seal the heavenly gate? Liu Mo extended his hand forward and ordered them all to disappear. Immediately after this, he sent 1,000 talismans to the gate and it began to be sealed. Hundun asked why he has so many spirit dimension talismans. Liu Mo didn't answer and continued to seal the gate. But blood sprayed out of his mouth and he thought that he didn't care if the future didn't come because of the gate. Since the will of heaven brought him here, he will not allow the evil spirit to harm all things. He likes this world, he likes the people here. While he is alive, even if his body and soul burn, he will lock the gate. He directed all his power at the gate and sealed it. Time has passed. Dahlia looked out the window and saw that the sky had cleared. After that she immediately ran to the door and left the room. In the corridor she saw Liu Mo, who was walking towards her. He smiled at her and said that he was back. Tears appeared in her eyes from happiness and she ran into his arms. She hugged him and congratulated him on his return. After that she raised her head and their eyes met. There was not a single cloud left over the city and people looked at it with admiration. But still, somewhere the clouds did not clear and the huge eye of the evil spirit was watching them.